Chapter 1241. Behind Mu Yin, the cosmos barrier had already recovered. Mu Yin coughed twice. At this moment, a voice rang out beside her. "Your injury has worsened." Mu Yin laughed. "I won't die." After she finished speaking, she looked at the distant starry sky and softly said, 3 years of the fifth dimension tribulation, 3 years, should be enough for him. The God Palace. After the Pope returned to the Bloodshed God Palace, all the experts of the Bloodshed God Palace were dispatched. Tao Scriptures. After learning that the Pope had obtained the Taoist scripture, the entire Bloodshed God Palace was in an uproar. This was the #1 divine item in the Tao world. However, they also knew that it wasn't an easy task to protect this godly item. The Pope had just returned to the Bloodshed God Palace when the ancient temple's governor elder and the others rushed over. Apart from them, there were also several dozen self-release realm experts. Some itinerant self-release realm experts from the Tao world also rushed over after hearing the news. For a time, more than 90% of the Tao world self-release realm experts had gathered around the Bloodshed God Palace. Within the Bloodshed God Palace, the Pope's face was extremely unsightly. At this moment he became much more clear-headed. How could the Bloodshed God Palace defend against these self-release realm experts? Could it be that he had to hand over the Tao scripture that he had obtained? He was definitely not reconciled to this. At this time, the governor elder suddenly said, "Pope, you better hand over the item." The Pope looked at the governor elder and smiled. "Then who should I hand it over to?" The governor elder shook his head. "Don't try to sow discord, Pope. Before you hand it over, I believe that there will be no internal strife." The Pope suddenly looked at Jiang Yu and the others. "Everyone, I said before that after obtaining the Tao scripture, I would share it with all of you. I still have that thought." Jiang Yu looked at the Pope, saying nothing. The Pope continued, "Everyone should understand one thing, and that is, none of us can possess this Tao scripture alone. Only by working together can we protect this Tao scripture. In other words, we have to be united." Jiang Yu suddenly said, "Pope, how do you want us to believe you?" After a moment of silence, the Pope said, "I can swear to the heavens that if I go back on my promise, then let me die a horrible death." Jiang Yu hesitated for a moment, and then he turned around to look at the crowd behind him. "What do you think?" Everyone fell silent. In fact, they all knew that no one could possess the Tao scripture alone. It could only be shared. Jiang Yu understood the meaning of the crowd. He looked at the Pope, and the Pope looked at the governor elder and the others. "This sharing does not include you and your group." As he spoke, his eyes were filled with killing intent. An ancient temple. If there was no ancient temple, he would still have a chance to take the scriptures for himself. At the very least, he could only share the scriptures with Jiang Yu. Now he wanted the Tao world self-release realm experts to fight with the ancient temple. To him, the fewer Tao world self-release experts there were, the better. The self-release realm experts gazed at the governor elder and the others. They naturally rejected the ancient temple because it didn't belong to the Tao world and belonged to an outsider power. The governor elder's face darkened. At this time, the Pope suddenly said, "Kill." With that, he dashed towards the governor elder. The other self-release realm experts also charged at the governor elder and the others. The governor elder's expression changed and he quickly said, "Retreat." As soon as he finished speaking, he led the sadhus of the ancient temple to turn around and run. The Pope still wanted to chase, but the other self-release experts did not give chase. They weren't idiots, so why would they give chase? After all, the people of the ancient temple were all at the upper self-release realm. They just had to drive them away. All they had to do was drive them away. Once the people of the ancient temple fled, all the self-release realm experts gazed at the Pope. The Pope remained silent for a moment before he took out the book. At this moment, everyone's gazes converged onto the book. The Pope placed his right hand on the book and slowly exerted force. It didn't take long for the book to start trembling. A while later, the Pope frowned because he noticed that the book actually showed no signs of opening. Jiang Yu suddenly said, "Don't hold back." The Pope nodded and started to exert force. However, there was still no movement from the book. The Pope frowned and sized up the book. A short while later, his face fell. "There's a restriction." Jiang Yu walked over to his side. "Was it done by Yi Xian?" The Pope shook his head. "He doesn't have the ability to do so. It was probably left behind by Yi Qingji." Jiang Yu spoke solemnly, "Can it be destroyed by force?" The Pope sized up the book again and shook his head. "I'm afraid not. If it really was a restriction set up by Yi Qingji, if we destroy it by force, what if?" At this point he didn't continue speaking. However, everyone understood what he meant. If they destroyed it by force and something happened to the book, everyone would be in trouble. At this moment, Jiang Yu suddenly said, Yi Xian. The Pope spoke solemnly, he should be able to solve it. Let's go. With that, he led everyone and disappeared. They went to find Yi Xian once again. A monk suddenly appeared here when all of them vanished, and he glanced at them before vanishing as well. Sixth dimension, under the sacred mountain. At this moment, the Governor Elder's expression was very ugly. He had worked for the Tao world for nothing. Now the ancient temple was facing a huge problem, and that was the Tao world's revenge. If the Tao world broke through because of the Tao scripture. Thinking of this, the Governor Elder's expression became even uglier. He couldn't let the Tao world cultivate the Tao scripture. Moreover, the ancient temple's precious Buddhist scripture was in there. Once the Tao world comprehended the Buddhist scripture, the ancient temple wouldn't be a match for the Tao world. It could be said that the ancient temple had reached a moment of life and death. At this moment, he suddenly regretted not joining forces with Yi Xian. At least, Yi Xian wouldn't be a threat to the ancient temple in a short period of time. Now, the Tao world's threat to the ancient temple was fatal. At this moment, a monk suddenly appeared in front of the Governor Elder and whispered a few words. Soon, the Governor Elder suddenly laughed, and the gloominess from before was swept away. The Tao world couldn't open the Tao scripture. Upon hearing this, the Governor Elder almost burst out laughing. It couldn't be opened. If they couldn't open the book, wouldn't it be equivalent to not obtaining it? But very quickly, his expression darkened again. Because all the experts of the Tao world had gone to find Yi Xian. Yi Xian could open it. At this thought, the Governor Elder's expression changed and he hurriedly said, Gather everyone to the fifth dimension and protect Yi Xian. After saying that, he left with the few sadhus beside him. Inside the ancient temple, several powerful auras soared into the sky. At this moment, the Governor Elder only had one thought. He couldn't let Yi Xian fall into the hands of the Tao world. In the fifth dimension, Yi Xian suddenly walked out of the room. At this moment he had a head full of white hair. Fortunately, his face was still the same and there were no wrinkles. Yi Xian looked up at the horizon, and the corners of his mouth curled up. He was in a good mood. His heart was at ease. At this moment, his sword Tao attainment had reached a state of ease. Yi Xian suddenly pointed with his fingers, and a wisp of sword light suddenly appeared in the clouds at the end of the horizon. The sword light flew like a meteor. His heart was at ease and his sword was at ease. Although his current realm hadn't reached self-release, his sword Tao attainment had. However, he now had a fatal problem, and that was his lifespan. His current lifespan was less than a year. It could be said that if he didn't break through his realm as soon as possible, he would die on the spot in a year. In addition, there was another problem, and that was the problem of his realm. Previously, in order to fight against the enemy, he had forcefully broken through to the origin returning realm. It had to be said that there were still many drawbacks, and the biggest drawback was that his realm was unstable. In short, there were many problems. Of course, there was a bigger problem now, and that was the Tao world. Yi Xian looked up at the horizon and said softly, It's about time. As soon as he said that, powerful auras suddenly appeared at the end of the horizon. Upon seeing this, Yi Xian smiled and said, They came really quickly. In fact, he had already expected that the Tao world would return. Why? Because the people of the Tao world definitely couldn't open the study room. Since they couldn't open it, they would definitely come to find him again. At this time, Guan Yin appeared beside Yi Xian, and there was a trace of worry in her eyes. Yi Xian smiled and said, It's fine, I'll deal with them. After saying that, he turned into a sword light and shot into the sky. Soon he arrived in the starry sky. In front of him were the Pope and the other self-release realm experts. Upon seeing the Pope and the others, Yi Xian smiled. Clearly, the negotiations between the Tao world and the ancient temple had broken down. The Pope looked at Yi Xian and said, Open the study room. Otherwise what? At this time, a voice suddenly came from behind the Pope and the others. The Pope turned and saw that it was the Governor Elder and the others. Beside the Governor Elder, there were a total of 8 ascetics and 3 monks. The 8 ascetics were all at the self-release realm, and the remaining 3 monks were all at the self-release 1 realm. There were a total of 12 people. Seeing this scene, the Pope and the others' expressions turned somewhat ugly. What was the origin of this ancient temple? There were actually so many self-release realm experts. Based on the current situation, the ancient temple had even more top-rate experts than the God Palace and Immortal Pavilion. The Governor Elder glanced coldly at the Pope. Pope, aren't you embarrassed to bully the weak? The Pope remained expressionless. Didn't the Governor Elder bully the weak as well? The governor elder grunted coldly and then he gazed at Yi Xian. Young Master Yi, don't worry. No one can force you while my ancient temple is here. The Pope's eyes narrowed slightly. Obviously, the ancient temple didn't want Yi Xian to help them open the study room. Meanwhile, Yi Xian suddenly said, Governor Elder, I should help them open the study room. Everyone gazed at Yi Xian when they heard this, and even the Pope was quite stunned. When did Yi Xian become so nice? The governor elder's expression changed when he heard Yi Xian. What are you thinking? Yi Xian smiled with embarrassment. Governor Elder, look. There are over 30 self-release realm experts. I can't defeat them. If I don't open the study room for them, then they'll definitely use the lives of my friends to threaten me. The governor elder pressed his palms together. Young Master Yi, don't be afraid. With my ancient temple here, the Tao world can dream of touching a hair on your head. Today, young Master Yi lives as long as my ancient temple is here. The others were speechless. Yi Xian was speechless. Chapter 1242. Hearing the governor elder's words, the faces of the Pope and the rest darkened. On the other hand, the expressions of Guan Yin and the others became extremely strange. How did the ancient temple change so quickly? Previously, they wanted to get rid of Yi Xian like crazy. On the other side, Qian Mo looked at Yi Xian. At this moment, she suddenly thought of someone. Fifth-dimensional Tendo. Could this guy be related to the fifth-dimensional Tendo? Both of them were so good at conning people. At first, she felt that handing over the book house was a foolish move. But now, it seemed like it was a wise move. Handing over the book house would separate the ancient temple from the Tao world. Qian Mo glanced at Yi Xian. It seemed like she had to be more careful with this guy in the future. Not far away, the Pope looked at the governor elder. Sir, does your ancient temple want to become enemies with the entire Tao world? The governor elder smiled. Think about it. If you guys comprehend the Tao scripture, will you let my ancient temple go? The Pope looked at the governor elder, not saying a word. The governor elder looked at Yi Xian. We know what young Master Yi is worried about, but I guarantee to young Master Yi that no one can touch young Master Yi today. The Pope suddenly sneered. With just you? The governing elder looked at the self-release experts behind the Pope and smiled. Everyone, if our two sides fight, my ancient temple might lose, but many of you will definitely die. If I were the Pope, I would use this opportunity to reduce the number of self-release experts by my side. This way there will be fewer people to share the Tao scripture with. Saying this, he looked at the Pope. What do you think, Pope? The Pope sneered. You want to sow discord between us? The governor elder smiled. Sow discord? Pope, the people behind you are not fools. Do you think they will be used by you? The Pope looked at Jiang Yu and the rest. If we don't deal with the ancient temple, we won't be able to open the book house to obtain the Tao scripture. Everyone was silent. At this moment, they were in a difficult position. They knew that if they didn't get rid of the ancient temple, they wouldn't be able to obtain the scripture. However, if they fought the ancient temple, most of them would die. Besides, once they make their move, Yi Xian will join forces with the ancient temple. At that time, both sides will perish together. This Yi Xian cannot be underestimated. Seeing that everyone was silent, the Pope's face turned even uglier. Meanwhile, Yi Xian suddenly walked over to the governor elder's side, and he hesitated for a moment before he said, Grandmaster, I think I should open the study room for them. In any case, I Yi Xian don't want the bookstore. I just hope that everyone can give me a way out. The governor elder glanced at Yi Xian. Young Master Yi, don't pretend with this old monk. This old monk knows what you're thinking, and so does the Pope. Yi Xian's face was filled with black lines. They were all cunning old foxes. In the distance, the Pope suddenly said, Young Master Yi, I think we can talk. The Pope suddenly understood something. What if Yi Xian was willing to open the study room for them? Once Yi Xian was willing to stand on the side of the Tao world, what could the ancient temple do? Although the strength of the fifth dimension was inferior to the Tao world and the ancient temple, it still couldn't be underestimated. Once Yi Xian helped the Tao world, the ancient temple couldn't do anything. Hearing the Pope's words, everyone suddenly understood that Yi Xian was the key. If Yi Xian helped the Tao world, what could the ancient temple do? The ancient temple could only watch. The ancient temple naturally understood this. He looked at Yi Xian. Young Master Yi, the Tao world has the ambition of wolves. They wanted to slaughter the entire fifth dimension. The Pope sneered. Didn't you say that young Master Yi is the greatest threat and should be eliminated quickly? Was it you, Governor Elder? The Governor Elder said coldly, Of course. Now, my ancient temple will live and die with young Master Yi. Live and die with him. Yi Xian's eyelids twitched when he heard this. This old monk is really good at ting. He's even talking about living and dying with him. The Pope gazed at the governor elder. Master, you're not part of this world. How could you speak such shameless words? The governor elder pressed his palms together. Pope, no matter what you say today, my ancient temple will stand firmly on young Master Ye's side. The Pope stared fixedly at the governor elder. If his gaze could kill, then the governor elder would have probably died 100 times. Meanwhile, Jiang Yu suddenly looked at Yi Xian. Young Master Yi, what do you think? Yi Xian hesitated for a moment and said, I'm afraid of death. Afraid of death. The eyelids of everyone here twitched when they heard this. They naturally didn't believe Yi Xian's nonsense. Is this fellow afraid of death? As far as they were concerned, Yi Xian wasn't afraid of death. Meanwhile, Jiang Yu suddenly said, Young Master Yi, none of us here are stupid and we're clearly aware of what young Master Yi is thinking. I hope that young Master Yi is aware of what we're thinking as well. Yi Xian fell silent. He knew that it wasn't very realistic to want the ancient temple and the Tao world to perish together. Moreover, the slightest mistake might cause the ancient temple to join forces with the Tao world again. When he thought up to this point, Yi Xian smiled and said, I know what all of you are thinking. However, I'm powerless against this study room. Jiang Yu frowned slightly. What do you mean? Yi Xian gazed at the Pope. Pope, lend me the study room. The Pope gazed at Yi Xian in silence. Meanwhile, Jiang Yu suddenly said, Give it to him. The Pope fell silent for a moment, and then he pointed with his finger, and the study room flew over to Yi Xian. Meanwhile, the governor elder spoke abruptly, Young Master Yi, I think that the cooperation you spoke of is very feasible. Let's join forces to protect the study room and then we'll share it. Yi Xian glanced at the governor elder. Damn it. This old monk is talking about cooperation now. It's too late. Yi Xian gazed at the Pope and the others and he smiled. Don't worry, I don't have any other intentions. I just want to show all of you. As soon as he finished speaking, he issued a command in his heart, and the study room in his hand started to tremble. It didn't take long for a voice to drift out from within it. Host, your strength is insufficient. It won't be opened. It won't be opened. Everyone here frowned when they heard this. The Pope gazed at Yi Xian. What do you mean? Yi Xian smiled. I mean that my strength isn't sufficient, so I can't open it. The Pope's eyes narrowed slightly. Give it back to me. Yi Xian didn't give it back to the Pope. Instead, he pointed with his finger and the study room flew over to Jiang Yu. The Pope was instantly enraged. Yi Xian suddenly said, Your Holiness, is there any difference between giving it to you and giving it to Pavilion Master Jiang? The Pope stared fixedly at Yi Xian. Yi Xian smiled. I don't think there's any difference. Jiang Yu glanced at Yi Xian and then he looked at the Pope. Don't worry, Pope. I won't take this study room for myself. Once it's opened, I promise to share it with all of you. The self-release realm experts around Jiang Yu hurriedly nodded. Actually, compared to the Pope, they were more willing to leave the study room in Jiang Yu's hands. Because Jiang Yu seemed more reliable. The Pope suddenly smiled. Yi Xian, since you can't open the study room, then you're useless. Right? Yi Xian smiled. It's like this. If your Holiness wants to make a move, you can do it at any time. The Pope looked at the governor elder. Now you won't interfere, right? The governor elder was silent. Obviously, he didn't want to interfere. Since Yi Xian couldn't open the study room, the ancient temple naturally had no reason to interfere. Now he wanted Yi Xian to die. At this moment, Yi Xian's voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Governor Elder, do you really think I can't open it? Hearing this, the governor elder's eyelids twitched, and he looked at Yi Xian as if he was looking at a monster. Hearing this, the governor elder's eyelids twitched, and he looked at Yi Xian as if he was looking at a monster. In front of Yi Xian, the Pope suddenly wanted to make a move. At this moment, the governor elder suddenly shouted angrily, Stop! Stop! Everyone looked at the governor elder. The governor elder glanced at Yi Xian, then looked at the Pope. Your Holiness, this old monk said that our ancient temple will advance and retreat together with young Master Yi. The Pope frowned. Is there something wrong with you? Didn't you hear what he said? He can't open the study room. The old monk stared at the Pope. Buddha is merciful. Merciful. The Pope was so angry that he laughed. Merciful? Old monk, what are you talking about? Merciful? Are you kidding me? Jiang Yu and the rest had a strange look on their faces. Merciful. This old monk actually said something about merciful. What the hell? The governor elder said calmly, Your Holiness, God is merciful. With our ancient temple here, don't even think of touching young Master Yi today. In fact, he wasn't sure if Yi Xian could open the study room. But he had no choice and he didn't dare to gamble. What if Yi Xian could really open it? At that time the ancient temple would be finished. So he could only choose to help Yi Xian. The Pope suddenly wanted to speak, but at this time Yi Xian suddenly said, "Everyone, I feel that the most urgent matter right now is to quickly return and think of a way to open the study room. Because according to what I know, that Patriarch Di Linyuan should have already obtained some secrets of the Tao scriptures from that plain-dressed woman." Jiang Yu frowned. "What do you mean?" Yi Xian smiled. "What I mean is, if Di Linyuan breaks through, do you think he will let you read the Tao scriptures?" Jiang Yu said in a low voice, "There is also a possibility that the plain-dressed woman is still alive." Yi Xian looked at Jiang Yu. "Do you dare to gamble?" "Dare to gamble?" Jiang Yu was silent. He didn't dare to gamble. If Di Linyuan was really alive and he reached self-release or above, then they would all die. Yi Xian smiled. "Everyone, although the prophet is a genius, forgive me for speaking bluntly, but all of you aren't inferior to him. I believe that after everyone returns to the Tao world, if you can gather some special people or array masters, then there will definitely be a way to break the restrictions of the study room. So, rather than fighting me in the ancient temple to the death, why don't we go back and think of a way to open the study room and obtain the Tao scriptures?" The Pope stared fixedly at Yi Xian. "If you don't die, we won't be able to rest easy." Yi Xian smiled and then he said, "If you obtain the Tao scriptures and reach self-release or above, wouldn't killing me be as easy as snapping a finger?" The Pope still wanted to say something, but Jiang Yu suddenly said, "Return to the Tao world." With that, he led all the self-release realm experts and left. Now that the study room was in Jiang Yu's hands, he had the right to speak. And he didn't have that much hatred towards Yi Xian. The Pope's expression was slightly unsightly. Yi Xian looked at the Pope and then he smiled. "Does the Pope want to challenge all of us?" The Pope stared fixedly at Yi Xian, and then he turned and disappeared into the horizon. After the Pope and the others left, the Governor Elder looked at Yi Xian. "Young Master Yi, can you really open that study room?" Yi Xian's lips curled up. "Master, guess." The Governor Elder. "P.S. There are always readers sending me messy things in private. I'm really not that kind of person, so don't send it to me. Especially don't send it in the group, this kind of thing has a bad influence, do you understand what I mean?" Chapter 1243. Make a guess. The Governor Elder looked at Yi Xian without saying a word. Could Yi Xian open the study room? He was not sure. Yi Xian was very cunning. Yi Xian suddenly said, "Master, what you need to think about now is that we have time." The Governor Elder frowned. "What do you mean?" Yi Xian rolled his eyes at the Governor Elder. "First, they can't open the study room for now. Second, we have more time to think about how to deal with them. What do you think?" The Governor Elder hesitated for a moment and said, "What should we do if they manage to open the study room in a short period of time?" Yi Xian said seriously, "That's why we have to hurry. We have to snatch it back before they open the study room." "Snatch it back?" The Governor Elder looked at Yi Xian. "Do you think you can snatch it back?" Yi Xian smiled. "Are we just going to sit here and wait for death?" The Governor Elder was silent. Yi Xian said, "I have a way to snatch it back." The Governor Elder looked at Yi Xian. "What way?" Yi Xian said, "You should know that the study room has recognized me as its owner. I have a spiritual connection with it so I can sense where it is." The Governor Elder shook his head. "So what? Even if you know where it is, you can't snatch it back." Yi Xian smiled. "What if we work together?" The Governor Elder was silent. Yi Xian added, "Governor Elder, I hope you understand one thing. The Taoist scriptures and the Buddhist scriptures are in the hands of the world of Tao. If we don't work together, we will all die in the end." The Governor Elder looked at Yi Xian. "Young Master Yi, I'm afraid of you. You have too many tricks up your sleeves." Yi Xian shrugged. "If that's the case, Governor Elder, let's part ways here." Then he turned around and left. At this time, the Governor Elder suddenly said, "Young Master Yi, please wait." Yi Xian looked at the Governor Elder and smiled. "Governor Elder, is there anything I can help you with?" The Governor Elder said solemnly, "Young Master Yi, I think we can work together." Yi Xian said with smile, "I need to see the abbot of the ancient temple." The Governor Elder frowned. "What does young Master Yi mean?" Yi Xian shook his head. "Governor Elder, you're too timid and don't have enough courage. I don't want to talk to you." The Governor Elder looked at Yi Xian without saying a word. Yi Xian was about to speak when the space in front of the Governor Elder suddenly split open, and then a white-robed old monk walked out. Seeing this white-robed old monk, the Governor Elder hurriedly bowed respectfully. "Abbot." The person who came was the abbot of the ancient temple. The abbot looked at Yi Xian and smiled. Young Master Yi, shall we talk? Yi Xian smiled, sure. The abbot made an inviting gesture. Yi Xian also made an inviting gesture, and then the two of them walked into the depths of the starry sky. On the way, the abbot suddenly said, Young Master Yi, you're so young, but not only have you achieved freedom of mind and swordsmanship, your wisdom is also unparalleled in the world. You're truly one of the best in the world. Yi Xian looked at the abbot, feeling a little shocked. The abbot actually saw through his current attainments in swordsmanship. One must know that the governor elder, the pope, and the others did not see through it. The abbot said with a smile, Young Master Yi, I'm very curious about something. I hope young Master Yi can enlighten me. Yi Xian nodded, Abbot, please speak. The abbot said softly, As far as I know, there are some mysterious powerhouses behind young Master Yi. These people have mysterious origins and are very powerful. But why did no one come forward to help young Master Yi this time? Yi Xian smiled and said, Abbot, why don't you take a guess? The abbot shook his head and smiled, I can't guess. Yi Xian chuckled, Abbot, my family told me to rely on myself for everything. Rely on himself. The abbot fell silent. He naturally understood the meaning behind Yi Xian's words. He was saying that there was someone behind Yi Xian, and the reason why they did not take action was purely to train him, Yi Xian. Yi Xian suddenly said, Abbot, there's something I don't understand too. The abbot chuckled, Young Master Yi, please speak. Yi Xian looked at the abbot. It said that ancient temples are very mysterious. Can Abbot tell me more about them? The abbot fell silent. Yi Xian smiled and said, You can't say? The abbot chuckled and said, Since young Master Yi is asking, then I can tell young Master Yi. Young Master Yi should know that our ancient temples are all outsiders. Everyone practices the Buddhist Dharma, and we come from the Brahma Heaven realm. The Brahma Heaven realm is also known as the realm of ultimate bliss. Yi Xian frowned slightly, Brahma Heaven realm? Above the Tao world? The abbot shook his head, No. Yi Xian said, Please enlighten me, Abbot. The abbot nodded, There should be 4 places in this universe that young Master Yi doesn't understand. The first is the Brahma Heaven realm. That is the birthplace of the Buddhist Dharma. Not to mention young Master Yi, no one in the Tao world knows about this realm. The second is above the Tao world. Above the Tao world is the godly kingdom of Shumi. It is an ancient country that has been passed down for nearly 1,000,000 years. This country's royal family has the legendary ancestral blood, which is the ancestor of all bloodlines. The power of their bloodline is close to invincible. Saying this, he glanced at Yi Xian. Of course, young Master Ye's bloodline is also extremely powerful. Yi Xian smiled and said, Between my bloodline and this ancestral blood, which is more powerful? After a moment of silence, the abbot shook his head, I don't know. However, according to this old monk's guess, it should be the ancestral blood. Yi Xian smiled and said, Why? The abbot said softly, The ancestral blood suppresses all bloodlines. I'm afraid young Master Ye's bloodline can't surpass the ancestral blood. Of course, I don't know the specifics. In the future, young Master Yi might have the opportunity to see this ancestral blood. Yi Xian nodded, Abbot, continue? The abbot said again, The third place is the legendary Ascension Platform. It is said that this Ascension Platform is a world of its own, and inside this world is the Saha world. Rumor has it that the Tao scriptures came from this world, and through this Ascension Platform, one can reach the Saha world. However, this Ascension Platform is extremely mysterious because no one knows where it is. Ascension Platform. Yi Xian nodded slightly and made a mental note of this place, then asked, What about the last place? The abbot said softly, The legendary Milky Way realm. Yi Xian frowned slightly, The legendary Milky Way realm? Where is it? The abbot smiled, I don't know the specifics, but according to the scriptures of the ancient temple, the Milky Way realm is a very mysterious place. The reason why it's mysterious is because every once in a while, a few geniuses will appear in our universe. And these geniuses' behavior is very strange, very different from the people of our world. Whether it's the way they speak or the way they act, they are very different from us. And their thinking is also very strange. According to the records of the ancient temple's records, these people with strange behaviors all come from the Milky Way realm, and they all call themselves transmigrators. Transmigrators? Yi Xian blinked, Transmigrators? What do you mean? The abbot clasped his hands together, They are transmigrators. These people's luck is often extremely heaven-defying, and their cultivation and fortuitous encounters are beyond our imagination. It is like cheating. However, they are often suppressed by the Tendo because in the eyes of the Tendo they are outsiders, illegal residents. However, there are also some transmigrators who are extremely powerful and kill the Tendo. In short, they are a very special group of people. As he said that, he looked at Yi Xian. Actually, in the beginning, our ancient temple also thought that young Master Yi is such a person. But later we found out that young Master Yi is not such a person. Yi Xian was a little puzzled. Why do you say so? The abbot said with a smile, if young Master Yi is such a person, the Tendo of the 5 dimensions will never help young Master Yi. Also, young Master Yi's fate and karma is in this universe, we can still be sure of this. Yi Xian was silent. At this moment he thought of a person. The little girl with horns on her head. That little girl's behavior was very strange. Her clothes were also strange. Her speech was even more strange. That fellow couldn't be from the Milky Way realm, right? And that little white fellow. That little white fellow was also a little strange. The abbot suddenly said, actually there is another place, but I don't know whether that place exists or not. Yi Xian collected his thoughts and looked at the abbot. What place? The abbot said in a deep voice, the underworld. The underworld? Yi Xian frowned slightly. What place? The abbot said softly, the world we are in now is the world of the living, but it is said that there is another world, the underworld. And this underworld is right beside us, but we can't step into that world because it doesn't belong to us. And the people from that world can't enter our world either. Unless... At this point he suddenly stopped talking. Yi Xian was curious. Unless what? The abbot looked at Yi Xian. Only those who can see through all the obstacles in the world can see the underworld. So far, I have not seen such a person. However, the world is divided into yin and yang. Since we belong to the world of the living, then the underworld might also exist. The underworld. Yi Xian fell silent. It seemed like he would have to ask Mu Nianyan or the plain-dressed woman sometimes. Among the people he knew, only these 2 people might know if the underworld existed in this world. At this moment, the abbot suddenly said, young Master Yi, can we talk about how to deal with the Tao world now? Yi Xian collected his thoughts and said with a smile, of course. Abbot, my idea is very simple. We can't let the Tao world open the bookstore to cultivate the Taoist and Buddhist scriptures inside. What do you think? The abbot nodded. I have the same idea as young Master Yi. Yi Xian looked at the abbot and said with a smile, I know the ancient temple is afraid of me, but based on the current situation, the Tao world is the greatest threat to us. What do you think, abbot? The abbot said with a smile, young Master Yi, don't worry. While we are working together, the ancient temple will not do anything detrimental to young Master Yi. Yi Xian said with a smile, that's good. Abbot, to be honest, I have a way to take back the bookstore, but I need to reach the self-release realm to have the confidence to take back the bookstore. Moreover, after taking it back, I can open the bookstore. The abbot fell silent. Yi Xian said again, once I take back the bookstore, I will immediately open the bookstore and then we can share it. During this period, we also need to work together because the Tao world will definitely not let us open the bookstore just like that. The abbot looked at Yi Xian. The premise is that young Master Yi reaches the self-release realm. Is that right? Yi Xian nodded. The abbot stared at Yi Xian. When will young Master Yi reach the self-release realm? Yi Xian looked at the abbot and said seriously, Master, you have to help me. The abbot clasped his hands together. Amit Ba, young Master Yi, your tricks are deep. Yi Xian. Chapter 1244. At this moment, a trace of fear arose in the abbot's heart. This Yi Xian scheme was truly too good. Moreover, the ancient temple couldn't refuse. As if knowing what the abbot was thinking, Yi Xian suddenly smiled and said, Master, do you believe in me or the Tao world? The abbot was silent. Yi Xian said, when I Yi Xian do things, if people don't betray me, then I won't betray them. The abbot pressed his palms together. Young Master Yi, if you reach self-release, can you really take back that study? Yi Xian nodded. I can. The abbot nodded. Young Master Yi, can we meet at the ancient temple? Yi Xian pressed his palms together. Abbot, I have a presumptuous request. The abbot looked at Yi Xian. Young Master Yi, please speak. Yi Xian waved his right hand. The 2 red-robed monks he had trapped in the prison pagoda appeared in front of the abbot. The abbot was a little surprised. Young Master Yi, what are you doing? Yi Xian smiled and said, returning these 2 masters to the ancient temple. The abbot looked at Yi Xian for a moment and then smiled. Thank you, young Master Yi. 2 upper self-release realm experts were still extremely important to the ancient temple. Yi Xian glanced below and said, Master, I have some friends who have already reached half-step self-release. I believe that the ancient temple has a way to help them break through to self-release, right? For the ancient temple to have so many upper self-release realm experts, this definitely wasn't just a matter of talent. In many cases, besides talent and hard work, one also needed a good platform. Otherwise, no matter how good one's talent or hard work was, it could all be wasted. The abbot was silent for a long time and then said softly, "Young Master Yi, to tell you the truth, my ancient temple does indeed have this ability." Yi Xian smiled and said, "The ancient temple is afraid of me, so it won't help them break through, right?" The abbot shook his head. "Just the opposite." Yi Xian was a little surprised. "What do you mean?" The abbot smiled faintly. "Young Master Yi didn't forget the people around him at this time. This is enough to prove that young Master Yi is a person who values friendship and righteousness. I am very assured that our ancient temple will ally with young Master Yi." As he spoke, he looked below. "I will have the inherited martial monk head to the lower realms and have him help everyone break through to the self-release realm." Yi Xian smiled and said, "Thank you." The abbot glanced at the two red-robed monks not far away. "Just take it as thanks to young Master Yi for not killing us." As he spoke, he looked at Yi Xian. "Young Master Yi, as for you, your realm is not stable right now. If you want to break through, you must come with me to the ancient temple to study my ancient temple scriptures, stabilize your realm, and then try to break through to self-release." Yi Xian thought about it and nodded. "Thank you very much." The abbot smiled and said, "Young Master Yi, please?" Yi Xian smiled. "Let me explain." As he spoke, he turned and looked at Guanyin not far away. "Don't worry also, Miss Guan, you are very talented, so don't waste it. Take this chance." Guanyin looked at Yi Xian and nodded. "Okay." As she said this, she paused and then said, "Will you come back?" Actually, what she was most afraid of was that Yi Xian wouldn't come back. Yi Xian already had the strength to leave this universe, so she could too. However, she couldn't bring the Spiritine race away. Yi Xian smiled. "Of course." Guanyin nodded. "We will wait for you to come back." Yi Xian looked at Anlanxiu and Zhang Wenxiu who were rushing over. "Reach self-release." Anlanxiu nodded. "Definitely." Seven looked at Yi Xian. "I will definitely be faster than you." Yi Xian. Zhang Wenxiu walked in front of Yi Xian. "Be careful." Yi Xian smiled. "I know, don't worry, I will come back once I reach self-release. I said before that I will live and die with the five-dimensional universe." Zhang Wenxiu nodded. "Okay." Yi Xian turned and looked at the abbot. "Abbot, let's go." The abbot nodded. "Okay." Very quickly Yi Xian, the abbot, and the others disappeared into the starry sky. At this moment, Seven suddenly said, "Will those bald donkeys play any tricks?" Guanyin said, "They will." Everyone looked at Guanyin and Guanyin said softly, "They can let Yi Xian break through here, but they want Yi Xian to go to the ancient temple. They definitely have a plan." Hearing this, worry appeared in the eyes of all the girls. Guanyin said, "Don't be afraid, they have more tricks up their sleeves. The ancient temple won't be able to take advantage of them." All the girls, Yi Xian, the abbot, and the others arrived at the sixth dimension. Not long later they arrived at the foot of the mountain. The abbot didn't fly into the ancient temple directly. Instead, he led Yi Xian and the others towards the ancient temple. Yi Xian suddenly asked, "Abbot, didn't you say that outsiders aren't allowed to enter the ancient temple?" The abbot smiled. "You can make an exception." "Exception?" Yi Xian smiled. He raised his head and looked at the ancient temple. One had to say that he was quite curious. This was because the ancient temple was very mysterious. He wanted to see what was so mysterious about it. Not long later they walked halfway up the mountain and the abbot suddenly said, "Young Master Yi, are you interested in Buddhism?" "Buddhism." At this moment, the voice from the ninth floor sounded in Yi Xian's mind. "Kid, he wants you to become a monk, ha?" Yi Xian said with a smile. "Master, what is Buddhism?" The abbot smiled. "Young Master Yi, you can understand it when the time comes." Yi Xian nodded. "All right, I can understand it." As they spoke, they arrived at the ancient temple's mountain gate. The mountain gate wasn't big and was very simple. There were two stone pillars and a signboard with the words Ancient Temple written on it. It was very simple. Behind the stone gate was a Xiaodao made of gravel. At the end of the Xiaodao was a temple. The temple wasn't big, nor was it glorious. It was just a simple temple. The abbot led Yi Xian towards the temple. Along the way Yi Xian saw some monks. When these monks saw the abbot they would stop and bow. One had to say that Yi Xian was a little shocked. Because the monks he saw were at least at the self-release realm. Self-release realm walking around like dogs? Yi Xian was incomparably shocked. Was this ancient temple so terrifying? At this time, a monk wearing a black robe and holding a magic staff walked in front of the abbot. The abbot clasped his hands together. Jiwu, go to the fifth dimension and help young Master Ye's friends break through to the self-release realm. The black-robed monk looked at Yi Xian. His gaze was like a sword, incomparably sharp. There was a sharp killing intent coming from this black-robed monk. However, he wasn't afraid of this killing intent. Yi Xian had killed many people. Jiwu looked at Yi Xian and retracted his gaze. Then he clasped his hands together and turned to leave. At this time the abbot said, Jiwu, when you go down you must be courteous, understand? His voice was a bit heavy, carrying an invisible majesty. He knew that Yi Xian had an explosive temper. This guy was too sentimental. If Jiwu went down and had an unpleasant encounter with the people of the fifth dimension with this guy's personality, he would definitely explode. Once Yi Xian joined the Tao world, it would be extremely disadvantageous to the ancient temple. Hearing the abbot's words, Jiwu nodded and quickly disappeared into the distance. The abbot looked at Yi Xian. Young Master Yi, please? Yi Xian nodded. Soon the abbot brought Yi Xian to a small house. Inside the house there were only 2 praying mats. The abbot said, Young Master Yi, please? Yi Xian nodded and sat down. The abbot sat in front of him and took out a Buddhist scripture. He opened the first page and said, Young Master Yi, I will tell you about this Sanzang scripture. It is divided into 3 parts. I will tell you about the first part, reciting as I have heard, the myriad Dharma, the kind heart. Yi Xian's expression became somewhat strange. This guy wouldn't really want him to become a monk, right? At this time the abbot suddenly said, Young Master Yi, calm your chi and focus. Don't think too much. This scripture can stabilize young Master Ye's realm. Young Master Yi, please listen quietly. Yi Xian. Tao world. After Jiang Yu and the others returned to the Tao world, Jiang Yu did not go to the God Palace. Instead he returned to his old lair, the Immortal Pavilion. Of course, the Pope and the others followed closely behind him. Inside the Immortal Pavilion, Jiang Yu looked at everyone and said, Everyone, our top priority now is to open this study room. Please rest assured that I, Jiang Yu, am a man of my word. If the study room is opened, everyone will share it and not monopolize it. I don't have the ability to monopolize it. A self-release realm old man nodded slightly. We naturally believe in Pavilion Master Jiang. The Pope glanced at Jiang Yu and did not speak. Jiang Yu spoke in a low voice, If everyone knows any formation masters or extraordinary people, then feel free to summon them. I refuse to believe that no one can break through the restrictions set up by the Prophet. As he spoke, he gazed at the Pope and said, Pope, the God Palace and my Immortal Pavilion have a rather wide network of contacts, so I'll have to trouble you to do so. The Pope nodded, I've already notified the others. Some formation masters and warlocks of my God Palace are already rushing over. Jiang Yu nodded, that's good. The Pope suddenly said, I still feel that Yi Xian is a huge threat. Everyone looked at the Pope when they heard this. It was very obvious that the Pope still wanted Yi Xian to die. Jiang Yu spoke in a low voice, Pope, you have to understand something. That woman in a plain dress and Di Linyuan might have already obtained the Tao scripture. Don't tell me that woman and Di Linyuan pose a greater threat than Yi Xian? The Pope was silent. Jiang Yu continued, Our top priority now is to open the study room and then study the Tao scripture. We must strive to reach above self-release realm before that woman or Di Linyuan. Otherwise, once one of them reaches above self-release realm, we will all die. A self-release realm old man nodded. Pavilion Master Zhang's words are reasonable. Our top priority now is to open the study room and reach above self-release realm. The other self-release realm experts also nodded. The Pope and Yi Xian were mortal enemies, but they did not have that much enmity with Yi Xian. In their hearts, the Tao scripture was the most important. The Pope glanced at everyone and did not speak again. If he continued, he would become everyone's enemy. It was very unwise. But he knew that Yi Xian's threat was even greater than Di Linyuan's. At this time, some people arrived at the Immortal Pavilion one after another. These people were called to break the study room's restrictions. And among this group of people, there was a woman carrying a roasted fish. She was mixed in the crowd, but no one noticed her because she was too ordinary. P.S. I have laid my cards on the table. Truth be told, I am not an ordinary person. If not for me guarding this world would have perished long ago. Now, you all cast a monthly vote, that is planting good karma for yourselves. In the future, when this world's spiritual energy collapses and the Tao laws collapse, I can bring you all away. Good karma, a monthly vote is good karma, a profitable business. Why did so many people live ordinary lives? It was because they often did not grasp opportunities when they should have. Now with a monthly vote their future would be full of laughter. Chapter 1245. All of them entered the hall, and Jiang Yu had taken the book out. They naturally weren't afraid of others trying to take it from them. After all, they had over 40 self-release realm experts here. Who could take it from them? Meanwhile, a white-haired old man walked over to the book, sized it up and spoke solemnly, "Pavilion Master Jiang, can I scan it with my divine sense?" Pavilion Master Jiang nodded, "Of course." The white-haired old man nodded. His divine sense enveloped the book, but it didn't take long for him to notice that his divine sense couldn't enter the book at all. The white-haired old man frowned slightly and started to use force. Meanwhile, a powerful force suddenly erupted from the book. Bang! The powerful force blasted the white-haired old man flying out of the hall. Everyone's expressions changed. Meanwhile, the white-haired old man walked in and looked at the book with an extremely solemn expression. "Pavilion Master Jiang, there's an extremely powerful and violent force within the book. If we use force, then the book will probably be destroyed." Pavilion Master Jiang nodded. "We can't use force, so we summoned all of you here. I hope that all of you can think of a way to deal with it. If you can, then we'll definitely reward all of you well." The white-haired old man spoke solemnly, "We have to study it." Even the old man isn't completely confident. Jiang Yu nodded, "The book is right here. All of you can study it." The white-haired old man and the others nodded, and it didn't take long for them to surround the book. The woman with the roasted fish in her hand moved over as well. She looked at the book while occasionally nibbling on the roasted fish in her hand. No one knew what she was thinking. The self-release realm experts in the surroundings were extremely vigilant. Even though they weren't afraid of these people harboring ill intent towards them, they didn't dare to be careless. In next to no time, the hall bustled with noise and excitement. None of them noticed that the roasted fish in the woman's hand was about to be emptied. More people were rushing over from outside. It wasn't just formation masters, there were talisman masters as well. In short, anyone with some ability had rushed over. Around 15 minutes later, the woman in the crowd had finished her roasted fish. The woman dusted her hands and glanced at the surroundings. In the end, her gaze fell on the Pope. The corners of her lips curled up slightly, and she lightly twisted her right hand. In an instant, a strange change occurred. The surroundings suddenly turned pitch black. Everyone's expression changed drastically at the sight of this. A voice resounded abruptly at the instant the surroundings turned pitch black. "Retreat! Retreat!" As soon as this voice resounded, the surroundings suddenly returned to normal. However, the study room had vanished. At this time, a voice suddenly asked, "Where's the Pope?" Where was the Pope? Everyone looked at the spot where the Pope had been standing, but at this moment, it was completely empty. Seeing this, Jiang Yu's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Pope. With that, he and the rest of the crowd vanished from where they stood, heading straight for the God Palace. Somewhere in the starry sky, the Pope's expression was incomparably grave because someone had forcefully moved him to this place. He had no idea how he had been moved to this place. Who could it be? The Pope scanned his surroundings. The starry sky around him was very quiet. There was no business, no one. After a moment of silence, the Pope turned and left. His intuition told him that something was wrong. After the Pope left, a woman appeared on the scene. It was Mu Nianyan. Meanwhile, a voice resounded by Mu Nianyan's ear, "You can kill him, right?" Mu Nianyan nodded. "Yes." The voice said, "Then why didn't you just kill him?" Mu Nianyan smiled and said, "Idiot. If I killed him openly, then wouldn't those fellows from the Tao world join forces to search for me? Just think about it, they have almost 50 self-release realm experts. Besides that, every single one of them has their own trump cards to protect themselves. Especially the God Palace and Immortal Pavilion. Wouldn't I be in trouble if they called their ancestors over?" The voice thought for a moment and said, "That seems to be the case." Mu Nianyan smiled and said, "Besides that, if they notice that I can kill the Pope on my own, then wouldn't they become even more united?" The voice said, "Yes." Mu Nianyan grinned, "So, why not let them kill each other?" The voice said, "Will they kill each other?" Mu Nianyan nodded, "They will. Because this book house is very important to them." The voice said, "Can you open the book house?" Mu Nianyan looked at the book house in her hand and smiled, "What do you think?" The voice said, "If you can, then why not open the book house and obtain the Tao scripture?" Mu Nianyan smiled and said, "I won't walk the path set by others." With that she turned and left. At this moment, the voice said, "Nianyan, is that woman the only one who can make you feel danger?" Mu Nianyan shook her head, There are many dangers in this universe. It's just that I don't come into contact with them. As she spoke, she smiled and said, "You don't think that I'm invincible besides that woman, right?" The voice said, "Isn't that the case?" Moon Yin smiled and said, "If there's nothing wrong with my body," as she spoke, she shook her head slightly, "that's meaningless. Ling, or what do you think of Yi Xian?" The voice said, "Are you going to give me to him?" Moon Yin rolled her eyes at her right and said, "You're not a thing, so how can I say that? What I want to say is that if you follow him, you'll at least be treated well. Moreover, he knows that little white fellow, so you'll have a great opportunity in the future." Ling said, "I'll follow you." Moon Yin shook her head and smiled, "Fine, let's not talk about this for now." As she spoke, she seemed to have thought of something and asked, "Logically speaking, you're from that place, so you should have seen many experts." After a moment of silence, Ling said, "I haven't seen too many. In any case, in my heart, you're the most powerful." Moon Yin laughed and said, "I really want to go to that place of yours to take a look. But I have too many things to do." Ling hurriedly said, "You can't go." Moon Yin smiled and said, "All right." With that, she disappeared into the end of the starry sky. It didn't take long for Jiang Yu's group to arrive at the Bloodshed God Palace, and the expressions of everyone there changed drastically. Because Jiang Yu's group had clearly come with ill intentions. An old man bowed slightly to Jiang Yu, "Pavilion Master Jiang, what's going on?" Jiang Yu stared fixedly at the old man, "Where's the Pope?" The old man was just about to speak when a powerful aura suddenly appeared here, and then a man appeared before them. It was the Pope who'd vanished earlier. The expressions of all the self-release realm experts here turned gloomy when they saw the Pope, and their gazes were hostile. The Pope frowned slightly. "What's wrong?" Jiang Yu stared fixedly at the Pope. "Pope, where's the study?" The Pope's face instantly fell when he heard this. "It's not in my hands." Jiang Yu said angrily, "It's not in your hands. Are you joking?" All the self-release realm experts gazed at the Pope with hostile expressions. The Pope spoke solemnly, "Brother Jiang, the study really isn't in my hands." Jiang Yu gazed at the Pope. "You vanished with the study." The Pope spoke solemnly, "Someone forcefully teleported me away." A mocking smile appeared on Jiang Yu's face. "Forcefully teleported you away? Pope, aren't you going a bit too far with this joke?" The Pope's expression was incomparably gloomy. "Brother Jiang, someone is framing me." Jiang Yu was expressionless. "Why do I feel like you're making things up?" The Pope, Jiang Yu suddenly said, "Pope, out of consideration for our many years, I'll give you a chance. Hand over the study and we can pretend that nothing happened. Otherwise, don't blame us for being impolite." The Pope took a deep breath and forcefully suppressed the fury in his heart. "Brother Jiang, don't you know what sort of person I am? If I really did it, I would definitely admit to it, but I didn't do it. Brother Jiang, someone really is framing us, wanting us to kill each other." At this moment, Jiang Yu suddenly said, "Attack." After saying this, he charged towards the Pope. The people behind Jiang Yu also charged out. Kill the Pope. At this moment, this was the only thought in their minds. Anyone who snatched the study would become their mortal enemy. Seeing Jiang Yu and the others charge over, the Pope's expression instantly changed and he hurriedly said, "Get out of the formation." As soon as he said this, a powerful aura suddenly soared into the sky from within the Bloodshed God Palace. In an instant, the entire horizon was covered by all sorts of golden runes. These golden runes spun rapidly, and rays of golden light constantly shot out. It had to be said that this formation was very strong, but no matter how strong it was, it could not stop the dozens of self-release realm experts present. In an instant, the formation was destroyed by the combined forces of dozens of experts. At this time, the Pope had already retreated into the Bloodshed God Palace. Beside him were 7 self-release realm experts, all of them super experts of the Bloodshed God Palace. At this moment, the expressions of these 7 self-release realm experts were somewhat unsightly or rather solemn. Dozens of self-release realm experts. How could the Bloodshed God Palace resist this? With the Bloodshed God Palace's current strength, it was impossible to resist so many experts. Everyone looked towards the Pope. The Pope glared at the distant Jiang Yu. "Brother Jiang, if I obtain the study, why would I come back and walk right into this trap? Think about it carefully. Is there nothing strange about this?" Jiang Yu fiercely said, "Pope, who knows whether or not you are deliberately mystifying things to confuse me?" An old self-release realm expert also said, "Pope, the situation at the time was that you and the study disappeared together. Just now, you said that someone forcefully teleported you away. Let me ask the sword sect in the current world of Tao, who could forcefully teleport you away without anyone knowing. And now you say that someone is trying to frame you. Let me ask you, who do you think is trying to frame you? Is it us? The Pope solemnly said, it might be Yi Xian. Bullshit. At this time Jiang Yu suddenly said angrily, Pope, that Yi Xian is far away in the fifth dimension. How could he frame you? In this kind of situation you still want to frame him? Did that Yi Xian dig up your ancestral grave? The Pope's expression became extremely unsightly. Brother Jiang, I think it's extremely likely that it's him. You, Jiang Yu suddenly said, kill. After saying this, he directly led everyone towards the Pope. Chapter 1246. Seeing Jiang Yu and the others rush over, the Pope's expression changed drastically. At this moment he knew that even if he jumped into the heavenly river, he would not be able to clear his name. Someone had framed him and he had no way of explaining himself. In fact, this was normal. Back in the immortal pavilion, he had disappeared with the study room. Who else would they suspect if not him? Thinking of this, the Pope did not hesitate and turned to run. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the horizon. He was very clear that the current Bloodshed God Palace could not stop Jiang Yu and the others. Even if they used all their trump cards, they could not stop so many self-release realm experts. Run. This was his only way out. Seeing the Pope flee, everyone was dumbfounded. The people of the Bloodshed God Palace were also dumbfounded. The Pope had abandoned them just like that? Jiang Yu and the others had a savage look on their faces. What did the Pope's escape mean? It meant that they had definitely taken the study room. They had a guilty conscience. Thinking of this, Jiang Yu suddenly said, after him. Then he led the others in pursuit of the Pope. Seeing Jiang Yu and the others chase after the Pope, the experts in the Bloodshed God Palace heaved a sigh of relief. But soon their expressions turned ugly. The Pope's actions just now were truly heartless. He had been abandoned just like that. The experts in the Bloodshed God Palace looked at each other. At this moment they had many thoughts. They could not stay in the Bloodshed God Palace any longer. Soon the news of the Pope stealing the study room spread throughout the entire Tao world. At this moment, all the experts in the Tao world were looking for the Pope. Especially Jiang Yu and the others, they were practically going crazy. Six-dimensional universe, ancient temple. Inside the small house, the abbot was still explaining the Tripitaka scripture to Yi Xian. At first, Yi Xian had a headache listening to it because he really did not have much interest in Buddhist teachings. But soon he found it interesting. Buddhist teachings. This was also a form of knowledge and cultivation. Of course, it did not belong to his Tao, but there was no harm in understanding it. Moreover, this Tripitaka scripture could indeed help him stabilize his realm. Just like that, Yi Xian also tried to learn. Seeing that Yi Xian was willing to learn, the abbot's smile widened. At dawn the next day, the abbot suddenly put down the scripture in his hand and said, "Young Master Yi, let's have breakfast." With that he got up and left. Yi Xian also stood up. At that moment a young monk walked in. He was about 16 or 17 years old and had some baby fat. The little monk walked in front of Yi Xian and took out a set of gray monk robes for Yi Xian. "Young Master Yi, please change into the monk robes and remove the dust on your body." Yi Xian's expression was a little strange. "Little master, I'm not from the ancient temple." The little monk put his palms together. "Almsgiver Yi, please do as the Romans do when you enter the temple." Yi Xian was somewhat speechless. Did these guys really want to become monks? Yi Xian thought for a moment, then changed into his monk robes. He looked at the little monk and said, "Don't tell me you still want me to shave my head." The little monk shook his head. "Young Master Yi is thinking too much. It's not that easy to enter my ancient temple." Yi Xian was speechless. Soon Yi Xian was brought to the vegetarian hall by the little monk. It was a very simple and crude vegetarian hall. It was built with a few pieces of wood. The vegetarian food was also very simple, just some porridge and steamed buns. At this moment there were already 6 or 7 monks eating. Among them he met a familiar person. It was the old monk who first went to the 5th dimension to find him. Beside the old monk was a woman. She was bald and wore a monk robe. She looked very pretty. The old monk glanced at Yi Xian and put his palms together. "Young Master Yi." Yi Xian walked to the side of the old monk and said with a smile, "Master, I didn't expect to meet you again." The old monk nodded slightly. "It's really hard to say when it comes to fate." Yi Xian picked up a steamed bun and smiled. Then he looked at another familiar person, the Governor Elder. "Governor Elder, I feel that the current situation of the ancient temple is very dangerous." The governor elder glanced at Yi Xian. What do you mean? Yi Xian smiled. Once the Tao world opens the study room, we will all die. What do you think? The governor elder said softly, even if they open the study room, they won't be able to reach soul release in a short time. Yi Xian shook his head. They have already reached the limit of soul release. For them, they are just missing an opportunity. And this Tao scripture is that opportunity. The governor elder was silent. Yi Xian said again, Governor elder and everyone here, I know that everyone is afraid of me, Yi Xian, and feels that I am a threat. I just want to tell everyone that the biggest threat to you now is the Tao world. The governor elder and the others were silent. Yi Xian added, there is really no need to be wary of me. I am a good person. The governor elder glanced at Yi Xian. Young Master Yi, are you a good person? Yi Xian asked with a smile, have I done anything evil? The governor elder was silent. Although Yi Xian had killed many people, it did not seem right to say that he was evil beyond redemption. Yi Xian suddenly said, everyone, I will emphasize for the last time that your opponent is the Tao world, not me, Yi Xian. As he spoke, he looked at the governor elder. Governor elder, if you had cooperated with me back then, the Tao scripture would have been in our hands by now. It was your decision back then that caused the ancient temple to fall into such a passive situation. Then he picked up 2 steamed buns and turned to leave. At that moment, the old monk suddenly said, Young Master Yi. Yi Xian turned to look at the old monk. What can I do for you, master? The old monk put his palms together. Young Master Yi, each person has 1 steamed bun. Don't take more. Yi Xian was speechless. After a while, Yi Xian had already left the vegetarian hall. The monks in the vegetarian hall looked grave and did not continue eating. The Tao world. They had been worried during this period. If the Tao world opened the book house and obtained the Tao scripture and the ancient temple's most precious Buddhist scripture, it would be a disaster for the ancient temple. At that moment, the female monk suddenly said, he went to the back mountain. The back mountain. Upon hearing that, all the monks turned to look at the back mountain. Soon, the governor elder disappeared on the spot. Why did this fellow run around? The monks looked at each other in dismay. Yi Xian strolled to the back mountain. The back mountain of the ancient temple was very quiet. Moreover, it was early in the morning, so it was exceptionally quiet. Yi Xian walked in the Shaodao. At that moment he was very calm. He rarely took a stroll like this. Restlessness. He knew that he had many problems such as restlessness. Swordsman. Swordsman cultivated the heart, but most of the time, his heart was restless. Yi Xian looked up at the sky. There was a red sun. Facing the sun, he focused his mind. Yi Xian opened his palm, and a sword light appeared in his hand. His heart was at ease. His current attainments in the sword Tao were much stronger than before. It could be said that he could fight a self-release realm expert without the help of external objects. If his realm stabilized, he could kill a self-release realm expert without the help of any external objects or bloodline power. However, against experts like the Pope and the Abbot, he still needed the help of external objects. Yi Xian collected his thoughts and walked forward. Soon he arrived in front of a small temple. In front of the temple, a hunchbacked monk was sweeping the floor. The monk was somewhat old and his face was wizened, but he carried a trace of benevolence. At this moment, the sweeping monk looked up at Yi Xian. He pressed his palms together and bowed slightly to Yi Xian. Yi Xian hurriedly returned the bow and said, Greetings, Grand Master. The sweeping monk nodded slightly. Greetings, young Master Yi. Yi Xian smiled and said, Grand Master, why is it that the people of the world say that ancient temples are very mysterious? But after I entered, I discovered that the ancient temple seems very ordinary, perhaps even excessively ordinary? The sweeping monk smiled. Not knowing makes it seem mysterious. Yi Xian asked, Then why does the ancient temple forbid outsiders from coming here? The sweeping monk shook his head. We don't forbid others from coming here, but many people think that we do. Yi Xian fell silent. The sweeping monk continued, There are many monks in the ancient temple who came from the outside. Of course, we do not allow people with evil intentions to come here. Yi Xian pointed at himself. Grand Master, do you think I'm good or evil? The sweeping monk smiled. Young Master Yi is not an evil person. Yi Xian smiled. Since I'm not an evil person, why does the ancient temple want to kill me? The sweeping monk chuckled. He pointed at a chicken pecking rice not far away and said, Young Master Yi, have you ever eaten chicken? Yi Xian nodded. I have. The monk who was sweeping the floor asked, Did that chicken do anything evil? Yi Xian fell silent. The sweeping monk chuckled. Young Master Yi, this world is very complicated. Most of the time, good isn't really good and evil isn't really evil either. As he said that, he placed the broom to the side, clasped his hands together and said softly, "The current rule of the world is that the strong are respected, and the strong set the rules. Good and evil are just tools used by the strong to enslave the people of the world. Furthermore, many people in this world have a serious double standard. Those who benefit them are good, and those who harm them are evil. This also includes our ancient temple." Including the ancient temple. Yi Xian looked at the sweeping monk and was a little shocked. Was he criticizing the ancient temple? The sweeping monk smiled. "Wrong is wrong, right is right. There's nothing to hide." Yi Xian smiled. "Grandmaster, you're different from other monks." The sweeping monk shook his head. "They think too much, but they ignore our original intentions." As he said that, he looked at Yi Xian. "Young Master Yi, do you know what karma is about you?" Yi Xian nodded. "I know." The sweeping monk said softly, "Young Master, yes, karma is so complicated that it's really rare." Yi Xian said in a deep voice, "Is it very rare?" The sweeping monk nodded. "The prophet's karma is not bad, but the other two karma?" Yi Xian clasped his hands together. "Grandmaster, don't Buddhists pay particular attention to expiation? Can Grandmaster resolve my karma and let me become a normal person?" The sweeping monk hurriedly shook his head. "Young Master Yi, please don't joke around. Your karma is too terrifying. This old monk doesn't dare to interfere." Yi Xian said seriously, "Shouldn't people outside of this world be compassionate?" The old monk clasped his hands together. "That's right, but you can't sacrifice me to save you." Yi Xian. P.S. Please buy a monthly ticket. This month is coming to an end. Just a guaranteed monthly ticket would do. Chapter 1247. Yi Xian fell silent. The old monk in front of him was not ordinary at all. Firstly, he could not sense the other party's aura. In front of him, the other party was like an ordinary person. Even the abbot did not give him such a feeling. Yi Xian looked at the old monk and said with a smile, "Master, what you mean is that if you are willing to risk your life, you can remove the karma on me, right?" The old monk hurriedly shook his head. No, this old monk can't do it." Yi Xian was speechless. The old monk sized up Yi Xian and then said softly, "Young Master Yi, your karma is too complicated. This old monk doesn't even dare to investigate it, much less interfere." As he said that, he clasped his hands together. Young Master Yi is not an ordinary person. Yi Xian fell silent. Karma. His life revolved around these two words. The old monk suddenly said, "Young Master Yi, this old monk has something to say. I wonder if young Master Yi would be willing to listen." Yi Xian said with a smile, "Master, please speak." The old monk nodded and said softly, "Young Master Yi, we Buddhists also pay attention to the cycle of karma. Although many of the Buddhist teachings cannot remove the karma on young Master Yi, it is still beneficial to young Master Yi. Young Master Yi should study it more." Yi Xian suddenly said, "Master, I heard that this Buddhist teachings originate from the realm of ultimate bliss?" The old monk nodded. "Yes." Yi Xian smiled and said, "Are the people from the realm of ultimate bliss very strong?" The old monk smiled. "Young Master Yi, what do you think is strong? Like the plain-dressed woman?" Yi Xian was a little surprised. "Master, you know her?" The old monk nodded. "I know. She's very strong." Yi Xian looked at the old monk. "Master, can you beat her?" The old monk shook his head. "I can't." Just as Yi Xian was about to say something, the old monk suddenly took out a yellowed ancient book and handed it to Yi Xian. "Young Master Yi, it's fate that we met. I'll give this to you. I hope it can help you." Yi Xian hesitated for a moment and then he said, "How could I?" The old monk smiled and said, "I heard that young Master Yi imprisoned 2 monks from my ancient temple, but he didn't kill them. Instead he returned them. One of them is related to me." Yi Xian thought for a while. Then he said, "Thanks a lot." With that said, he took the yellowed ancient book and glanced at it. There were 4 faded black words on the ancient book. Vajrabuddha body. Vajrabuddha body. Yi Xian frowned slightly. He looked up and at that moment the old monk had disappeared. Seeing this scene, Yi Xian's expression instantly became solemn. How did the old monk disappear? At this moment, the voice from the 9th floor suddenly sounded in Yi Xian's mind. "You've met an expert." An expert? Yi Xian looked around but he still didn't see the old monk. With his current strength, the old monk was still able to disappear without a trace in front of him. It had to be said that this was too abnormal. As if thinking of something, Yi Xian looked down at the ancient book. Vajrabuddha body? Did it cultivate the physical body? Yi Xian was about to open it when he heard footsteps coming from behind him. Yi Xian turned around. It was the abbot. The abbot clasped his hands together. "Young Master Yi, you met him?" Yi Xian blinked. "The old monk sweeping the floor?" The abbot nodded. Yi Xian nodded. "I did. Yes. Master Abbot, who is this master sweeping the floor?" A complicated look flashed in the abbot's eyes. "He's a senior from my ancient temple. We only know that he's in the ancient temple, but after that, no one from my ancient temple has seen him. I never expected that he would actually come out to meet young Master Yi today." Yi Xian was a little surprised. "Only Master Abbot has seen him before?" The abbot nodded. "Yes." Yi Xian fell silent. It looked like he had really met an expert. The abbot suddenly looked at the yellowed ancient book in Yi Xian's hands. He hesitated for a moment before saying, "Young Master Yi, can I have a look at it?" Yi Xian nodded. He handed the Buddhist scripture to the abbot. The abbot opened it and glanced at it. A moment later, he looked at Yi Xian and said softly, "Young Master Yi has such good fortune." Yi Xian asked, "Why do you say that?" A complicated look flashed in the abbot's eyes. "This is our ancient temple's supreme physical cultivation method. It was brought by ancestral master Mo Luo from the realm of Western Paradise. This cultivation method has been lost for tens of thousands of years. I never expected it to appear again today." Yi Xian blinked. "Is it very powerful?" The abbot nodded. "The Vajra Buddha body is impervious to all evils and impervious to all karma." Yi Xian asked in a deep voice, "Can it break the karma on my body?" The abbot hesitated for a moment before saying, "Perhaps impervious to all karma is a little exaggerated." Yi Xian was speechless. The abbot handed the Buddhist scripture to Yi Xian. "Young Master Yi, since the senior gave this to you, it means that he has acknowledged you. Since he acknowledged you, then my ancient temple will also acknowledge you. My ancient temple will do our best to help young Master Yi cultivate this Vajra Buddha body." Yi Xian said seriously, "Can we begin now?" The abbot nodded. "Yes. Young Master Yi, please follow me." With that he turned and left. Yi Xian glanced at the Buddhist scripture in his hand. His eyes were filled with surprise. Why would that old monk give me such a divine item for no reason? Could it be that I'm too outstanding? Yi Xian shook his head. He didn't want to think too much about it and hurriedly followed. Soon the abbot brought Yi Xian to the ancient temple's martial arts hall. The martial arts hall wasn't big and there was a monk in a black robe inside. The black-robed monk bowed respectfully to the abbot. The abbot said, "Jiju, this is young Master Yi. He will be cultivating with us here during this period of time." The black-robed monk called Jiju bowed slightly to Yi Xian. "Young Master Yi." Yi Xian returned the bow. The abbot looked at Yi Xian. He hesitated for a moment before saying, "Young Master Yi, if my ancient temple helps you cultivate the Vajra protection, can young Master Yi allow my ancient temple to make a copy of it and leave it in the temple?" Yi Xian glanced at the abbot. So this was the abbot's real purpose. Yi Xian smiled. Of course. He'd obtained some benefits, so he naturally had to share some with the abbot. In any case, he'd already gained a lot. Seeing that Yi Xian had agreed, the abbot pressed his palms together. "Thank you, young Master Yi." That was given to Yi Xian by the old monk. If Yi Xian didn't agree, then the abbot wouldn't dare to take it by force. Only he knew what the old monk meant to the ancient temple. The abbot collected his thoughts. He took out a box and opened it. Inside the box was a golden pill. As soon as the box was opened, a fragrant aroma wafted out. Soon the entire martial arts hall was filled with the aroma of the pill. Yi Xian was a little surprised. "Master Abbot, what is this?" The abbot smiled. "Buddha Spirit Pill. It can purify the dust on young Master Ye's body, allowing young Master Yi to better cultivate the Vajra Buddha body." Yi Xian blinked. "For me?" The abbot nodded. He handed the pill to Yi Xian. Yi Xian didn't stand on ceremony. He picked it up and ate it. He wasn't afraid of the other party playing any tricks. In any case, Xiaotao was here. Whether the other party tried to poison him or possess him, there was no chance. As soon as the Buddha pill entered his body, a wave of pure spirit chi suddenly erupted from his body. This spirit chi was different from the spirit chi he had come into contact with before. This spirit chi began to wander around his body. At this moment he felt warm all over and very comfortable. Yi Xian looked at the abbot. The abbot smiled. When a person is in the placenta, they absorb Xiantian qi. This Xiantian qi is incomparably pure. Therefore, newborn babies have fair skin and pure bodies. After they are born, they eat grains and are contaminated with dust. The magical effect of this pill is to remove the dust and restore Xiantian qi. If you have Xiantian Qi in your body, cultivating the Vajrabuddha body will be twice the result with half the effort. Yi Xian asked in a deep voice, Master Abbot, this pill is very precious, right? The abbot nodded. Very precious. It takes about 10 years to refine one pill. Yi Xian blinked. Master, can I take a look at the pill formula? To tell you the truth, I also do some research on the Tao of medicinal pills. The abbot hesitated for a moment, then said, This, Yi Xian said in a serious tone, if Master has any difficulties it's all right. I understand. I'll just ask for it from the Master sweeping the floor. The abbot looked at Yi Xian. What did the old man say to you? Yi Xian smiled. Nothing much. He just asked me to meet him there when I'm free. The abbot fell silent. Yi Xian said again, Master Abbot, you know that we hit it off the moment we met. The abbot suddenly took out a scroll and handed it to Yi Xian. Young Master Yi, take it. Yi Xian took the scroll and then he said, Master, is this the medicinal pills formula and refinement method? The abbot nodded. Yes. Yi Xian kept the scroll and clasped his hands together. Thank you, Master, for your generosity. The abbot glanced at Yi Xian. At this moment he was feeling a little regretful. His original plan was to let Yi Xian join the ancient temple. It would be best if he could become a monk. If Yi Xian became a part of the ancient temple, it would be a win-win situation for the ancient temple. Not only would there be one less threat, but the ancient temple would also gain a super genius. Most importantly, this super genius would be able to open the study room, killing 3 birds with 1 stone. But at this moment he suddenly realized that if Yi Xian joined the ancient temple, it might not necessarily be a good thing. This guy was too shameless. Although the monks in the temple were not stupid, they were definitely no match for Yi Xian when it came to scheming. At this moment Yi Xian suddenly said, Master Abbot, can we begin? The abbot looked at Yi Xian and nodded. Of course. Young Master Yi, how do you feel now? Yi Xian sensed his body and said in a deep voice, I feel some qi flowing in my body. No, it's in all my limbs and bones. The abbot smiled. That's innate qi. As he said that, he clasped his hands together. In an instant, a Buddhist light suddenly enveloped Yi Xian. Then the abbot's voice sounded in Yi Xian's mind. Young Master Yi, under normal circumstances, you need to cultivate the power of Dharma and use it to temper your body. However, you can't cultivate the power of Dharma in a short period of time. Therefore, I can only use my power of Dharma to help you temper your body. Please cooperate. With that, countless golden power of Dharma surged into Yi Xian's body. Chapter 1248. Vajrabuddha Body. This was a Buddhist body cultivation method. It used the Buddhist Dharma to temper the body. It was a unique style of body cultivation method. At this time the abbot's voice suddenly sounded in Yi Xian's mind, Young Master Yi, the Vajra Dharma, unheartedness, 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 6 earthly 10,000 arts, is indestructible. Therefore one's nature is indestructible. One's nature is like a Vajra. Even if one gathers billions of divine powers, it will not be able to destroy it. Therefore, the Vajrabuddha body is also known as the Vajra heart. It means that it is incomparably sturdy, able to break through the confusion in one's heart and see one's true self. In addition, those with the Vajrabuddha body have no karma and will not fall into samsara after death. Hearing this, Yi Xian looked at the abbot. No karma and no karma? Will not fall into samsara? The abbot nodded, yes. The Vajra heart is invincible. Yi Xian's expression was a little strange. Invincible. Can it break the karma in my body? Yi Xian shook his head. He looked a little worried. At this time the abbot said, Young Master Yi, in the records of our ancient temple, this Vajrabuddha body is second only to the infinite Buddha indestructible body in the realm of ultimate bliss. If you successfully cultivate the Vajra body, even I will not be able to hurt you. Hearing this, Yi Xian's expression changed. It's that strong? The abbot shook his head. Originally it wasn't that strong, but young Master Yi is different. This is because young Master Ye's body is extremely strong. Moreover, young Master Ye's body is very special, possessing all kinds of physiques. Coupled with this Vajra body, it can be said that young Master Ye's body will reach a very terrifying level. I can't estimate this level, but in any case, it will definitely be very strong. Yi Xian smiled. I'm looking forward to it. The abbot smiled. Young Master Yi will not be disappointed. Young Master Yi, you can now circulate the Vajrabuddha body and let the Dharma protector circulate in your body. As he spoke, he put his palms together. Soon, more and more Dharma power flowed into Yi Xian's body. Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. The Vajrabuddha body was already in his mind. He didn't really understand it, but he just had to follow it. Soon Yi Xian's body suddenly trembled, and at the same time, a golden light enveloped the entire martial practice hall. Amidst the golden light, the abbot continuously used his dharma to temper Yi Xian's body. At the same time, Yi Xian's body was also slowly changing. Union Hall. When Zhaohua suddenly walked out of the hall and came to the little pavilion where Tendo was. When Zhaohua looked at the sixth dimension Tendo, he's in the ancient temple. The sixth dimension Tendo nodded. I know. When Zhaohua said solemnly, the ancient temple has joined forces with him. The sixth dimension Tendo laughed and said, isn't this a very normal thing? When Zhaohua looked at the sixth dimension Tendo, what should we do now? The sixth dimension Tendo said softly, wait. When Zhaohua frowned slightly, you mean it's not over yet? The sixth dimension Tendo shook her head, it's just begun. As she spoke, she turned to look at the sky with a trace of worry in her eyes. I'm not worried about the Tao world nor the ancient temple. I'm worried about that woman. When Zhaohua asked, the woman in the plain dress? The sixth dimension Tendo said softly, Mu Nian Yen. When Zhaohua frowned slightly, the fifth dimension Tendo? The sixth dimension Tendo nodded, I don't know what her real intentions are. When Zhaohua said solemnly, are you afraid of her? The sixth dimension Tendo looked at When Zhaohua, what feeling does she give you? When Zhaohua hesitated and said, no sense of existence. No sense of existence. The sixth dimension Tendo shook her head and smiled, this is what makes her terrifying. When Zhaohua said solemnly, I feel that Yi Xian and the Tao world pose the greatest threat to us now. The sixth dimension Tendo smiled, you're wrong. First, we don't have to worry about Yi Xian. This person's nature is not evil. As long as we don't harm the fifth dimension, he won't be our enemy. As for the Tao world, I don't think it's that easy for them to obtain the Tao scripture. This matter is still very complicated. As she spoke, she looked at Wen Zhaohua, don't underestimate Mu Nian Yen. When Zhaohua nodded, all right. The sixth dimension Tendo said softly, I hope everything will pass as soon as possible. When Zhaohua glanced at the sixth dimension Tendo and smiled bitterly in her heart. She knew the sixth dimension Tendo's character. He had no desires and only wanted peace. Unfortunately, it was very difficult. The Tao world. The current Tao world was also very chaotic. Everyone was searching for the Pope, especially Jiang Yu and the others. They were searching for the Pope like crazy. And the Bloodshed God Palace had already been disbanded. The Pope had abandoned the Bloodshed God Palace and fled. This made the experts of the Bloodshed God Palace disheartened. Of course, more importantly, they felt that the Bloodshed God Palace was in great danger. Who could guarantee that Jiang Yu and the others wouldn't come and destroy the Bloodshed God Palace? No one had expected that the once powerful Bloodshed God Palace would vanish in a single night. Somewhere in the depths of the starry sky, the Pope was frantically fleeing. Although he couldn't beat Jiang Yu and the others if he kept running, Jiang Yu and the others really couldn't do anything to him. After all, he was an ultimate self-release expert. In the starry sky, the Pope's expression was incomparably ugly. He knew that he'd been tricked. But he didn't know who had tricked him. In truth, he'd been very panic-stricken during this period of time. Because the other party had been able to move him away without a trace. How terrifying was this person's strength? In the entire Tao world, he couldn't think of anyone with such strength. There were people in the Tao world who could beat him, but no one could move him away without a trace. Who could it be? The Pope had been pondering this question for the past few days. Yi Xian? He had suspected Yi Xian, but he quickly rejected this idea. Although Yi Xian was monstrous, he still didn't have this kind of strength. If it wasn't Yi Xian, then who could it be? At this time, the starry sky behind the Pope suddenly trembled. The Pope's expression changed, and he directly disappeared into the depths of the starry sky. Not long after the Pope disappeared, Jiang Yu and the others appeared. There were a total of 40 self-release experts. It had to be said that this lineup was truly heaven-defying. Seeing the Pope disappear once more, Jiang Yu and the others' expressions became terrifyingly savage. He suddenly turned his head. Everyone, we can't stop. If we stop, this person will very likely open the library and obtain the Tao scripture. If we let him break through to the self-release realm, we'll all die. Chase him. Hack him to death. Finished speaking, he directly rushed out. The other self-release realm experts also hurriedly charged out. Bloodshed God Palace. At this time, most of the people in the Bloodshed God Palace had already fled, and it was extremely deserted. On this day, a woman arrived at the Bloodshed God Palace. The newcomer was none other than Moon Yin. Moon Yin held a grilled fish in each hand. She strolled leisurely, looking very satisfied. Before long, Moon Yin arrived at the Bloodshed God Palace's shrine. This place was originally a restricted area because many of the Bloodshed God Palace's ancestors and experts were buried here. But now anyone could enter this place. There were many spirit tablets placed inside the shrine, no less than 100 of them. Moon Yin looked around and finally her gaze fell on the tallest spirit tablet. Jitianjiao, the Bloodshed God Palace's first-generation God Lord. Moon Yin put away the grilled fish and pointed with her finger. The spirit tablet suddenly trembled violently, and at this time, a powerful aura suddenly surged out of it. Boom! This powerful aura directly swept towards Moon Yin. Moon Yin lightly pressed her right hand forward, and the aura was directly suppressed. At this time, a figure appeared from within the spirit tablet. Just as the figure was about to emerge, Moon Yin's right hand suddenly pressed down again. Boom! A powerful force enveloped the spirit tablet, and the figure was directly suppressed within the spirit tablet. This figure was Jitianjiao. Jitianjiao looked at Moon Yin. You're not human. Moon Yin smiled. That's right. Jitianjiao solemnly said, What do you mean? Moon Yin smiled. If I'm not wrong, the Bloodshed God Palace's treasure, the godly reflection mirror, is in your hands, right? Jitianjiao narrowed his eyes. Did you come for that item? Moon Yin nodded. This item cannot fall into the hands of others, or else it will pose a great threat to him. Jitianjiao solemnly said, Does my Bloodshed God Palace have an irreconcilable grudge with you? Moon Yin smiled. Yes. Jitianjiao looked around and frowned. No one's here. Moon Yin shrugged. The current pope of your body abandoned the people of the Bloodshed God Palace for the scriptures, so they all fled. Jitianjiao looked at Moon Yin without a word. His eyes were solemn. Even if his true body was here, he might not be able to do anything to this woman, much less a part of his soul. Moon Yin suddenly said, Sir, I have no grudge with you and I don't want to sever your inheritance. How about this? I'll find you a successor of the Bloodshed God Palace and let him inherit your inheritance. What do you think? Jitianjiao softly said, Are you trying to force me? Moon Yin smiled. Yes. It's fine if you refuse. To him, having your Bloodshed God Palace is just icing on the cake. Jitianjiao solemnly said, Who is he? Moon Yin pointed at herself. I chose him. Jitianjiao looked at Moon Yin. Your successor? Moon Yin smiled. You can say so. So, do you have any ideas? If you do, I can make the decision on my own and let him become your successor, allowing your Bloodshed God Palace to continue. Jitianjiao looked at Moon Yin. What if I refuse? The corner of Moon Yin's mouth rose. She snapped her fingers. In the blink of an eye, the Bloodshed God Palace will be reduced to ashes. In the blink of an eye. Jitianjiao was silent. He knew that the woman before him was not lying. The current Bloodshed God Palace could not stop this woman. At this time Moon Yin smiled. Have you made up your mind? Jitianjiao looked at Moon Yin. I can't refuse, can I? Moon Yin smiled. Forgive me for being blunt, but it is your Bloodshed God Palace's honor to have him inherit your inheritance. Truly. Jitianjiao was silent. At this time Moon Yin suddenly shook her head. You're wasting too much time. With that she clenched her right hand. In an instant the spirit tablet became illusory, and Jitianjiao within it also became even more illusory. Seeing this, Jitianjiao hurriedly said, Perhaps we can negotiate. P.S. Just a chat. If you don't like it, just skip it. These years of writing books, although they were not extremely popular, were enough for me to live on. I have my own home, and although I don't have a car yet, I still have a two-wheeled one. All in all, it's passable. Thank you to all my book friends who have supported me. A monthly pass or a subscription is a great help to me. The problem of updating is actually my reality. It's really different now that I have a home. When I was single, I could write every day. Moreover, at that time I was still young, 18 or 19. I had my parents to shoulder the burden for me so I could write without worry. But later, as you all know, I became the pillar of the family and I even had my own family. My younger brother is still in junior high, so I am responsible for everything for him. This is my responsibility. Especially after marriage, when the two of us are together, we have two families. I'm not looking for an excuse. 25 or 26 years old is really different from 17 or 18. Some of the people who read my books are probably the pillars of their families now, so you all should understand how I feel. Sword Domain is very passionate, very hot-blooded, like a 17 or 18-year-old hot-blooded youth, courageously moving forward, daring to fight, not afraid of anything and just doing it. Only supremacy is different. Yi Xian is not as reckless as Yang Yi, nor is he as stubborn as Yang Yi. He is more calculative, scheming, and more rational. Moreover, the book is more about responsibility, cause and effect, scheming, and backing. Many old readers might think that Sword Domain is really childish and stupid when they go back and read it. Many old readers also said that Yang Yi would have died 10,000 times in the real world. One has to admit the fact that we are slowly growing old. Chapter 1249. Discuss. Mu Nianyan looked at Ji Tianjiao and smiled. Do you think I have nothing better to do? Ji Tianjiao quickly pointed, and a dark gold mirror suddenly appeared before Mu Nianyan. The divine-looking mirror. The divine-looking mirror was even more valuable than the divine ruler in the Bloodshed God Palace, because it contained the Bloodshed God Palace's supreme inheritance. Apart from that, its power far surpassed the divine ruler. Mu Nianyan glanced at the divine-looking mirror and smiled. Not bad. Then she looked at Ji Tianjiao. Sorry for the disturbance. Then she turned and left. Ji Tianjiao was silent inside the memorial tablet. A voice sounded from the tablet beside him. Perhaps it's not a bad thing. Ji Tianjiao turned and the voice continued. The person chosen by this woman will not be trash. Ji Tianjiao said softly, I'm afraid of becoming someone else's dowry. The voice said, it's better than being destroyed. Ji Tianjiao raised his head and looked outside the shrine, his brows deeply furrowed. He never expected the Bloodshed God Palace to fall to this state. The voice spoke again, the Tao scripture has appeared. The Bloodshed God Palace is involved. The Tao scripture. Ji Tianjiao narrowed his eyes. No wonder. The Tao scripture. Not to mention others, even they could not refuse it. However, this Tao scripture was a disaster. Only two kinds of people could possess it. Those with absolute strength and those chosen by the heavens. Another voice sounded beside Ji Tianjiao. Don't worry about that. The future generations have their own destiny, we can't care so much about it. Ji Tianjiao nodded. Soon the shrine quieted down. Ancient temple. Yi Xian was currently enveloped in Buddhist Dharma, like a golden man. Right now his physical body had turned golden. Not only that, but there was also Buddhist Dharma circulating all over his body. These Buddhist Dharma powers formed tiny golden Buddhist characters that were constantly wandering around his body. Beside him, the abbot and Jijue watched Yi Xian quietly. Diamond Buddha body. In fact, the two of them also wanted to see how strong the legendary Vajra Buddha body was. If it was anyone else, it would not be easy to cultivate the Vajra Buddha body, but Yi Xian was different. Yi Xian's physical body was strong enough. It could be said that Yi Xian's physical body was the perfect foundation for cultivating the Vajra Buddha Dharma. Of course, without the help of the ancient temple, it would be impossible for Yi Xian to master the Vajra Buddhist Dharma in a short period of time. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly opened his eyes, and then two balls of golden light shot out from within them. Everywhere they passed, space was obliterated. Seeing this, the faces of the two abbot turned solemn. At this moment, Yi Xian stood up slowly. He clenched his fists, and two powerful forces rapidly gathered in his body. He looked at the abbot, and the abbot's eyelids twitched. Young Master Yi, this place cannot withstand young Master Ye's power. Young Master Yi, it's best if you don't make a move. Yi Xian smiled. Master Abbot, did I succeed? The abbot shook his head. Only half. Look at your body now. Yi Xian looked at his body. At this moment, his body was emitting a dazzling golden light, and he had no way of dispersing it. Yi Xian looked at the abbot. Master Abbot, this is? The abbot clasped his hands together. Diamond Buddha Dharma. You have not fully absorbed the Buddhist Dharma, and it is still in your body. You need to learn how to use the power of the Buddhist Dharma. This is the only way you can control it. Yi Xian asked in a deep voice, how can I use the power of the Buddhist Dharma? The abbot said, cultivate the Buddhist Tao. Yi Xian was speechless. The abbot smiled. Young Master Yi, don't worry. Our ancient temple will not force young Master Yi to become a monk. However, young Master Yi can become a lay disciple of our ancient temple. Yi Xian was a little surprised. Lay disciple? The abbot nodded. Yes, a lay disciple. Yi Xian asked, are there other lay disciples in the ancient temple? The abbot hesitated for a moment, then said, there used to be one, but there's no more now. Although our ancient temple has not accepted lay disciples for many years, we can make an exception for young Master Yi. Yi Xian hesitated for a moment, then said, Master, is it all right if you don't become a lay disciple? The abbot looked at Yi Xian. Young Master Yi, the Buddhist Dharma that you will be practicing is the Mahayana Dharma of Buddhism. It is not taught to outsiders. Yi Xian fell silent. Not taught to outsiders. The abbot said again, however, young Master Yi is different from others. If young Master Yi is willing to become a lay disciple of our ancient temple is willing to make an exception for young Master Yi and teach young Master Yi the Mahayana Dharma. Yi Xian was a little hesitant. Become a lay disciple of the ancient temple? That sounded a little unreliable. Because his relationship with the ancient temple now was one of mutual benefit. Who knows, they might become enemies tomorrow. The abbot did not say anything else. The decision was all up to Yi Xian. At this moment Yi Xian smiled and said, all right. It was impossible to get benefits without paying a price. Moreover, the ancient temple was not afraid, so what was there for him to be afraid of? In any case, there were still benefits in using the tiger skin of the ancient temple. Seeing that Yi Xian had agreed, the abbot smiled. Young Master Yi, from this moment onwards, you are a lay disciple of our ancient temple. Yi Xian hesitated for a moment and then said, Master, since you are a disciple of the ancient temple, do you have any treasures to protect yourself? Hearing that, the abbot's eyelids twitched. What the hell? He just joined the ancient temple and he already wants treasures? Zhijue was also speechless. The ancient temple would probably not be at peace in the future. The abbot said, young Master Yi, the treasures you have are better than all the treasures in our ancient temple combined. Yi Xian blinked. At least give me a little. The abbot was speechless. Zhijue shook his head. Yi Xian just stared at the abbot like that. It fully showed what it meant to be shameless. The abbot was slightly embarrassed from being stared at by Yi Xian. He hesitated for a moment and then opened his palm. A long saber appeared in his hand, and he handed it to Yi Xian. Young Master Yi, this is the Buddhist commandment saber of our ancient temple. I'll give it to you. Yi Xian took the Buddhist commandment saber with both hands and pressed his palms together. Thank you, Master Abbot. The abbot was speechless. This fellow doesn't even bother to be courteous. Yi Xian put away the Buddhist commandment saber and was overjoyed. He had witnessed the might of this saber. If he gave this saber to Situ, then with his strength, his combat strength would definitely soar. Although she did not care about external objects at her level, it would be very different if she had one. At that moment, the abbot suddenly said, Young Master Yi, let's cultivate the Mahayana Buddhist Dharma now. Yi Xian suddenly said, Master Abbot, has anyone from the Tao world paid attention to it? The abbot hesitated for a moment before shaking his head. No. Yi Xian was somewhat speechless. Master, shouldn't we keep track of the movements of those fellows in the Tao world? The abbot nodded. Yes. Then he looked at Perception, who was beside him. Make the arrangements. Perception clasped his palms together and retreated. The abbot looked at Yi Xian. Young Master Yi, let's learn the Buddhist Dharma first. Yi Xian was speechless. The voice of the ninth master suddenly rang in Yi Xian's mind. Kid, this fellow is sincere in making you convert to the Buddhist Tao. Yi Xian smiled. I'm a sword cultivator. The ninth master said, no matter what, it's better to be careful. Sometimes carelessness can lead to death. Obviously, he was still afraid that Yi Xian would fall for the ancient temple's Tao Tao. Joining the ancient temple was equivalent to being tainted with the Buddhist Tao karma. From the looks of it, this Buddhist Tao karma might not necessarily be a good thing. Without thinking too much about it, Yi Xian followed the abbot to practice the Buddhist Dharma. In the room, Yi Xian and the abbot sat cross-legged on the floor. The abbot was speaking very seriously, and Yi Xian was also listening attentively. He did not think too much about the Buddhist Tao, nor did he have any prejudice against it. However, he would not really convert to the Buddhist Tao. He only wanted to be a layman. He could not stand a pure heart and few desires. However, he could also use the Buddhist Dharma to improve himself. Just like that, Yi Xian lived the life of a monk for the rest of his days. He ate, chanted, and listened to the Buddhist Dharma. He really had a pure heart and few desires. The effects were very obvious. At least, the Buddhist Dharma power in his body was slowly being controlled by him. And the power of his Vajra Buddhist body was even more terrifying than he had imagined. Vajra Buddhist body. In addition to his original special physical body, it could be said that he could really fight experts like the Pope. Even if he couldn't beat them, it wouldn't be easy for them to kill him. Simply put, he now had the capital to fight experts like the Pope. However, he was not confident that he could kill such experts. In the small room, Yi Xian and the abbot sat opposite each other. The two of them talked by candlelight. This was because Yi Xian would ask questions from time to time. Yi Xian found this Buddhist Dharma more and more interesting. Seeing that Yi Xian was eager to learn, the ancient temple's abbot was also unusually happy. This was exactly what he wanted. Just like that, time passed bit by bit. Yi Xian would listen to the ancient temple's abbot's teachings on time every day. Now he could completely control his Vajra Buddhist body, and he became more familiar with the people of the ancient temple. Many monks in the ancient temple were helpless against Yi Xian, a layman disciple. Yi Xian did not treat himself as an outsider at all. He could enter some special places of the ancient temple whenever he wanted. And to their surprise, the ancient temple's abbot did not stop him. Thus, after a day of learning, Yi Xian would wander around aimlessly, doing something here and there. At first they were puzzled, but later they suddenly realized that this guy was looking for treasures everywhere. Soon Yi Xian became more and more of a headache for many people in the ancient temple. The ancient temple's abbot also had a headache. Yi Xian would find him to compare treasures whenever he had nothing to do. This was not a competition of treasures, this was clearly coveting the ancient temple's treasures. After wandering around like this for a few days, a news suddenly reached the ears of the ancient temple. The Pope brought the study to the sixth dimension. Hearing this news, the entire ancient temple was shocked. In a room, the ancient temple's abbot looked at Yi Xian. "What do you think?" Yi Xian said in a deep voice, "I don't care." At this time, a monk appeared and said in a deep voice, "The Pope went to the fifth dimension." Yi Xian suddenly said, "This is our chance, kill him." Ancient temple's abbot. Chapter 1250. In the small house, the abbot looked at Yi Xian. "Didn't you say that you wouldn't care?" Yi Xian smiled wryly. "He went to the fifth dimension. If he didn't go to the fifth dimension, then there was no need to care. But if he went to the fifth dimension, then there was only one explanation. He was definitely going to target Yi Xian." Yi Xian continued, "Abbot, I feel that this is our chance. First, the Pope is fighting with those above. We must kill the Pope before those above and take the study from him. Secondly, we can't let Jiang Yu and the others take away this bookstore. Otherwise we will fall into a passive position again." The abbot was silent. In truth, he wanted to ignore it for now and let the Pope and Jiang Yu and the others kill each other. But he was also afraid that the study would fall into the hands of Jiang Yu and the others. It was as Yi Xian had said. If that happened, then they would fall into a passive position again. When he thought of this, the abbot suddenly looked at the monk. "Gather the ascetics, we are going to the fifth dimension." The monk put his palms together and bowed slightly, then turned and left. The abbot looked at Yi Xian. "Young Master Yi, let's go." Yi Xian nodded and stood up to leave. Even though he was confident in the fifth dimension's current strength, if a powerful warrior like the Pope played dirty, then the fifth dimension would definitely suffer heavy losses. Very soon, the abbot left the ancient temple with the prefect elder and the 8 ascetics. The people the ancient temple brought out were all powerful warriors of the upper level of self-release realm. In the fifth dimension, the Pope arrived in the sky above Shaman City. The moment he appeared, he slammed his palm down on the city. Boom! A powerful force swept down from the sky above Shaman City. At that moment, a ray of golden light shot into the sky from Shaman City and crashed into the powerful force. Boom! The moment the two forces came into contact, the entire sky trembled and an invisible wave of air rippled outwards. The world trembled. In the air, the Pope looked down. Below him stood a monk with prayer beads. The ancient temple's Jiwu. Jiwu was the preaching monk of the ancient temple. His strength could be ranked in the top 3 of the ancient temple. Facing the Pope, he was not afraid at all. The Pope glared at consciousness. "How could you all be so stupid?" In his opinion, the ancient temple's decision to help Yi Xian was foolish, because it was the same as giving Yi Xian a chance to grow. Once Yi Xian matured, who could keep him in check? And this time, the reason why he came to the fifth dimension was because he felt that Yi Xian had framed him. Because he really could not think of anyone else who would frame him. Who would benefit the most from the internal strife between him and Jiang Yu? Naturally, it was Yi Xian. Therefore, he came to the fifth dimension. At this time, Jiang Yu and the others continued to stay in the sky. Jiang Yu and the others directly sealed off the Pope's area of space. Jiang Yu glared at the Pope. "Pope, hand over the library and we can pretend that nothing has happened." The Pope shook his head with a smile. "Brother Jiang, you keep saying that the library is in my hands. I want to ask, if it really is in my hands, why would I return to the Bloodshed God Palace?" Jiang Yu looked at the Pope. You say that someone framed you. Let me ask you, who framed you? Is it Yi Xian? The Pope said in a low voice. It's him. Jiang Yu angrily said, bullshit. I've already sent people to investigate. That Yi Xian has always been in the ancient temple. Why would he frame you? Moreover, if he had that kind of strength, why would he need to frame you? Wouldn't it be better to just kill us? The Pope's face darkened. Brother Jiang, have you ever thought about why I would steal that Tao scripture? Take it for myself? It's not like I can open it, so why would I take it for myself? Jiang Yu was silent. Needless to say, he didn't think that the Pope was that stupid. If it really was the other party's doing, he would never return to the Bloodshed God Palace. At this moment, a voice came from behind them. Perhaps you found a way to open the library. Everyone turned to see a group of people standing in front of them. It was the abbot of the ancient temple and Yi Xian. The Pope stared at Yi Xian. Was it you? Yi Xian smiled. Pope, you're saying that I'm framing you, right? The Pope stared at Yi Xian. Besides you, who else could it be? Yi Xian smiled. Pope, you're too shameless. You're still trying to frame me at a time like this. Saying so, he looked at Jiang Yu. Pavilion Master Jiang, in my opinion, there might be someone else behind the Pope. Someone else? Jiang Yu narrowed his eyes. What do you mean? Yi Xian sternly said, think about it. How could one person disappear right under your noses? And if it's someone he doesn't know, Pavilion Master Jiang, who do you think could make him disappear without a trace? So, in my opinion, there's definitely someone working together with him to put on this show. The reason he returned to the Bloodshed God Palace was to confuse you, to make you think that the library is in my Yi Xian's hands. Then you'll come and fight me, Yi Xian. Saying so, he looked at the Pope. Pope, this is a brilliant plan. Truly brilliant. The Pope stared at Yi Xian, his eyes like knives. Beside him, Jiang Yu looked at the Pope with a dark expression. Yi Xian said, Pavilion Master Jiang, I think there's someone else behind this. Jiang Yu looked at the Pope. Who is it? The Pope angrily said, Jiang Yu, do you really believe this kid's words? Jiang Yu's lips curled into a mocking smile. Do you think I believe you? The Pope was so angry that he laughed. Jiang Yu, you really are an idiot. Jiang Yu narrowed his eyes. I'll give you one last chance. The Pope was about to speak when Yi Xian suddenly said, I suggest we capture him and slowly interrogate him. We'll definitely be able to find out the whereabouts of the library. Jiang Yu looked at Yi Xian. You don't think the library is with him? Yi Xian nodded. As I said, he doesn't have the ability to disappear without a trace. Someone must have helped him. And the reason he appeared is to confuse us, to make us kill each other. Speaking up to this point, his expression became extremely solemn. If I'm not wrong, the person behind him must have already opened the study room and must be cultivating now. And he is trying to delay us and buy time for the person behind him. Hearing Yi Xian's words, Jiang Yu and the others' expressions changed. It was completely possible. Jiang Yu looked at the Pope. Who are you working for? The Pope was silent. He suddenly realized that no matter what he said, no one would believe him. Because he had disappeared together with the library. Just this point alone, even if he jumped into the heavenly river, he wouldn't be able to wash himself clean. The Pope suddenly looked at Yi Xian and smiled. Yi Xian, I don't hate you. Really, because you and I are opponents. No matter how you frame me, it's only right. But, at this point, he looked at Jiang Yu and the others. You really are stupid. Yi Xian blinked his eyes. Jiang Yu suddenly said, attack. With that, he and the self-release experts behind him were about to attack. At this time, the Pope suddenly smiled. Jiang Yu, let me tell you, the person behind me is not someone you can offend. Hearing this, Jiang Yu stopped. He looked at the Pope. Who is it? Yi Xian looked at the Pope. This guy was starting to create something out of nothing. He could roughly guess who was framing the Pope. Besides Mu Nianyan, he couldn't think of anyone else who would play such a dirty trick. The Pope looked at Jiang Yu and smiled. Who else do you think? Jiang Yu fell silent for a moment before he said, the Tao village. The Pope roared with laughter. Jiang Yu, you're finally smart. You're right, it's the Tao village. Yi Xian was speechless. Jiang Yu spoke solemnly, Pope, isn't it good for you to work together with us? The Pope shook his head. All of you are too stupid. Useless teammates. Jiang Yu stared fixedly at the Pope. Kill? The Pope roared with laughter. Come. Idiots. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly slapped his stomach with both hands. When they witnessed this scene, the expressions of Jiang Yu and the others instantly changed drastically, and the expressions of the abbot and the others changed drastically as well. The abbot directly grabbed Yi Xian and retreated madly with the others. As for Jiang Yu and the others, they wanted to retreat as well, but it was too late. He had detonated himself. No one had expected that the Pope would actually choose to detonate himself. Bang! A world-shaking explosion resounded, and then a powerful force swept through the sky. In an instant, the entire sky was plunged into pitch-black darkness. How terrifying was the detonation of a top-rate expert like the Pope? Amongst the dozens of self-release realm experts that had charged at the Pope, 4 of them had perished on the spot. While the others hadn't perished, most of them were heavily injured. Jiang Yu's countenance was slightly pale. Obviously, he'd been heavily injured as well. Yi Xian was quite shocked as he gazed at the pitch-black space before him. The Pope had actually chosen to detonate himself. What a ruthless fellow. The abbot hadn't expected that the Pope would detonate himself as well. That was too ruthless. Jiang Yu and the others had even more unsightly expressions on their faces. They hadn't expected that the Pope would actually choose to detonate himself. That was no different from playing with his life. Actually, Jiang Yu blamed himself for being stupid. In such a situation, the Pope definitely had no chance of survival. Since it was impossible for them to survive, then they definitely had to drag one of them down with them. As if he'd thought of something, Jiang Yu hurriedly grabbed the spot where the Pope had been earlier. However, it was completely empty there. Jiang Yu's expression was incomparably unsightly. Clearly that study was not in the Pope's hands. At this time, a self-release realm expert gave Jiang Yu a meaningful glance. Jiang Yu turned to look at Yi Xian and the others with a wary expression. They were currently heavily injured. If Yi Xian and the others attacked at this time, they would be in a dangerous situation. And Yi Xian suddenly pointed with his finger. Over a dozen bottles of medicinal pills landed in front of Jiang Yu and the others. Everyone, these are healing panaceas. Everyone heal your injuries first. Don't worry, Yi Xian will never take advantage of others when they are down. Jiang Yu looked at Yi Xian and didn't say anything. Yi Xian smiled. Everyone, I really won't take advantage of others when they are down. Moreover, none of you have a study room on you. If we attack you, wouldn't we be letting others feel happy? Pavilion Master Jiang, I feel that for now we are standing on the same boat. What do you think? After a moment of silence, Jiang Yu said, Young Master Ye's words are reasonable. P.S. Asking for tickets. Chapter 1251. Jiang Yu did not hate Yi Xian as much as the Pope. In his heart, the study house was the most important. Although he also felt that Yi Xian was a great threat, the most important thing now was to obtain the study house, not to fight Yi Xian. Especially now that Yi Xian had joined hands with the ancient temple. The Tao world no longer had any advantage. Jiang Yu cupped his fists at Yi Xian. Young Master Yi, we will meet again. With that, he turned and left. At this moment, they naturally did not dare to stay here for long. They were still afraid of Yi Xian and the ancient temple. At this time, Yi Xian suddenly said, Pavilion Master Jiang, is this Tao village very powerful? Jiang Yu hesitated, then said, very mysterious. In terms of strength, it might be above my immortal pavilion and God Palace. Yi Xian said solemnly, then what do you plan to do? Jiang Yu was silent. The study house was in the hands of the Tao village, so they naturally would not give it up. However, this Tao village was not God Palace. Yi Xian suddenly said, Pavilion Master Jiang, I feel that we should still be careful. Jiang Yu looked at Yi Xian. Young Master Yi also needs to be careful. With that, he turned and left with the crowd. Soon, the Tao world experts left the fifth dimension. At this time, the ancient temple's abbot suddenly said, if we had attacked just now, Yi Xian smiled. Could we have destroyed them? The ancient temple's abbot shook his head. But we could have killed more than 10 self-release realm experts. Yi Xian said softly, it would have been meaningless. After all, the study house is not in their hands. The ancient temple's abbot frowned. Is the study house really in the hands of the Tao village? Yi Xian said seriously, are you doubting the Pope? The ancient temple's abbot shook his head. I just feel that this matter is a little strange. Logically, the Pope would not sacrifice himself for the Tao village. This does not make sense. Yi Xian smiled. Perhaps there is a reason we do not know. The abbot of the ancient temple was silent. Yi Xian walked over and looked around before he said, Abbot, do you think there was someone here just now? The ancient temple's abbot frowned slightly. He put his palms together and soon, the space around him shook violently. A moment later, the abbot said solemnly, there was someone here just now. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. Someone's here. The ancient temple's abbot said, looks like this matter is a little complicated. Yi Xian smiled and said, there's nothing complicated about it. But all we need to do now is wait. I believe that it won't be long before the study room appears. The abbot looked at Yi Xin. This old monk believes in young Master Yi. Yi Xin laughed and said, Abbot of the ancient temple, I need to go back for a period of time. Let's go back to the ancient temple first. I will come to the ancient temple at that time. The abbot hesitated for a moment before he said, Let the sadhus stay here. That's more peaceful. As if they thought of something, they added, It's not to keep an eye on young Master Yi. If you don't want to, I can bring them back with me. Yi Xin smiled and said, How could that be? Let them stay here. When the time comes, I will return to the ancient temple with them. The ancient temple's abbot put his palms together. He took out a Buddhist scripture and passed it to Yi Xin. Young Master Yi, when you have nothing to do, you can read the Buddhist scriptures to calm your mind. Yi Xin nodded, All right. The ancient temple's abbot nodded slightly before turning around and leaving. Yi Xin looked behind him. Guanyin had arrived at some point in time. Guanyin looked at Yi Xin. You've improved? Yi Xin nodded. Guanyin smiled and said, Congratulations. Yi Xin sized up Guanyin and a trace of surprise flashed in his eyes. Half-step escape? Guanyin nodded. Yi Xin smiled and said, That was fast. Needless to say, Guanyin's innate talent was really high. As expected of the most monstrous genius in the history of the spirit of Ninein tribe. Guanyin shook his head. I still can't win. Yi Xin smiled and said, It's because my physical body is restrained. If it wasn't for that, I might not have been able to win. He wasn't being humble. If not for his body restraining Guanyin, he might not have been able to defeat Guanyin. What do you plan to do next? Guanyin asked softly. Yi Xin smiled and said, Development. Guanyin nodded. This is indeed a good opportunity for us to develop. Yi Xin said, Is there anyone in the 5 dimensions who has reached release 1? Guanyin looked at Yi Xin. Yes. Yi Xin asked, Audiobook? Or Sido? Guanyin shook his head. Little 7. Little 7. Yi Xin was stunned and then he said, She attained self-release? Guanyin nodded. Yi Xin was silent. He didn't expect Little 7 to be the first to reach release 1 in the 5 dimensions. The youngest release 1? Guanyin hesitated and then said, Little 7 might be different from others. Yi Xin asked, What do you mean? Guanyin said, I heard Lady Ajio say that she might be a reincarnator. Reincarnator? Yi Xin was silent. Actually, when he was in the lower realms, he felt that Little 7 was abnormal. Especially when Little 7's sword could actually merge with the plain-dressed woman's sword. Yi Xin was silent for a moment and then said softly, I hope she doesn't become someone else. Guanyin nodded. This is what we are worried about. But from the looks of it, Little 7 is still normal. Yi Xin nodded. Is she the only one who has reached release 1? Guanyin shook her head. Arrow, Ajio, Situ, and Lady An are all in closed-door cultivation. If nothing unexpected happens, they should be able to reach release 1. Yi Xin nodded. What about the formation? Guanyin said, Follow me. With that, she turned and left. Yi Xin followed. After Yi Xin and the others left, a black-clothed man suddenly appeared on the scene. After a moment of silence, the black-clothed man said softly, Pope? Using death to frame my Dao village. Is he crazy? Yi Xin followed Guanyin to a starry sky. At this time, Old Li had been waiting for a long time. Yi Xin looked at Old Li. Old Li said solemnly, Alliance Leader Yi, the power of this formation might not be simple. You must be mentally prepared. Yi Xin smiled. I'm already prepared. Old Li nodded and then he turned around. Depart the formation. As soon as he spoke, the starry sky around them trembled violently, and then countless mysterious golden talismans appeared. At this moment, the entire starry sky was covered by the formation. Yi Xin glanced at the formation and said, Is it strong? Old Li said, Let's give it a try. Yi Xin nodded, drew his sword and slashed. A ray of light tore through the air, and it vanished without a trace as soon as it entered the formation. Yi Xin was slightly surprised. He gazed at Old Li and Old Li smiled. Spatial shift. We've built a powerful spatial formation within this formation. Any power that enters it will be automatically transferred away by the spatial formation. Currently, the energy of even self-release realm experts can be easily moved away. Yi Xin was quite shocked. Amazing. Old Li clapped his hands, and a golden formation suddenly appeared beneath Yi Xin's feet. Old Li said, That's the core of the formation. Yi Xin glanced at the core of the formation beneath his feet and said, How do I activate it? Old Li turned around and said, Activate it. As soon as he finished speaking, a strand of dazzling golden light suddenly erupted from the formation beneath Yi Xian's feet. A moment later, the golden talismans in the surroundings seemed as if they'd come to life, and boundless energy surged towards Yi Xian. In an instant, a strand of enormous energy filled Yi Xian's body, and it was like a torrent that caused Yi Xian's body to tremble. At this moment, Yi Xian's expression changed, because he noticed that the energy was converging incessantly towards him, and even though his body was extremely strong, it was still slightly difficult for him to endure. Yi Xian gazed at Old Li. You can stop now. Old Li nodded, and then he clapped his hands lightly. It didn't take long for the golden talismans to fall silent. Yi Xian glanced at his body, and he noticed that the energy within him hadn't vanished. However, it didn't stay within him either, and it was slowly flowing away. Meanwhile, Old Li suddenly said, I asked someone to gather this energy within these talismans in advance. These talismans form a formation, and every single one of them contains an enormous amount of energy. In battle, Alliance Master Yi can draw energy from these talismans and add it to his own strength. It can be said that you're completely capable of relying on this formation to kill an expert like the Sect Master. Yi Xian suddenly said, It still needs to be strengthened. Old Li was stunned, and then he said, It still needs to be strengthened? Yi Xian nodded. Old Li, our enemy isn't just the Tao world, it's the fifth dimension tribulation as well. We have to prepare for the worst when facing that calamity. Old Li spoke in a low voice, but if we continue strengthening it, then young Master Ye's body? Yi Xian smiled, I can endure it. If it was in the past, then he would definitely be unable to endure it. But now he was completely capable of doing so, because his current body was the steel Buddhist physique. Old Li thought about it, and then he said, All right. I'll have people continue strengthening this formation. As he spoke, he looked at Guanyin. Miss Guan, please send more people to strengthen this formation as well. Guanyin nodded. I'll arrange it. Old Li looked at Yi Xian. Alliance Master Yi, do you have any other requests? Yi Xian thought about it, and then he said, Both of you have to remember one thing, and that is that our greatest enemy is the fifth dimension tribulation. So, we have to be prepared for anything. Otherwise we might all die. Guanyin nodded, I understand. Old Li nodded, I'll strengthen our formation at all costs. Yi Xian raised his head, and then he said, Besides the fifth dimension tribulation, we still have enemies outside. I'll deal with them. Guanyin nodded, All right. Yi Xian suddenly turned his head and saw a woman slowly walking over. It was Qianemo. Qianemo walked in front of Yi Xian. Let's talk in private? Guanyin said, Let's talk. I'm going to busy myself. As she spoke, she and Old Li turned and left. Yi Xian looked at Qianemo. Miss Qianemo, is something the matter? Qianemo said, My bloodline has broken through its shackles. Yi Xian was stunned, and then he smiled, That's a good thing. Qianemo glanced at Yi Xian, but didn't say anything. Yi Xian said, If there's anything, just say it. Qianemo suddenly said, Do you want to dual cultivate? Yi Xian was dumbfounded. Ha! Chapter 1252. You want to dual cultivate? Yi Xian was dumbfounded. What was going on? Qianemo was expressionless. What? You don't want to? Yi Xian hesitated and said, Miss Qianemo. Qianemo shrugged. Although my bloodline has broken through, it can still help me grow. Yi Xian was puzzled. What? Qianemo said indifferently, Because the power of your bloodline is stronger than mine. Yi Xian fell silent. Qianemo frowned. Are you going to do it or not? Yi Xian had a strange expression. Miss Qianemo, are you using me? Qianemo said coldly, Am I at a disadvantage? Yi Xian was about to speak when Qianemo suddenly grabbed Yi Xian's shoulder. Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up. With that, she disappeared with Yi Xian. Yi Xian was speechless. Miss Qianemo, I am a person with principles. Why are you so stubborn? Dao World. After Jiang Yu and the others returned to the Dao World, they did not go to the Dao village immediately. Instead, they started to heal. They did not dare to underestimate the Dao village. The Dao village was the most mysterious place, and the reason for that was because no one knew how strong they were. Unknown. Therefore, Jiang Yu did not act rashly this time. However, he did not think of giving up. After all, he had almost 52 self-release realm experts standing behind him. More and more people came to him for the Dao scripture. It could be said that he was not afraid of anyone. There were many people. On this day, a woman arrived at the celestial pavilion. She wore a long green dress and her long hair fluttered in the wind. She held a black folding fan in her hand. The woman walked to the front of the celestial pavilion. At this moment, the pavilion master Jiang Yu appeared before her. Jiang Yu looked at the woman. From the Dao village? The woman nodded. Greetings, pavilion master Jiang. Jiang Yu sneered. The Dao village has a good trick. Li Qing shook his head. I'm here to clarify with pavilion master Jiang that the study is not in the hands of our Dao village. Jiang Yu frowned. It's not in the hands of the Dao village? Li Qing nodded. Indeed, it's not in the hands of my Dao village. As for why the Pope said that, it was probably to stir up conflict between my Dao village and all of you. Jiang Yu looked at Li Qing. He used his life to stir up conflict between us and the Dao village? It can't be, right? Li Qing smiled and said, this is also what we are confused about because our Dao village has never had any grudges with the Pope. Jiang Yu said calmly, so? Li Qing smiled and said, Pavilion Master Jiang, we're just here to clarify things. As for whether Pavilion Master Jiang believes it or not, it's up to Pavilion Master Jiang. With that she turned around and left. At this time Jiang Yu suddenly said, do you think I believe you? Li Qing stopped in her tracks and looked at Jiang Yu. Pavilion Master Jiang, a brain is a good thing. I hope you have it too. With that she turned around and left. Suddenly Jiang Yu made his move. Li Qing didn't even turn his head as a green light flashed across the field. Bang! A muffled explosion resounded as Jiang Yu returned to where he stood earlier. At this moment, Li Qing had vanished. Jiang Yu had an extremely solemn expression on his face. Meanwhile, Mo Dao appeared by Jiang Yu's side and he spoke solemnly, Pavilion Master, there really is something fishy about all of this. Jiang Yu spoke solemnly, what do you mean? Mo Dao thought for a moment and said, firstly, the Pope's death is quite strange. Logically speaking, it's impossible for him to sacrifice himself for the Dao village. Not to mention sacrificing himself for the Dao village, he wouldn't even do that for his own son. Secondly, when I thought about all this time, I noticed that the Devil Dao clans are gone. Secondly, the Imperial clans are gradually declining. Thirdly, the God Palace is gone. In less than 2 months, only our Dao village and our Dao world remain. Now there's conflict between us and the Dao village. Jiang Yu frowned slightly. You mean that someone wants the various powers of our Dao world to kill each other? Mo Dao nodded, yes. Jiang Yu spoke solemnly, who? Mo Dao hesitated for a moment before he said, I think it's the ancient temple or Yi Xian. This is because chaos in our Dao world is the most beneficial to them. Yi Xian. An ancient temple. Jiang Yu shook his head. The ancient temple and Yi Xian do not have the ability to silently take away the Pope and the study in front of us. Demon Dao said in a low voice, this is also what I've been wondering about. Jiang Yu said softly, ever since this Dao scripture appeared, this world has become more and more difficult for me to understand. Mo Dao fell silent. Jiang Yu suddenly said, actually, my intuition is telling me that I should stop here and not think about the Dao scripture anymore. Because the more I think about it, the more uneasy I feel. Mo Dao said solemnly, is Pavilion Master going to give up? Jiang Yu shook his head. If I give up, I will stop at the self-release realm for the rest of my life. The Dao scripture was his hope. The only hope to rush above self-release. Although his intuition told him that continuing to search would be dangerous, he still did not want to give up. Men die for wealth and birds die for food. If he didn't fight now, he could only wait for death. Jiang Yu suddenly said, speak, who is most likely to have the Dao scripture? Demon Dao said in a low voice, first, Yi Xian and the ancient temple. Second, the Dao village. Third, an unknown faction. Jiang Yu frowned. Unknown faction? Mo Dao nodded. Yes. Pavilion Master should know that the Dao world is not the only existence in this universe. Jiang Yu fell silent. Mo Dao said, we can continue to search for the Dao scripture, but we cannot be rash. In my opinion, the Pope blew himself up. It is highly likely that he was framed by someone, because he had no reason to risk his life for someone else. Even the Dao village would not make the Pope risk his life for them. If he didn't do it for someone else, then there is only one explanation. He was framed. Jiang Yu said in a soft voice, at the time he had nowhere to go, so he wanted to frame the Dao village before he died, so that we could fight the Dao village to the death. Mo Dao nodded. That is completely possible. Jiang Yu fell silent. Mo Dao said, Pavilion Master, the most important thing for us to do now is to investigate who took the Pope away. Apart from that, we also need to investigate the Dao village and the ancient temple to see if they have the Dao scripture. Also, we need to ally with the remaining factions such as the Emperor clans and the Demonic Path clans. We need to gather all the power we can to strengthen ourselves. Didn't Yi Xian set up a 5th dimension alliance in the 5th dimension? We can also set up a Dao World alliance. Jiang Yu nodded. Alright. We'll do as you say. Mo Dao nodded, then turned and left. Jiang Yu looked at the horizon, a trace of worry in his eyes. Who was messing with the Dao world? After Li Qing left the Immortal Pavilion, she came to the depths of a mountain range. There was a small village in the depths of the mountain range. The village was surrounded by steep mountains, and from time to time red-crowned cranes flew out. Dao village. Outsiders knew very little about the Dao village because the people of the Dao village basically did not go out. After Li Qing returned to the Dao village, an old man appeared in front of her as soon as she arrived. This person was the Dao village chief, Li Er. Li Qing bowed slightly. Chief. Li Er nodded. How is it? Li Qing shook her head. They don't believe it. Li Er said softly, the Pope wanted to cause conflict between them and us before he died. What a vicious heart. Li Qing said solemnly, what we need to do now is find out who exactly has the Dao scripture. Li Er nodded. The Devil Master is already investigating. The Devil Master. Li Qing blinked. Qing blinked. She's awake? Li Er nodded. Follow me. Li Er led Li Qing to a thatched cottage. There was a black-robed woman in the cottage. She wore a black robe and had a head full of red hair. She looked rather strange. Before her was a divination platform with 2 tortoiseshells on it. The woman muttered something and the space before her trembled slightly. After an unknown period of time, the red-haired woman suddenly picked up the tortoiseshells. Boundless heaven and earth, move the universal order. Very quickly the space here suddenly trembled. Before long, a red thread flew out from the divination platform. It didn't take long for the red thread to travel through space and arrive in a certain starry sky. A woman was roasting fish in that starry sky. It was Moon Yin. Suddenly Moon Yin raised her head. She looked not too far away and gently blocked it with her right hand. In an instant the red thread was imprisoned in that space. Moon Yin looked at the red thread and smiled. Interesting. It's actually the legendary divination technique. Ling Er, who was next to Moon Yin, asked, what's divination technique? Moon Yin said, it's a very ancient technique. Just like divination, it's something from a very, very long time ago. I didn't expect that someone in this world would still know it. Ling Er asked, did she find it? Moon Yin smiled. Yes. However, she underestimated me. This level of divination technique can't touch me. As she said that, she gently pulled her fingers together. Soon the red thread flew in another direction. Under Moon Yin's control, the red thread arrived in front of the Dao world's barrier of the universe. Moon Yin retracted her hand and the corners of her mouth curled up mischievously. Dao village. The red-haired woman in the house suddenly opened her eyes and frowned deeply. Li Er asked, what's wrong? The red-haired woman replied in a deep voice, in front of the Dao world's barrier of the universe. Upon hearing that, Li Er's expression changed slightly. It's them? The red-haired woman shook her head. I don't know. As she said that, she looked at the 2 tortoise shells in front of her. The tortoise shells were in a mess which had never happened before. Li Er asked, what's wrong? The red-haired woman was silent for a long time. There are 2 possibilities. First, the book house is on the other side of the universe. Second, someone changed my divination technique. Li Er asked in a deep voice, is it possible that it's the second possibility? The red-haired woman nodded. It's possible. However, if the other party really has this kind of strength. A trace of worry flashed in her eyes. That's too scary. In the starry sky, Moon Yin was still grilling fish. It was very fragrant. At this moment, the space in front of her suddenly trembled violently. Immediately, a phantom image suddenly appeared in front of Moon Yin. The phantom image was wearing a white robe and a square crown. He was holding a white ruler in his hand. Moon Yin looked at the phantom image. The phantom image bowed respectfully. The Prime Minister of the godly kingdom of Shumi, Fang Tangshi, greets His Holiness. The corner of Moon Yin's mouth raised slightly. His Holiness? Fang Tangshi bowed again. It's an honorific title above Void Release Ones. Moon Yin blinked. I'm not above Void Release Ones. It's true. I'm very weak. Fang Tangshi bowed respectfully again. His Holiness, please don't joke around. Mu Nianyan picked up the grilled fish in front of her, took a bite and then smiled. What's the matter? Fang Tangshi bowed again. His Holiness, His Majesty wants to invite His Holiness to the godly kingdom of Shumi as the state preceptor. Mu Nianyan looked at Fang Tangshi. They want to come over and seize the study house. Fang Tangshi nodded. Yes. His Holiness, please. Mu Nianyan shook her head. Before I die, they are not allowed to come over. Fang Tangshi was silent. The corner of Mu Nianyan's mouth raised slightly. Do you want to fight? I, Mu Nianyan, am invincible in Void Release Ones. Above Void Release Ones, any realm with the exception of 3 swords, 1 for 1. May I ask what realm is His Majesty? P.S. Do you want to vote? I want any vote. May I ask how many votes do you have? Chapter 1253. In the starry sky, Fang Tangshi was silent. In truth, when they found out that Tao scripture had reappeared, they wanted to come over. However, they were afraid. It was because of this woman. This woman was above self-release. Moreover, her above self-release was different from others. She was truly above self-release. In other words, she was above self-release and had truly surpassed the Grand Tao. This was self-release without any excess. To put it bluntly, dozens of fake self-release realm experts could not compare to a true self-release realm expert. The difference between excess and no excess was too big. At this moment, Mu Nianyan suddenly smiled. I don't have much time left. Fang Tangshi looked at Mu Nianyan. Mu Nianyan smiled. Just 1 or 2 years. After I die, you can come over if you want. However, before I die, I will kill every one of you who comes over. Fang Tangshi softly said, Lord, take care. With that, he retreated. At this moment, Linger's voice suddenly rang out. Do you really only have 2 years left? Her voice was trembling. Mu Nianyan smiled. Silly girl, I lied to him, hee hee. With that, she turned around with a trace of worry in her eyes. In the 5th dimension. At this moment, Yi Xian and Chen Mo were having sex in a small dark room. It had to be said that Yi Xian was very passive. This was because Chen Mo was too proactive. The two took a long time. In the beginning, the two did not focus on cultivation. Only later did they start to use dual cultivation techniques. Yi Xian found that this dual cultivation technique was very useful, especially for his bloodline. Of course, Chen Mo obtained even more benefits. This was because Yi Xian's bloodline power was much stronger than hers. Just like this, the two continued until the 2nd day. On the morning of the 2nd day when the sun rose, the two ended. Yi Xian put on his clothes and came out of the room. Not far away, Chen Mo sat on a rock. In front of her was an ocean. Yi Xian walked to Chen Mo's side. Chen Mo asked softly, What are your plans now? Yi Xian lightly touched the fragments on his chest and said softly, Protect the 5-dimensional universe. Chen Mo turned to look at Yi Xian and smiled, Are you that great? Yi Xian shook his head. Responsibility. Right now, the entire 5th dimension was following Yi Xian. Moreover, his friends were also here, so he was duty-bound to take care of them. Chen Mo looked at Yi Xian. That scripture is still in your hands, right? Yi Xian shook his head. No, but I know who has it. Chen Mo asked, Whose hands? Yi Xian was silent. Chen Mo smiled and said, I'm asking too much. With that, she got up to leave. Meanwhile, Yi Xian suddenly said, It's with Nian Yan. Mu Nianyan. The reason why he knew this was not a guess, but because he could feel the presence of the study room. The study room had its own spirit. Chen Mo said solemnly, It really is her. In her opinion, other than that woman, no one could take away the study room in front of dozens of self-release realm experts without a sound. That woman was even more terrifying than she had imagined. Yi Xian suddenly said, What about you? What are your plans? Chen Mo said softly, I want to revive the family, but it will be very difficult. Because the bloodline of the family members has become very thin. Unless, Yi Xian asked. Unless what? Chen Mo looked at Yi Xian. Unless I have a child with you. Yi Xian looked at Chen Mo and did not say anything. Chen Mo smiled and said, Don't be angry, I will not have a child with you. We are already fated to be together, I do not want a child to inherit this fate. This is my bottom line. Yi Xian walked in front of Chen Mo and said solemnly, No matter what you think of our relationship, I just want to say that if you need any help, just say it. Of course, if I need help, I will also find you. Is that okay? Chen Mo looked at Yi Xian for a long time. Okay. Yi Xian smiled and was about to speak when Chen Mo suddenly said, Will we develop feelings for each other after a long time? Yi Xian was speechless. This sentence was very problematic. After a while the two left and Chen Mo returned to the Tao world. After Yi Xian dealt with the matters of the fifth dimension, he came to the ancient temple. He had to borrow the power of the ancient temple to deal with the Tao world. It could be said that he and the ancient temple were using each other. As for who would benefit in the end, it was still unknown. Inside the ancient temple, Yi Xian and the abbot sat opposite each other. Beside him was a female monk, Hui Xian. During his time in the ancient temple, Yi Xian had discovered that Hui Xian was the ancient temple's focus on nurturing. 2 hours later, the abbot put away the Buddhist scriptures and said, "Hui Xian, you can leave." Hui Xian put her palms together and retreated. The abbot looked at Yi Xian. "Young Master Yi, according to our investigation, Jiang Yu and the others did not fight the Dao village to the death." Yi Xian said with a smile, "That means they might feel that something is wrong." The abbot nodded. "Young Master Yi, in your opinion, who has the Dao scripture?" Yi Xian thought about it and said, "If it is not the Dao village, then it is in the godly kingdom of Shumi." The abbot looked at Yi Xian and did not say anything. Yi Xian said with a smile, "Master, don't tell me you think it is in my hands?" The abbot shook his head. "Not at all. When the Dao world was in trouble, young Master Yi was in the ancient temple." Yi Xian nodded and said with a smile, "It is good that Master does not suspect me." The abbot suddenly said, "Could it be the work of the person behind young Master Yi?" Yi Xian's heart trembled. The abbot had guessed in this direction. What he was most afraid of was the Dao world and the ancient temple guessing in this direction. If that was the case, everyone would focus on him, Yi Xian. Yi Xian collected his thoughts and said with a smile, "Abbot, what do you think?" The abbot looked at Yi Xian and did not say anything. Yi Xian said with a smile, "Master, there is someone behind me, and that is the plain-dressed woman. But she is not in the Dao world or the six-dimensional universe, right?" The abbot shook his head. "There is someone behind young Master Yi." Yi Xian asked, "Who?" The abbot said in a deep voice, "Fifth dimension Tendo." Yi Xian blinked and said, "Could it be that she took the Dao scripture?" The abbot looked at Yi Xian and did not say anything. Yi Xian said in a deep voice, "Master, what do you think the strength of the fifth dimension Tendo is?" The abbot said softly, "At least the extreme self-release realm." The extreme self-release realm. Yi Xian said with a smile, "Then do you think that she can take away the study room in front of dozens of self-release realm experts?" The abbot was silent. Yi Xian said, "Master, what do you think of my relationship with the fifth dimension Tendo?" The abbot shook his head. "I don't know." Yi Xian said with a smile, "Isn't she using me? She wants to obtain the Dao scripture from me?" The abbot hesitated and said, "What about the plain-dressed woman? Is she also trying to obtain the Dao scripture from young Master Yi?" Yi Xian said with a smile, "Abbot, do you know the true strength of the plain-dressed woman?" The abbot thought about it and said, "At least the extreme self-release realm." Yi Xian asked, "Can she take away the study room in front of dozens of self-release realm experts?" The abbot was silent. Actually, in his opinion, this was not something a self-release realm expert could do. However, the study room had disappeared. Who was the one behind this? The abbot sighed. This matter was becoming more and more complicated. The ancient temple's abbot looked at Yi Xian. "Young Master Yi, you said before that if you reach self-release realm, you will be able to find the Dao scripture. Is that true?" Yi Xian nodded. "If I reach self-release realm, I will be able to sense the location of the study room. After all, it has recognized me as its master. But right now I am too weak, I cannot sense it." The ancient temple's abbot said in a deep voice, "Young Master Yi is not joking?" Yi Xian said, "I am serious." The ancient temple's abbot nodded. "Then let us help young Master Yi break through to self-release realm." Yi Xian said, "I have just stabilized my realm now that I am breaking through." The ancient temple's abbot clasped his hands together. "Young Master Yi, don't worry, we won't act recklessly. With our help, young Master Ye's realm will not be a problem. It is just that, after young Master Yi reaches self-release realm, this old monk hopes that young Master Yi can sense the location of the study room. That study room is really important to my ancient temple." Yi Xian clasped his hands together. "A monk does not lie." The ancient temple's abbot's eyelids twitched. "What kind of monk are you? This person is really a devil." Yi Xian said again, "Master, forgive me for being blunt, but you should have investigated me and know what kind of person I, Yi Xian, am. I, Yi Xian, have never sold out my allies, right? Moreover, I have never taken the initiative to harm anyone, right?" The ancient temple's abbot was silent. Needless to say, they had investigated Yi Xian. In their investigation, Yi Xian's character was indeed not bad. Just like this time, Yi Xian could have left the fifth dimension, but Yi Xian did not do so. Instead, he stayed to resist the fifth dimension calamity with the fifth dimension. To put it simply, Yi Xian was a person who valued friendship and righteousness. Thinking of this, the ancient temple's abbot clasped his hands together. "Young Master Yi, no matter what, I hope we can cooperate as soon as possible." Yi Xian nodded. "I hope so too." The ancient temple's abbot said, "Young Master Yi, you are now at the origin returning realm-shattering realm, and during this period of time, you have been cultivating Buddhist Dharma in my ancient temple. Your realm has stabilized and now you are trying to reach self-release realm." Yi Xian suddenly said, "Master, isn't it half-step self-release realm?" The ancient temple's abbot shook his head. Half-step self-release realm is a saying that one cannot reach self-release realm. To put it simply, the limit of origin returning realm-shattering realm is half-step self-release realm. Because there is no way to reach self-release realm, I changed it to a nicer sounding name, which is half-step self-release realm. As for you, there is no need for half-step self-release realm, you can directly reach self-release realm. Yi Xian smiled and said, "All right." The abbot stood up. "Young Master Yi, follow me?" Yi Xian nodded and followed. Not long later, the abbot brought Yi Xian to the martial arts hall. Jiju was also there. The ancient temple's abbot took out a golden box. He opened the box and inside the box was a white pill that was very pure. Yi Xian was a little surprised. "Master, this is?" The ancient temple's abbot said, "Dao pill, it can strengthen young Master Yi's physique, allowing young Master Yi to better reach self-release realm." Yi Xian said solemnly, "Self-release realm, isn't it said to transcend the grand Dao? Can you just eat pills?" The ancient temple's abbot shook his head. "No. Later I will ask the senior monks of the past to help young Master Yi, and let them bring young Master Yi to the virtual Buddha realm so that young Master Yi can comprehend it. As for whether it succeeds or not, it will all depend on young Master Yi's own luck." Chapter 1254. Self-Release. Yi Xian was silent. If he could reach self-release at that time, the situation would be completely different. Because at that time he would be able to continue using the World Prison Pagoda. Right now, the World Prison Pagoda was still his greatest trump card. It could be said that once he reached self-release he would undergo a qualitative change. The ancient temple's abbot brought Yi Xian to a hall in the martial arts hall. Inside the hall there was a Buddha statue. The abbot respectfully bowed to the Buddha statue and then turned to look at Jiju. The latter slightly nodded, clasped his hands together and retreated. The ancient temple's abbot looked at Yi Xian. "Young Master Yi, whether or not you can succeed will depend on your own luck." After saying that, he also retreated. After the abbot retreated, Yi Xian discovered that the space in front of him suddenly became illusory. Outside the hall, Jiju solemnly said, "Abbot, are you really going to help young Master Yi reach self-release?" The abbot nodded. Jiju wanted to say something but hesitated. The abbot softly said, "You want to say that once he reaches self-release, he will be a great threat to us, right?" Jiju nodded. "He is a heavenly genius. Right now, he can already fight against an upper self-release powerhouse. If he reaches self-release, I'm afraid an ordinary upper self-release powerhouse will not be his opponent." The abbot said, "I know." Jiju said, "Abbot, do you have other plans?" The abbot turned to look at the hall and softly said, "If he is really willing to share the Tao scripture with us, then all problems will not exist." Jiju asked, "What if he is not willing?" The abbot clasped his hands together. "We can only gamble on his character." Inside the hall, the current Yi Xian was already in a starry sky. Around him there were 6 illusory monks. The 6 monks were looking at him. Yi Xian clasped his hands together and slightly bowed. "Greetings, seniors." At this time, a monk in front of him suddenly said, "You are not from my ancient temple." Yi Xian looked at the monk. "In your eyes, master, is there a distinction between inside and outside the temple?" The monk looked at Yi Xian. After a moment he smiled. "Interesting. Are you going to discuss Buddhism with me?" Yi Xian asked. "Master, in your heart, your Dharma is higher than mine, so I'm not qualified to discuss with you?" The monk clasped his hands together. "Little brother, are you here to fight?" Yi Xian was speechless. At this moment, the monk said again, "However, what you said makes sense. There's an ancient saying that when 3 people walk together, there must be a teacher. There's something we can learn from everyone." Yi Xian clasped his hands together. "Grandmaster, please forgive me if I offended you just now." The monk said with a smile, "It's fine. Since you can appear here, it means that we are fated." Yi Xian said, "To tell you the truth, I am a disciple of the ancient temple. This time I came to seek guidance from everyone on how to reach self-release 1. Self-release 1. In the field, the monks looked at each other. In the end, the monk in front of Yi Xian said, "Do you want to reach true self-release 1 or false self-release 1? Yi Xian said solemnly, "There's a distinction between true and false self?" The monk nodded. "Yes. True self-release 1 transcends the great Tao and is not within the Tao. False self-release 1 is still within the Tao. However, one is familiar with the Tao and is on the same level as the Tao." Yi Xian asked, "Is there a difference between the two?" The monk nodded slightly. "A world of difference." Yi Xian said, "I want true self-release 1. The monk looked at Yi Xian. "We can't do it." Yi Xian's face darkened. He felt like he was being toyed with. The monk said with a smile, "True self-release 1 truly surpassing the great Tao, this isn't an ordinary level of difficulty. To tell you the truth, none of you here have reached true self-release 1 on the great Tao." Yi Xian frowned. "What?" The monk said, "Because we can't escape the circle of the great Tao." Yi Xian said in a low voice, "Is it very difficult?" The monk smiled bitterly. "What you're saying? Is it very simple in your opinion?" Yi Xian smiled embarrassedly. "Senior, then I can only become false self-release 1? The monk nodded. "You can't say that. Even though there's a world of difference between false self-release 1 and true self-release 1, false self-release 1 can allow you to better understand true self-release 1. This is a process. After you experience this process, it'll be much easier for you to attain true self-release 1 in the future." Yi Xian said in a low voice, "Then I'll false self-release 1 for now." The monk nodded and was about to speak. Right at this moment, a monk in a kasaya on Yi Xian's right suddenly said, "Wait." Everyone in the surroundings gazed at the monk when they heard this. The monk gazed at Yi Xian. "The karma and fate you carry. Can you walk a little closer?" Yi Xian hesitated for a moment, and then he walked over to the monk. The monk in the kasaya lightly tapped the space between Yi Xian's eyebrows. A moment later, some red threads appeared around Yi Xian, but they disappeared in the blink of an eye. At this moment, the monk in the kasaya retreated. The monk gazed at Yi Xian with disbelief in his eyes. "The cause of misfortune." Yi Xian frowned slightly. "The cause of misfortune? What's that?" The monk stared fixedly at Yi Xian. "You carry the cause of misfortune. It's an extremely vicious karmic technique and someone placed it on you." Yi Xian spoke in a low voice. "Will it bring misfortune to me?" The monk spoke in a low voice. "Not only will it bring misfortune to you, it will bring misfortune to the people around you as well. It can be said that you'll suffer misfortune for the rest of your life with this cause of misfortune on you." When he spoke up to this point, he seemed to have thought of something, and his brows knit together slightly. "Wait. How could you have possibly survived until now?" The corners of Yi Xian's eyes twitched. "What the hell is that?" Meanwhile, the monk took a deep and long glance at Yi Xian, and then he said, "Young man, you're not simple at all." Yi Xian spoke in a low voice. "Senior, can this cause of misfortune be removed?" The monk shook his head. "It can't be removed. Not to mention removing it, I can't even touch it." As he spoke, he gazed at the monk who stood before Yi Xian. "Wu Wang, let's not touch this karma." Yi Xian fell silent. Obviously, the monk before him had sensed the karma on him. But the monk was very simple. Yi Xian said with a smile, "Guys, goodbye." As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and left. Even though he was thick-skinned, he wasn't shameless. At this moment, a monk suddenly said, "Hold on." Yi Xian looked at the person who spoke. It was a monk who wore 2 strands of Buddha beads on his head. The monk's face was rough and his eyes were spirited. He exuded an imposing aura without being angry. Everyone looked at the monk with the Buddha beads, and the monk looked at the monk in the kasaya. "Zhui Ming, you said that he has the cause of misfortune on him?" The monk in the kasaya nodded, "Yes." The monk with the Buddha beads smiled and said, "Then have you ever thought about the problem of him being able to live until now despite having the cause of misfortune on him?" The monk in the kasaya fell silent. The monk with the Buddha beads looked at Yi Xian. "He has the cause of misfortune, but he's able to live until now. What does this mean?" "It means that he might also have great fortune." Zhui Ming frowned slightly. "Misfortune, fortune?" The monk with the Buddha beads smiled and said, "They can coexist. The cause of misfortune is man-made, so naturally fortune can also be man-made." As he spoke, he looked at Yi Xian once more. "Little friend, if I'm not wrong, you have an expert behind you, right?" Yi Xian said seriously, "To tell you the truth, I do have an expert behind me. The monk with the Buddha beads looked at Yi Xian. For him to be able to help you resist the cause of misfortune, he's not simple. Yi Xian smiled and did not speak. At this moment he felt a little upset in his heart. Qing. This woman rarely saw him, but he did not know how much she had sacrificed for him. He knew that it was Qing who had helped him resist the cause of misfortune. But where was she now? At this moment the nearby monk Wu Wang suddenly said, "Since he is here, then it must be fate." The monk with the Buddha beads nodded slightly. If there is fate, then good results will naturally be born. The monk in the Kasaya glanced at Yi Xian but did not speak. Wu Wang walked in front of Yi Xian. "Little friend, to reach self-release you must first understand what the Tao is. Do you know what the Tao is?" After a moment of silence, Yi Xian said, "The Tao follows the laws of nature." Wu Wang smiled. "That's right, but you need to understand the Tao in more detail. The simplest meaning of the Tao is that all things have their own trajectory. It can also be said to be a change in the movement of things." In the following period of time, the monks took turns to explain to Yi Xian what the Tao was. It had to be said that Yi Xian had gained a lot. At the very least, he had a general understanding of the self-release realm. And the self-release realm was not that mysterious in his heart, it was just like an ordinary realm. However, he also knew that this was not the true self-release realm. He was still curious about the true self-release realm. Just like this, time passed day by day. During this period of time, Yi Xian listened to the preaching of the high monks day and night. About 5 days later, Yi Xian sat down and the monks had already left. This was all they could do. Whether or not he could comprehend himself and reach the self-release realm depended on Yi Xian himself. As for the abbot and Jiju, they had been guarding outside the hall. Actually, they were somewhat conflicted. They wanted Yi Xian to break through to the self-release realm, but they were also afraid that Yi Xian would break through to the self-release realm. This was because once Yi Xian broke through to the self-release realm, at that time, Yi Xian's threat would be very terrifying. It had to be known that Yi Xian still had the super divine item world prison pagoda. However, they also hoped that Yi Xian would break through to the self-release realm. This way they would know the whereabouts of the Tao scripture. Tao world. At this time, a major event happened in the Tao world. The Tao world had formed an alliance. The Tao World Alliance. In this alliance, with the Immortal Pavilion at the head, there were over 100 factions gathered. Among them there were 52 self-release realm experts. 52 self-release realm experts. This lineup was very terrifying. On this day, a mysterious man suddenly came to the Immortal Pavilion. In the hall, the Immortal Pavilion Master, Jiang Yu, looked at the mysterious man in front of him. The mysterious man said something in a low voice. About 15 minutes later, Jiang Yu clenched his fists, and a trace of killing intent flashed in his eyes. "Fifth Dimension Tendo. Are you sure she did it?" The mysterious man took out an item. When he saw that item, the Immortal Pavilion Master's pupils suddenly constricted. "It's you. P.S. I have to think of ways to cheat monthly votes every day. These days are too difficult. But now I find that as long as I don't add updates, don't even think about adding votes. No matter how much I cheat, it's useless. Brother, introduce me to a rich woman. I don't want to work hard anymore. I want to rely on my face to make a living." Chapter 1255. Inside the palace, Jiang Yu was incomparably shocked. He did not expect that the power would actually make a move. It seems like he still underestimated the temptation of the Tao scripture. The mysterious man had already left, but Jiang Yu was caught in a dilemma. The other party told him that it was the fifth dimension Tendo who made a move. Then came the problem. The fifth dimension Tendo actually had such terrifying strength. It could silently teleport the Pope away. How terrifying was this? And now the power came to tell him about this matter. It was very simple. The other party wanted him to find trouble with the fifth dimension Tendo. The other party wanted to use him as a tool. Jiang Yu was silent for a long time, then shook his head and smiled. "No rush, I am not in a hurry now." If it was before, he would definitely go frantically to find the fifth dimension Tendo. But now he realized that this matter cannot be rushed. Everyone wanted the Tao scripture, and whoever was in a hurry would die first. At this moment, Jiang Yu suddenly felt very relaxed. When he was not too obsessed with the Tao scripture, his whole body relaxed. After the mysterious man left the Immortal Pavilion, he directly turned into a shadow and disappeared into the depths of the starry sky. But not long after, a woman suddenly appeared in front of him. The woman carried a roasted fish that was already half eaten, and there was a fish bone stuck on the corner of her mouth. The person who came was Mu Yanyan. Seeing Mu Yanyan, the mysterious man's expression changed. He turned and directly disappeared into the end of the starry sky, but very quickly he stopped because Mu Yanyan appeared in front of him again. Mu Yanyan looked at the mysterious man in front of him and smiled. "Continue to run." The mysterious man said in a deep voice, "Your Honor, I have no intention to offend you." Mu Yanyan smiled. "It seems like you did not take my words seriously." The mysterious man looked at Mu Yanyan. "Your Honor, our goal is only that Yi Xian, not Your Honor. Why does Your Honor have to interfere in this matter?" Mu Yanyan sighed. "To be honest, I am interfering in this matter for your own good." The mysterious man frowned. "What do you mean?" Mu Yanyan glanced at the mysterious man and shook his head. "You should be glad that I'm the one who intervened. If that woman had interfered, she wouldn't have told you not to come, but to kill you all. In all honesty, you should be thanking me. I've indirectly saved your godly kingdom of Shumia." The mysterious man looked at Mu Yanyan without saying a word. Obviously he didn't believe it. Mu Yanyan shook his head and smiled. "I've done a good deed, but you still view me as an enemy. It's so hard." With that she took out a long saber. "Come, I'll allow you to run 300 feet first." Without hesitation, the mysterious man turned and ran. He was extremely fast and arrived in front of the Tao World's barrier of the universe in the blink of an eye. However, just as he was about to enter the barrier of the universe, a saber suddenly tore through the sky. Before the mysterious man could react, the saber directly cut his neck. A bloody head flew into the air. It was incomparably bloody. The mysterious man's eyes were wide open, filled with helplessness and shock. The Supreme Lord's strength was even more terrifying than he had expected. In the distant starry sky, Mu Yanyan shrugged, put away the saber and continued to eat the fish. At this time Linger's voice suddenly sounded. "They won't take this lying down." Mu Yanyan smiled. "It's all right, they won't dare to act recklessly for the time being." Linger asked, "What about in the future?" Mu Yanyan said softly, "In the future it's his own business." In front of the Tao World's cosmic barrier, a middle-aged man suddenly appeared in front of the mysterious man's corpse. This person was the godly kingdom of Shumi's prime minister, Fang Tangshi. Fang Tangshi looked at the corpse for a long time before he turned around and saw a white-robed man standing in front of him. The white-robed man's long hair draped over his shoulders, and his hands were behind his back. His expression was calm and dignified. Fang Tangshi asked, "Brother Song, what do you think?" This person was the famous Supreme Wu of the godly kingdom of Shumi, in charge of the godly kingdom's most elite heaven-inspire army. Wu Ji glanced at the mysterious man's body and said softly, "He should be at that level." Upon hearing this, Fang Tangshi fell silent, and his expression became even more solemn. Wu Ji looked into the depths of the starry sky. At this time, Mu Yanyan, who was grilling fish, suddenly looked up, and the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. "Want to fight?" Wu Ji didn't waste any time and punched out. With this punch, a fist mark tore through space and blasted straight at Mu Yanyan. This fist mark contained boundless killing intent, and this killing intent was like a dreadful beast that no one dared to look directly at. Moreover, this fist mark also contained 3 types of Tao laws. Killing Tao law, fist intent Tao law, overbearing Tao law. All 3 types of Tao laws had reached their limits. This punch was no longer within the Tao. In the starry sky, Mu Yanyan put down the grilled fish in her hand. When the fist mark arrived in front of her, she took a step forward, and the space around her directly became illusory. When the fist mark arrived in front of her, she suddenly pointed out with a finger, and this finger directly touched the powerful fist mark. Bang! In an instant, the fist mark vanished without a trace. Everything vanished into thin air. The entire starry sky returned to calm. Wu Ji took a deep and long glance at Mu Yanyan and then he said, "Let's go." As soon as he finished speaking, both he and Fang Tangshi instantly became illusory. The corners of Mu Yanyan's mouth curled up slightly. "You think you can come and go as you please?" As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly clenched her right hand from afar. In an instant, Wu Ji and Fang Tangshi's illusory figures actually started to gradually become material. Their expressions changed when they witnessed this scene. Suddenly, Wu Ji withdrew a broken saber and slashed it forward, and a strand of saber energy tore through space and arrived in front of Mu Yanyan. However, Mu Yanyan merely waved her hand casually, and the saber energy vanished without a trace. Meanwhile, she'd appeared in front of Wu Ji and Fang Tangshi. However, a mysterious force suddenly appeared here. Moon Yinyan's brows knit together slightly. She raised her head and saw a tiny flying knife descending straight towards her. Moon Yinyan pressed her fingers together and pointed upwards. Bang! The space above her suddenly became illusory. However, the flying knife continued forward like a hot knife through butter. It tore through Moon Yinyan's force and instantly arrived above Moon Yinyan's head. However, it wasn't able to kill Moon Yinyan. The flying knife had stopped a few inches away from Moon Yinyan's head. To be more precise, it had been stopped by a strand of sword intent. Sword intent had appeared. Meanwhile, the flying knife suddenly became illusory and vanished. However, Wu Ji and Fang Tangshi had vanished as well. Moon Yinyan gazed at the universe barrier in front of her. After a moment of silence, she spoke softly, "There really isn't much time left." As soon as she finished speaking, she turned around and left the sixth dimension. At this moment, Yi Xian was still comprehending void escape. Moreover, the abbot and the others were still waiting outside the hall. About 5 days later, Yi Xian, who was sitting cross-legged in the hall, suddenly opened his eyes. All of a suddenly his aura began to grow stronger and stronger. After an unknown amount of time, Yi Xian suddenly stood up. The moment he stood up, the space he was in became illusory. A moment later, Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes and a powerful aura swept out from his body. However, this aura was quickly suppressed by a golden light. The power of Buddhist Dharma. At this moment, the ninth floor's voice suddenly sounded. Void escape. Yi Xian nodded. However, it's not the true void escape. The true void escape. Yi Xian furrowed his brows, because he realized that he was still within the path. His release of one was not the true release of one. The ninth floor suddenly said, "You've been taking big steps recently. Be careful not to pull your balls." Yi Xian, the ninth floor continued, "What you need to do now is to stabilize your realm and your body. Although your body is strong, it hasn't reached its limit. To be honest, the Buddhist Dharma in that ancient temple is quite good. You can learn more." Yi Xian nodded. During this period of time, he had also discovered this problem. That was, the Buddhist scriptures were very helpful in stabilizing his realm. Now, he was a bit curious about the Buddhist scriptures in the study room. The ancient temple cared about it so much. That Buddhist scripture must be a good thing. 5-dimensional Tendo. Yi Xian thought of Moon Yinyan. It seemed that he had to find a chance to talk to Moon Yinyan. As if thinking of something, Yi Xian suddenly said, "Big sister, can you help me hide my realm?" After a moment of silence, the big sister said, "Yes." Yi Xian asked, "Even those void release realm powerhouses can't see through it. Can I?" The big sister said, "Yes." After saying that, the Tao Law in the pagoda suddenly trembled. Soon a mysterious power sealed Yi Xian. Soon his aura was hidden. Yi Xian suddenly said, "Hiding the void release realm is enough." He finally understood. Pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger was the way of the king. If the enemy knew that he was at the void release realm, they would definitely prepare 120% of their strength to deal with him. But if he was still at the origin returning realm shattering realm, they would underestimate him. After a moment, Yi Xian left the hall. As soon as he left the hall, he saw the two abbot. The abbot looked at Yi Xian and was stunned. "You didn't break through?" Yi Xian sighed softly, his expression dim. "Just a bit of luck." The abbot had a strange expression. In his opinion, Yi Xian should be able to reach the void release realm. This fellow was not only thick-skinned, his talent was also very strong. But he did not expect that Yi Xian had not broken through to the void release realm. In slight disbelief, the abbot sized up Yi Xian. From his aura, although Yi Xian's aura was much stronger than before, he was still at the origin returning realm shattering realm. At this time Yi Xian suddenly said, "Actually just a bit, just a bit." The abbot asked, "What do you mean?" Yi Xian sighed softly, "I've already touched that threshold, but because of my own body, I'm still a bit away from breaking through that critical point." As he spoke, he shook his head and sighed once more, feeling slightly disheartened. The abbot hesitated for a moment and then said, "Don't be discouraged. Since you've already touched that threshold, then reaching the void release realm is only a matter of time. During this period of time, you should stay in the temple and cultivate the Dharma." Yi Xian nodded, "All right." Not long later, the abbot and the others left. Yi Xian was just about to leave when a voice suddenly resounded in his mind. Yi Xian was delighted, and then he vanished on the spot. Chapter 1256. Yi Xian arrived at a starry sky, where he saw Moon Yinyan. When he was below, he received Moon Yinyan's message. Yi Xian walked briskly to Moon Yinyan, smiling, Sister Nian, you're back. Sister Nian? Mu Nian smiled faintly. That's an interesting name. Yi Xian smiled sheepishly, then asked, Sister Nian, did you go to the Dao world during this time? Mu Nian nodded, yes. Yi Xian said seriously, the study house is in your hands, right? Mu Nian smiled, yes. But I can't return it to you now. Yi Xian quickly said, all right. Don't return it to me. This thing was a hot potato in his hands. It was much safer in Mu Nian's hands than in his. Mu Nian suddenly said, come with me. Yi Xian glanced at Mu Nian, nodding, all right. Mu Nian walked towards the depths of the starry sky. Do you know what's above the Dao world? Yi Xian nodded, yes, the godly kingdom of Shumi. Mu Nian glanced at Yi Xian. Did those monks tell you about it? Yi Xian nodded, yes. Mu Nian laughed, those monks are interesting. Yi Xian said solemnly, this godly kingdom of Shumi also wants the Dao scripture? Mu Nian nodded, the Dao scripture has more uses than you think. It should be said that the Dao world's Dao scripture is not complete. If I'm not wrong, the godly kingdom of Shumi also has the Dao scripture from heaven, but both are incomplete. Yi Xian said solemnly, I heard the Dao scripture has a total of 9 scrolls? Mu Nian smiled, yes. I have to say this is indeed a wonderful book. Yi Xian looked at Mu Nian. Sister Nian, are you not interested in this scripture at all? Mu Nian roared with laughter and said, I have my own path. Why would I need someone else to guide me? Yi Xian gave Mu Nian a thumbs up. Sis, you're awesome. Mu Nian shook his head, I'm not powerful at all. For example, I really can't beat the plain-dressed woman. Yi Xian almost fainted when he heard that. Mu Nian suddenly laughed, what else do you know about Dao Yi? Yi Xian asked in a deep voice, what kind of place is the realm of extreme bliss? He was very curious about the pure land of bliss that the ancient temple often talked about. Mu Nian said, the realm of extreme bliss is a place where a group of monks stay. Of course, the monks there are different from here. The monks there have much higher dharma and cultivation than here. They are also much stronger. Saying that, she looked at Yi Xian, you've become a layman disciple of the ancient temple? Yi Xian nodded, yes. Mu Nian said softly, the ancient temple is still fine, but the Buddhism in the realm of extreme bliss is not so easy to fool. Of course, now that you have become a layman disciple of the ancient temple, it means that you are very likely to come into contact with that place in the future. If you come into contact with that place, remember you must be very careful. Those bald donkeys are not simple, especially since they are also experts in karma spells. Yi Xian nodded, understood. Mu Nian said again, you also have to be careful of a group of people. Yi Xian quickly asked, what kind? Mu Nian looked at Yi Xian, a transmigrator. Yi Xian frowned slightly, the Milky Way realm? Mu Nian nodded, that place is a bit special. As far as I know, that place is guarded by a mysterious array and mysterious power. Ordinary people can't step into that place at all. However, they are also trapped in that place and cannot come into contact with the outside world. Of course, this is equivalent to protecting them. Yi Xian was a little puzzled, what do you mean? The corner of Mu Nian's mouth lifted slightly, the people in that place are actually very weak. In short, if you meet people from that place in the future, just be careful. Of course, there is no need to deliberately pay attention to them. Although they are special, you are even more special. Yi Xian asked, special? How am I special? Mu Nian laughed, you are special in every way. Yi Xian, Mu Nian continued, actually this universe is indeed very big and boundless. There are many unknown existences. Yi Xian said in a deep voice, that abbot also said that there is an ascension platform which is that whirling world. Sister Nian, do you know that place? Mu Nian nodded, I know about Dao Yi. Rumor has it that Dao scriptures came from that place. Yi Xian asked, rumor? Mu Nian rolled her eyes at Yi Xian, do you think that I know everything? Yi Xian smiled awkwardly. Yes. Mu Nian shook her head, I am not interested in investigating these things. For me, it is fine as long as it does not threaten the 5th dimension. Yi Xian asked again, is there really an underworld? Hearing this, Mu Nian suddenly frowned and looked at Yi Xian, did that bald donkey also say that? Yi Xian nodded. After a moment of silence, Mu Nian said, indeed there is. Yi Xian quickly asked, what kind of world is it? Mu Nian said lightly, a very scary place. Saying that, she pointed at herself, do you think I am powerful? Yi Xian nodded quickly, powerful, very powerful. Mu Nianyan looked at Yi Xian. I am not willing to provoke that place. Yi Xian was silent. Obviously this underworld was very scary. Mu Nianyan said again, that place is not simple. I also hope that you do not provoke that place. When the plain-dressed woman was still here, it was fine if you provoked it. But now that she is gone, if you provoke that place you will be killed. Yi Xian smiled awkwardly. I won't provoke you. Mu Nianyan shook her head. My intuition tells me that you will definitely provoke it. Yi Xian was a little puzzled. Why? Mu Nianyan said, you have the cause of adversity on you. The worse the situation, the easier it is for you to encounter it. It would be fine if you did not know about it, but the problem is that you know about it now. So, my thinking is that you will definitely come into contact with that place, and it will most likely be an evil fate. Yi Xian was speechless. Mu Nianyan said softly, you really make me worry. Yi Xian said in a low voice, Nianyan, you are so powerful. Do you know who gave me this cause of adversity? Mu Nianyan shook her head. I don't know. Yi Xian asked, can you investigate? Mu Nianyan looked at Yi Xian. Yes. Yi Xian was about to speak when Mu Nianyan said, we can investigate, but something bad will happen. Yi Xian frowned. What do you mean? Mu Nianyan laughed. It's like a tumor growing on an ordinary person's body. What do you think will happen if it is cut off? Yi Xian said in a low voice, you will die. Mu Nianyan nodded. The cause of calamity is similar to this. When we investigate it, if we investigate, the cause of adversity may completely erupt. Once it erupts, my intuition tells me that something bad will happen. Yi Xian said in a low voice, that is to say, no matter what I do, I will not be able to change my bad fate, right? Mu Nianyan suddenly patted Yi Xian's head. Idiot, do you know why you are able to live until now? Yi Xian said in a low voice, because of the plain-dressed woman. Mu Nianyan shook her head. It's not just because of her, but also because you are constantly striving to become stronger. I can put it this way, the plain-dressed woman once gave you a chance to choose. If you choose to be ordinary, you will definitely be able to live a rich life, because she can completely guard this universe and ensure your safety for 100 years. However, you chose the martial Dao. Since you have chosen this path, she can only accompany you to walk out of that place. And the martial Dao can only be walked by yourself. At most, she will be your Dao protector. Saying that, she looked at Yi Xian. You are actually constantly changing your fate. It should be said that every decision you make can change your fate. Among all living beings, many people are born into ordinary families, and many people start with a golden key. It can be said that this is very unfair, because some people's ending point is just others' starting point. However, everyone has the ability to change their fate. If your fate is not good, then it is fate that is unfair. But if your fate is not good, then it is your own problem. Yi Xian asked back, why are some people's lives good and some people's lives bad? Mu Nianyan looked at Yi Xian. When you walk, you might inadvertently step on an ant. Let me ask you, can that ant ask itself why its fate is not good? Yi Xian fell silent. Mu Nianyan softly said, Yi Xian, some people's bad fate is man-made, but many more people's bad fate is completely fate. And fate is uncertain, unknown. You don't know who this unknown will choose. If you are chosen, you can only try to change this fate, but you can't protest. That's not right. If you work hard to change your fate, it is equivalent to protesting. Humans are most afraid of blaming the heavens, feeling that the heavens are unfair. Saying that, she pointed below. Look at the countless ants walking under the starry sky, and you can casually take away a life with your foot. Have you ever thought of trampling them to death? No, when you trample them to death, you might not even know that you have trampled them to death. You humans, not only humans but also all living things, are equivalent to ants in the eyes of certain existences. Do you understand what I mean? Yi Xian nodded. I understand. Mu Nianyan continued, in this fifth dimension calamity many people will die, but there will also be some people who will survive. Simply put, when you have enough strength you can change your own fate. Just like me, if I didn't have strength, I would have long been captured and imprisoned by others to provide spiritual qi. As for the fifth dimension, it will also become a spiritual qi supply field for others. I really like the saying of humans, constantly strive to become stronger. This is a kind of spirit and also a kind of culture. However, humans tend to ignore this spirit and culture. Yi Xian looked at Mu Nianyan. Sister Nian, I understand. Mu Nianyan faintly smiled. It's good that you understand. Remember, don't complain that you have a calamity on your body. Nothing is absolute. As long as you use it well, many bad things can become good things. Mentality is very important. Yi Xian said with a smile, I will remember what you said. Mu Nianyan lightly patted Yi Xian's shoulder, then licked her lips. Sister is a bit hungry, go and catch some fish for me. After eating we will do something big. A very very big thing. Your sister I will go on a killing spree. Yi Xian. P.S. Why are there so few monthly votes? I think it might also be fate. Chapter 1257. Something big. Yi Xian's expression was a little strange. He didn't ask what it was and went to catch some fish. Soon Yi Xian caught 2 fish and cooked them for Mu Nianyan. The starry sky was deep and quiet. Yi Xian and Mu Nianyan sat opposite each other. In front of them was a bonfire and Yi Xian was roasting fish. Under normal circumstances, fire couldn't burn in the starry sky. However, neither of them were ordinary people. Not to mention burning in the starry sky, they could even blow up the starry sky. After a while, Yi Xian picked up a roasted fish and handed it to Mu Nianyan. Big Sister Nian, you said you were going to do something big. What is it? Mu Nianyan licked the roasted fish and said, to the godly kingdom of Shumi. Yi Xian was stunned. Mu Nianyan looked at Yi Xian. Do you dare to go? Yi Xian blinked. Big Sister Nian, are you playing some dirty trick again? Mu Nianyan rolled her eyes at Yi Xian. Am I that kind of person in your heart? Yi Xian smiled. Big Sister Nian is a good person. Mu Nianyan smiled. I'm going this time to buy some time for you. You can still deal with the Tao world and the ancient temple now, but that's under the condition that the godly kingdom of Shumi doesn't interfere. Yi Xian said solemnly, they've already interfered? Mu Nianyan nodded. Yi Xian looked at Mu Nianyan. Big Sister Nian, did you stop them? Mu Nianyan smiled. I persuaded them to go back. Yi Xian was speechless. Mu Nianyan continued, however they won't let it go so easily. So I want to take you there. Firstly, it's to solve this problem. Because if we don't intimidate them, although they won't do it openly, they will definitely cause trouble behind our backs. The second is to show you the world. See the world? Yi Xian nodded. All right. Needless to say, Huang Xiaolong really wanted to experience this godly kingdom of Shumi for himself. After Mu Nianyan finished the grilled fish, she looked at Yi Xian and said, the grilled fish is very good. Yi Xian smiled and said, I'll roast them for you often in the future. Mu Nianyan roared with laughter and said, let's go. To the godly kingdom of Shumi. Yi Xian hesitated for a moment before he said, should I explain it to him? Mu Nianyan shook his head. No, we'll be back soon. As soon as she finished speaking, she brought Yi Xian along and vanished on the spot. It didn't take long for them to arrive at the Tao world. Yi Xian noticed that it wasn't difficult for Mu Nianyan to ascend the Tao world at all. Moreover, he finally understood why it was so difficult for people from the lower dimensions to ascend the Tao world when he passed through the universe barrier. It was because it was extremely terrifying. The slightest mistake could result in death. Of course, it wasn't a threat to him at all. His current body could only be described as abnormal. Mu Nianyan was just about to break through the universe barrier when a voice resounded from the side. You're Yi Xian? Yi Xian turned around and saw a young woman standing not too far away from him. The young woman gazed at Yi Xian and blinked. I'm Chen Yaoni. Chen Yaoni. Yi Xian sized her up, and it wasn't long before he was visibly moved. This young woman was actually a Void Origin Realm expert. The young woman smiled and said, I wanted to look for you, but I never expected that you would come here yourself. Yi Xian was a little surprised. You know me? The young woman shook her head. I don't know you, but a big sister asked me to bring you a message. Yi Xian was a little curious. Big sister? The young woman said, it's a big sister wearing a plain dress. A plain dress woman. Yi Xian hurriedly asked, what did she say? Chen Yaoni smiled and said, she said that she's waiting for you above the clouds. You have to work hard. Above the clouds. Yi Xian was silent. He still remembered his agreement with the plain dress woman. Above the clouds. Yi Xian turned to look at the world barrier in front of him. Nian Nian, is she over there? Mu Nianyan shook her head. No. Yi Xian was about to speak when Mu Nianyan said, don't ask me where she went. I don't know anyway. Yi Xian smiled bitterly. He really did miss the plain dress woman a little. At this moment, the young woman suddenly smiled and said, are you going over there? Yi Xian collected his thoughts and nodded. Yes. Chen Yaoni shook her head. You can't go over because the universe barrier is very hard. You can't open it. At this moment, Mu Nianyan suddenly drew a line with his finger. In an instant the universe barrier cracked. Qinyani was dumbfounded. This? Mu Nianyan looked at Qinyani. You see, isn't this very simple? Qinyani blinked. This, isn't it a little off? Mu Nianyan smiled and said, What's wrong? Qinyani walked in front of the universe barrier. At this moment the universe barrier had automatically closed. Qinyani drew his sword and slashed. Boom. A powerful force blasted Qinyani 10,000 feet away. Yi Xian's expression changed. At this moment he suddenly realized that this universe barrier was not ordinary. The young woman in front of him was at the self-release realm. 10,000 feet away, Qinyani glanced at her numb arm and then looked at Mu Nianyan. Why? Mu Nianyan asked seriously, Do you want to know why? Qinyani hurriedly nodded. Mu Nianyan smiled and said, Because you're not strong enough. Qinyani was a little unconvinced. I'm the youngest self-release realm in the history of the Tao world. The corners of Mu Nianyan's mouth curled up. Is that so? Then why can't you open this universe barrier? Qinyani hesitated and then said, I didn't eat today. I don't have enough strength. Yi Xian was speechless. Ha ha. Mu Nianyan laughed loudly. I didn't eat. Little sister, you're so cute. Let me ask you, do you want to become a true self-release realm? Qinyani looked at Mu Nianyan. You can also see that I'm not a true self-release realm? Mu Nianyan nodded. Yes. Qinyani hesitated and then said, Sister, do you have a way to let me reach a true self-release realm? Mu Nianyan nodded. Yes. Qinyani looked at Mu Nianyan. Then can you teach me? Mu Nianyan shook her head. I can't. But, she pointed at Yi Xian. But he can. Qinyani glanced at Yi Xian and then shook her head. He hasn't reached self-release realm yet. Mu Nianyan smiled and said, He has a Tao scripture. Yi Xian was speechless. Qinyani said, I've heard about it too. She looked at Yi Xian. Do you really have a Tao scripture? Yi Xian nodded. Yes. Qinyani blinked. Can you lend it to me to take a look? Yi Xian also blinked. That's very precious. Qinyani said seriously, After I reached self-release realm, I forgot about it. Yi Xian was speechless. Qinyani said again, Can you? Yi Xian smiled. I can't open the book room right now and can't get the Tao scripture inside. How about this, you follow me? After I can open the book room and get the Tao scripture, I'll lend it to you. What do you think? Qinyani quickly said, Really? Yi Xian said seriously, Okay, I'll follow you. Qinyani hurriedly said, Okay, I'll follow you. Yi Xian looked at Mu Nianyan. Mu Nianyan smiled. We're going over there. Are you coming? Qinyani hesitated. Grandpa said that it's very dangerous there. Mu Nianyan smiled. Then you don't dare to go. Qinyani snorted coldly. Who doesn't dare to? Let's go. Mu Nianyan laughed. Let's go. She pointed with her finger. The universe barrier was cut open. The three of them disappeared into the universe barrier. At this time, the voice from the 9th floor suddenly sounded in Yi Xian's mind. This girl met you two super hoodwinkers? How unfortunate. Yi Xian was speechless. After entering the universe barrier, the three of them were sucked into a vortex by a powerful force. Space vortex. In the vortex, Mu Nianyan's expression was calm. She was not affected in the slightest. But Yi Xian and Qinyani were different. Their faces instantly turned pale. Yi Xian did not dare to be careless. He hurriedly urged his Vajra Buddha body. When the Vajra Buddha body appeared, he immediately felt much better. Yi Xian looked at Qinyani. Qinyani was surrounded by an invisible blade qi. The power of the space turbulence was unable to break through her blade qi. This girl is powerful. Yi Xian was shocked. Although this girl was not a true release one, her realm was the same as him. They were both fake release one. Moreover, this girl was at the release one realm. Most importantly, this last was still young. Mu Nianyan also looked at Qinyani. At this time Yi Xian's voice sounded in her mind. Sister Nian, what do you think of this girl? Mu Nianyan smiled. Not bad. Not bad. Yi Xian glanced at Mu Nianyan, not saying a word. Mu Nianyan continued, Talent is important, but temperament is even more important. This girl has not experienced a great calamity. Her temperament and temperament are lacking. In the future there will be a calamity. Yi Xian fell silent. Temperament. That's right, this girl is clearly well protected. She lacks worldly wisdom. At this time, Qinyani suddenly asked, Where are we going? Mu Nianyan looked at Qinyani, smiling, To the godly kingdom of Shumi. Do you know of the godly kingdom of Shumi? Qinyani shook her head. I don't know. She hesitated for a moment before asking, can we still go back? Mu Nianyan smiled, yes. Just as Qinyani was about to speak, a powerful force suddenly swept toward them from afar. Yi Xian looked into the distance. In the space turbulence, a figure suddenly broke through the void. It was a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man looked at Yi Xian's group and bellowed, who are you? How dare you trespass into the godly kingdom of Shumi? Could it be? Yi Xian was about to speak when Mu Nianyan suddenly waved her right hand. Boom. Before the middle-aged man could react, his head flew into the air, blood splattering everywhere. Yi Xian and Qinyani were stunned. They looked at Mu Nianyan. Mu Nianyan chuckled, we're here to fight, not to chat. Yi Xian, Qinyani hesitated, then said, Big sister, I think before you kill him, you should let him finish. Yi Xian, Mu Nianyan looked at Qinyani, smiling, why? Qinyani glanced at Mu Nianyan, hesitated for a moment, then said, if someone kills me and doesn't let me finish, I'll regret it. Yi Xian. Chapter 1258. Needless to say, Yi Xian was at a loss for words at this moment. This Qinyani's way of thinking was really out of the ordinary. Mu Nianyan also shook his head with a smile. What an adorable little guy. She walked over to Mu Nianyan's side, and then she glanced towards the distance and said, I feel that it's quite dangerous. Yi Xian looked up. He also sensed danger at the moment. Mu Nianyan smiled, someone's coming. Just as her voice fell, a short distance in front of them shook violently, and in the next moment, a middle-aged man appeared in front of them. This person was none other than the godly kingdom of Shumi's prime minister, Fang Tangshi. Fang Tangshi looked at Mu Nianyan, great venerable one. Mu Nianyan smiled, we meet again. Fang Tangshi's solemn voice sounded, great venerable one wants to challenge my godly kingdom of Shumi? The corner of Mu Nianyan's mouth curved upwards, can't I? Fang Tangshi looked at Mu Nianyan, not saying a word. In truth, the godly kingdom of Shumi wasn't afraid of this woman in front of them. However, they didn't want to risk their lives against Mu Nianyan. If this kind of expert disregarded everything and fought the godly kingdom of Shumi, it would be very, very damaging to the godly kingdom of Shumi. At this time, Mu Nianyan suddenly took out Yi Xian's study, smiling, tell His Majesty, this study is in my hands and inside this study is the Tao scripture. Fang Tangshi looked at Mu Nianyan. At this moment, he couldn't understand Mu Nianyan's meaning. What was she trying to do? Arrogant? Confident? Fang Tangshi's expression grew more solemn. An expert like Mu Nianyan would never be stupid or arrogant. Since she dared to come here, there was only one explanation, she was confident. Mu Nianyan suddenly laughed, didn't you want the Tao scripture? I've brought it to you. Fang Tangshi looked at Mu Nianyan, great venerable one, please wait. With that said, he turned and left. At this time, Mu Nianyan suddenly said, no need. Fang Tangshi looked at Mu Nianyan. Mu Nianyan smiled and said, I'm here to kill, not to negotiate. After saying that, she clenched her right hand at Fang Tangshi. Boom. The space around Fang Tangshi instantly turned illusory. Fang Tangshi's expression changed drastically. He wanted to retreat, but it was still too late. That powerful force trapped him. At this moment, a flying knife suddenly appeared above Mu Nianyan's head. When the flying dagger appeared, Yi Xian and Qinyani's expressions changed drastically. Danger. This was what the two of them were feeling at this moment. Yi Xian's expression was incomparably grave. His intuition told him that his body could not withstand this flying dagger. Mu Nianyan's lips curled into a cold smile. She ignored the flying dagger and clenched her right hand. Boom. That Tangshi was directly killed. His divine soul was destroyed. Because Fang Tangshi's entire body was erased. At this time, the flying dagger above Mu Nianyan's head stopped, blocked by a wisp of sword intent. Mu Nianyan looked into the distance, snickering, do you really think this broken knife of yours can stop me? Saying so, she snapped her fingers. Boom. The flying dagger shattered into pieces. Mu Nianyan looked into the distance, snickering, come, let me see how much your godly kingdom of Shumi is willing to pay to kill me. Saying so, she turned and walked away. Yi Xian and Qinyani hastily followed. Qinyani nudged Yi Xian with his arm, she's so strong. Yi Xian nodded. It was obvious that Mu Nianyan was stronger than he expected. Just how strong was Mu Nianyan? At this time, a white light suddenly appeared in front of them. Soon, the three of them passed through the white light and arrived above a sea. At first glance, all they could see were tall mountains. Yi Xian looked at Mu Nianyan. Mu Nianyan smiled. This is the godly kingdom of Shumi, also known as the godly world of Shumi. Yi Xian hesitated. I heard that the godly kingdom of Shumi's royal family has ancestral blood, is that right? Mu Nianyan laughed. Yes, very powerful ancestral blood. Yi Xian hastened to ask, compared to my bloodline which is stronger? Mu Nianyan winked. How about I let you fight it out later? Yi Xian pondered. How about I let you fight it out later? Mu Nianyan laughed heartily. Here it comes. Just as her voice fell, a middle-aged man appeared in the sky in front of them. Songji. The godly kingdom of Shumi's heaven-inspire army's commander. Songji looked at Mu Nianyan. Don't you think you're going too far? Mu Nianyan laughed. You're not convinced? Come and hit me then. Songji's eyes narrowed, his right hand clenched into a fist, but at this time Mu Nianyan punched out, scram. His voice was like thunder, shaking heaven and earth. His voice was laced with fist intent. Under this punch, Songji's expression changed greatly. He crossed his arms and suddenly pushed them forward. Heaven shaking earth. Just as his voice fell, an illusory 10,000 zhang tall mountain appeared in front of Songji. This mountain spanned across heaven and earth like an impenetrable fortress. However, as Mu Mu chanted, the fist arrived, causing the illusory mountain to tremble violently. Then it cracked open and shattered. Boom. Songji retreated 10,000 zhang away in an instant. Directly crushed. Yi Xian glanced at Mu Nianyan, inwardly shocked. How strong is this Sister Nian? Qinyani was extremely shocked as well. Unlike Yi Xian, she was shocked inwardly and her eyes were wide open. At this moment she wasn't confident anymore. She'd always felt that she was very formidable, but now she suddenly felt that she wasn't so formidable anymore. In the distant sky, Songji stared fixedly at Mu Nianyan, and he was extremely shocked as well. The strength of this woman had greatly exceeded his expectations. I'm not a match for her at all. Songji's body gradually became illusory when he thought up to this point. I'm leaving. The corners of Mu Nianyan's mouth curled up slightly. You want to leave? As soon as she finished speaking, she was about to attack. Suddenly, 4 middle-aged men with sword chests on their backs appeared not too far away from Mu Nianyan. The man with the sword chest in the lead stared at Mu Nianyan. The immortal sword sect seeks your guidance. As soon as he finished speaking, he pointed with his fingers. Attack. Boom. 4 sword howls suddenly resounded, and then 4 flying swords suddenly shot into the sky. The flying swords were like 4 shooting stars that slashed down swiftly like bolts of lightning. Yi Xian's expression gradually became solemn when he witnessed this scene. Because all 4 of them had actually attained the unrestrained sword Dao. Their attainments in the sword Dao were actually so high. The 4 flying swords slashed at Mu Nianyan from 4 different angles. Needless to say, they were extremely formidable and they swept through everything in their path. Mu Nianyan shook her head. How showy. As soon as she finished speaking, she stomped her right foot lightly against the ground. Bang. In an instant, the 4 swords stopped in midair, and then she spun her hand lightly. Slash. As soon as she finished speaking, the 4 swords turned around and slashed at the 4 swordsmen. The expressions of the 4 swordsmen changed drastically when they witnessed this scene, and they were just about to control the 4 flying swords when their speed suddenly rose explosively. Before the 4 swordsmen could react, their heads were sent flying. Blood spurted out like a fountain. Blood spurted out like a fountain. Mu Nianyan's right hand waved, the 4 flying swords fell in front of Yi Xian. Take them. Yi Xian quickly put away the 4 flying swords. These were good toys. At this time, Mu Nianyan looked up at the horizon, a smile on his face. Ruler of Shumi, not coming out to meet me? Or do you want to continue sending people to their deaths? At this time, a silhouette appeared in the sky. It was a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was clad in a white dragon robe, with a dragon crown on his head, exuding an invisible pressure. Not only that, there were golden dragons hovering around him. Yi Xian asked softly, "This is the ruler of the godly kingdom of Shumi?" Mu Nianyan nodded, replying with a smile, "Yes." Yi Xian looked at the ruler of the godly kingdom of Shumi. He couldn't sense the other party's aura. Obviously, the other party's strength was above self-release realm. This also meant that Mu Nianyan's strength was also above self-release realm. Above self-release realm. Thinking of this, Yi Xian's scalp went numb. This woman had reached above self-release realm, but she was still in the 5th dimension. How could those people from the 5th dimension fight her? Forget about the 5th dimension, even the Dao world couldn't fight her. This elder sister Nian was too abnormal. Yi Xian was shocked, because he had guessed Mu Nianyan's strength. In his heart, this Mu Nianyan might be at the peak of self-release realm, a true self-release realm, but he didn't expect that the other party was already above self-release realm. In the sky, the ruler of the godly kingdom of Shumi looked at Mu Nianyan. "Your Excellency is very arrogant." Mu Nianyan smiled. "I'll give you two choices. 1. In 3 years no one from the godly kingdom of Shumi is allowed to step into the Tao world. 2. Kill me now. Of course it's also possible that I'll kill you." The godly kingdom of Shumi's ruler laughed. "Let me experience your Excellency's strength." Mu Nianyan nodded. "Fine." Saying so, she opened her palm. "Sword, come." As her voice fell, a sword suddenly flew out from Yi Xian's body, appearing in Mu Nianyan's hand in the next moment. Tendo sword. Mu Nianyan looked at Yi Xian, smiling. "Watch carefully, see how your elder sister Nian uses a sword." As soon as she finished speaking, she raised her sword and slashed towards the sky. A sword chi pierced through the air. It was a very simple sword chi flying out, even Yi Xian couldn't see anything special about it. However, the godly kingdom of Shumi's ruler's face changed. His expression became incomparably solemn. At this time, the godly kingdom of Shumi's ruler suddenly opened his palm, then clenched it. "Defend." As his voice fell, the golden dragon beside him suddenly roared, then turned into a golden light, blocking in front of him. The sword chi arrived. Boom. The golden light shattered, followed by a shrill scream that resounded in the sky. It was the golden dragon's. The golden dragon's voice was mixed with endless pain. As for the godly kingdom of Shumi's ruler himself, he retreated explosively, retreating tens of thousands of li, but the sword chi did not dissipate. As soon as the godly kingdom of Shumi's ruler stopped, his body crumbled, and at the same time, a sword chi appeared a zhang in front of him. The sword chi did not kill the godly kingdom of Shumi's ruler. At this time, countless experts appeared in the surroundings. Among them there were more than 30 self-release realm experts. Besides them there were some unknown experts and more experts were rushing over here. Yi Xian's expression became incomparably solemn. This godly kingdom of Shumi was actually this terrifying. P.S. Asking for votes. Chapter 1259. Yi Xian hastily said, No, Sister Nian, you're here." The experts in the surroundings had extremely strange expressions on their faces as well. Of course, there was even more seriousness in their eyes. The godly kingdom of Shumi's heavenly lord was defeated with a single slash. At this moment they were extremely shocked. Mu Nianyan smiled, ignoring the experts around her. She walked to the godly kingdom of Shumi's heavenly lord. "I think we can talk now. What do you say?" The godly kingdom of Shumi's heavenly lord looked at Mu Nianyan. "Talk." In the end, he didn't choose to be stubborn. First, if he chose to be stubborn he would die. Second, these people might not be able to keep this woman here. This woman was several times stronger than he expected. Hearing the godly kingdom of Shumi's heavenly lord's words, Mu Nianyan smiled. "All right, my idea is simple. As long as I'm alive, you can't come looking for trouble with this little friend of mine, all right?" The godly kingdom of Shumi's heavenly lord glanced at Yi Xian. "Agreed." Mu Nianyan laughed. "Good." Then she looked at Yi Xian. "Let's go." Yi Xian was taken aback. "They're leaving just like that?" Mu Nianyan turned and left. Yi Xian and Qinyani quickly followed. At this time, dozens of divine senses suddenly formed a net and enveloped Mu Nianyan's group. Mu Nianyan looked around. "Do you have a death wish?" The experts around looked at Mu Nianyan without a word. Although there was fear in their eyes, there was no fear. Because there were too many people. The godly kingdom of Shumi's heavenly lord suddenly said, "Let them go." Hearing this, the experts around retreated. Mu Nianyan turned to look at the godly kingdom of Shumi's heavenly lord, smiling. "You might not believe it, but I'm doing this to save you. Because I have a good temper and I'm reasonable. If it were someone else you wouldn't be so lucky." Everyone, the godly MT Shumi's heavenly lord glared at Mu Nianyan, but at this time Mu Nianyan had already left with Yi Xian's group. Get someone else to do it? Who would replace him? There was a trace of doubt in the godly kingdom's sovereign god's mind. At this time, Song Ji appeared in front of the godly kingdom of godly MT Shumi. His solemn voice sounded, "Prime Minister Fang has been erased. The well of reincarnation cannot detect it." God Lord Shumi's eyes narrowed. "She's much stronger than we imagined." Song Ji said in a deep voice, "That Tao scripture." God Lord Shumi said softly, "It's fine, we won't take it for now." As he spoke, he raised his head to look at the distant horizon and said in a light voice, "If I'm not wrong, then those places have already found out about the appearance of the Tao scripture. I want to see if she can guard the 5 dimensions by herself. Tao scriptures. The people of the Tao world did not understand enough about the Tao scripture, which was actually the source of the martial Tao. In the past, when the heavens sent down the Tao scripture, it was not only the Tao world that sent it down, the godly kingdom of godly Mt Shumi also had it. Of course, this was something they found out later on. It was rumored that if one gathered all the pages of the Tao scripture, they could comprehend the true meaning of the martial Tao and become invincible. And the Tao scripture was said to have come from the Ascension platform. Inside the cosmos barrier, Mu Nianyan brought Yi Xian and Chen Yaoni as they shuttled back and forth. Mu Nianyan looked at Yi Xian. What do you think? Yi Xian said in a deep voice, they're very strong. Mu Nianyan smiled, they're stronger than what you've seen. Because just now there were at least 10 self-release realm experts. Moreover, there are some old monsters who haven't come out yet. Yi Xian, Chen Yaoni suddenly said, Big sister, aren't you afraid? Mu Nianyan shook her head and smiled, what's there to be afraid of? Chen Yaoni said with some excitement, you can kill them, right? Mu Nianyan laughed heartily. I can kill them but there's no need. Chen Yaoni was a little puzzled, why? Mu Nianyan blinked, because I crippled their divine lord with one sword strike. That's enough. Hearing this, Yi Xian understood. He knew why Mu Nianyan went to find divine lord Shumi as soon as he appeared in the godly kingdom of Shumi, killing the chicken to warn the monkey, heavily injuring divine lord Shumi with one sword strike, intimidating the surrounding experts. Mu Nianyan glanced at Yi Xian then said, do you think they'll give up? Yi Xian thought about it then shook his head. Mu Nianyan nodded, they definitely won't give up. I've thought about it, if I'm not wrong, they'll probably contact the other places in the Western Paradise to discuss how to deal with you. If they're cautious, they'll choose to act during the 5th dimension tribulation because that's the most difficult time for us. Yi Xian asked, then what should we do? Mu Nianyan blinked, that's a question you should be thinking about. In any case, if I can't beat them, I'll just run. Yi Xian, Mu Nianyan continued, in this half a year you won't have much trouble or problems, but after this half a year, you won't be able to rest for even a moment. Yi Xian fell silent. Mu Nianyan softly said, I can only help you fight for this half a year. In this half a year, do as you see fit. Yi Xian looked at Mu Nianyan, Sister Nian, thank you. Mu Nianyan smiled, what are you thanking me for? Yi Xian hesitated, then said, Sister Nian, if they want to act, they'll definitely think of a way to deal with you. Mu Nianyan looked at Yi Xian, smiled, what's the use of dealing with me? I can't beat them but I can run away, right? But you won't have the chance to run, do you understand what I mean? Yi Xian nodded, I understand. Mu Nianyan softly said, half a year. Remember, you only have half a year. As for what you do in this half a year, that's your business. Don't even think about finding the plain-dressed woman. She's not in the Western Paradise, she should be in a place that even I don't know. Saying this, she looked at Yi Xian, even I don't know, do you know what this means? Yi Xian hesitated, then said, what does it mean? Mu Nianyan smiled, it means it's very troublesome. Yi Xian was about to speak, but they'd already left the universe barrier and appeared in the Tao world. Mu Nianyan took a deep breath and said, the taste of the 5th dimension is still better. I have some things to do, so don't come looking for me if there's nothing important during this period of time, and don't come looking for me if there's something because I'm very busy. In short, take care of yourself. Saying this, she vanished into thin air. On the spot, Yi Xian was silent. Half a year. He only had half a year now. And his enemy wasn't a void escape realm, but above it. But this time was different. This time, Mu Nianyan had delayed half a year for him. Half a year. Yi Xian looked up into the sky and said softly, half a year, what can I do? Chen Yaoni suddenly said, become stronger. Become stronger. Yi Xian smiled, indeed. Saying this, he looked at Chen Yaoni, will you come with me to the 5th dimension? Chen Yaoni hesitated, then said, I'm afraid grandfather won't let me. Yi Xian blinked, don't you want to be as strong as that sister? Chen Yaoni blinked, are you Tao scripture? Yi Xian nodded, yes. Chen Yaoni hesitated, then said, will you really let me see it? Yi Xian smiled, if I can open that study room I'll definitely let you see it. But I have to remind you, it's very dangerous to go down with me. Moreover, I want you to go down with me because I hope you can help me fight. Of course, if I don't die, what can I do? Open the Tao scripture, I'll definitely share it with you. Chen Yaoni smiled, you're very frank. I like your frankness. I'll go down with you. Yi Xian laughed, "Let's go." Saying this, he disappeared with Qin Yaoni. Yi Xian didn't directly return to the fifth dimension. Instead, he brought Qin Yaoni to the Demon Path clan. In front of the Demon Path hall, when Mo Zhong saw Yi Xian, he was overjoyed and quickly said, "Son-in-law, you're here?" Yi Xian smiled, "Senior Mo Zhong, I'm not your family's son-in-law." Mo Zhong said in a deep voice, "You are." Yi Xian was speechless. At this time, Mo Zhong suddenly said, "Son-in-law, please follow me." Saying this, he brought Yi Xian and Qin Yaoni to the Demon Path hall. Inside the hall, Yi Xian saw Demon Xiao Dao. Yi Xian walked in front of Demon Xiao Dao and said with a smile, "Are you all right?" Demon Xiao Dao looked at Yi Xian and said with a smile, "Very good. What about you?" Yi Xian smiled lightly, "Very good." Demon Xiao Dao looked at Qin Yaoni, and Yi Xian quickly introduced her. "She's Qin Yaoni we just met." Qin Yaoni. Hearing this, Demon Xiao Dao and Mo Zhong's expressions changed. Demon Xiao Dao looked at Qin Yaoni. "You're that Qin Yaoni?" Qin Yaoni blinked. "You know me?" Demon Xiao Dao said in a deep voice, "Aren't you our Dao World's #1 monster?" Qin Yaoni smiled, "Yes, I'm the Dao World's #1 monster." Yi Xian was speechless. Demon Xiao Dao looked at Qin Yaoni and then looked at Yi Xian. "Did you come alone?" Yi Xian shook his head. "I came with Moon Yin Yin. She took me to the Meru Kingdom." Then he told him what had happened in the Meru Kingdom. Demon Xiao Dao was silent for a long time before he said, "What do you think?" Yi Xian smiled bitterly. "I only have half a year. What else can I think?" Demon Xiao Dao looked at Yi Xian. "Why did she give you half a year? Have you thought about this?" Yi Xian fell silent. Demon Xiao Dao said softly, "No matter what the reason is, you just have to remember that you have to cherish this half a year. You might have to face more things in half a year. Do you understand what I mean?" Yi Xian nodded. "Understood." Demon Xiao Dao nodded slightly. Deep in her eyes there was a trace of worry. In a certain part of the fifth dimension, Moon Yin Yin was walking alone. In her right hand was a small roasted fish. But she didn't eat it. At this time Moon Yin Yin coughed. This cough caused her face to turn pale. Ling suddenly said, "You're injured." Moon Yin Yin shook her head. "They can't hurt me. It's the cause of disaster." Then she looked at her right hand. In her right palm there was a shallow blood stain. Moon Yin Yin's mouth curled up. "Interesting. You want to kill me so openly." Ling said, "Is it because you interfered with his matters?" Moon Yin Yin said softly, "I bought him half a year. This is the price." Ling said anxiously, "You're so powerful. Can't you cut off this cause of disaster?" Moon Yin Yin looked at the light red blood stain in her hand. "I can. But I can't do that." Ling was puzzled. "Why?" Moon Yin Yin smiled. "If it was before, I would definitely play with this cause of disaster. But now, my body can't take it. Moreover, big trouble is coming. I can't deal with this cause of disaster." Then she looked around and said softly, "I don't know how long I can see this beautiful world." Chapter 1260. Yi Xian had returned to the five-dimensional universe. For him, he had to cherish every day in the future. Half a year. After being enlightened by Demon Xiao Dao, he understood what this half a year meant. Half a year. It was not a lot, but it was not a small amount. Of course, the premise was that he had to make good use of this half a year. Within the Fifth Dimension Alliance Palace, Guanyin was reporting to Yi Xian about the matters of the Fifth Dimension. After a long time, Yi Xian softly said, "We are developing very quickly." In the Fifth Dimension there were 5 self-release realm experts. They were Xiao Qi, Arrow, and Lanxiu, Zhang Wenxiu, and Senior Sister Lu. What surprised him was that Ajiu and Situ had not reached self-release realm. It was not that they could not reach it, but that they did not want to. Their goal was to truly reach self-release realm. Moreover, although they were not at self-release realm, their battle strength had already surpassed ordinary self-release realm experts. There were already more than 50 half-step self-release realm experts, and there were countless origin-returning realm-shattering realm experts. The current overall strength of the Fifth Dimension was several times stronger than before. Guanyin said in a deep voice, "From now on our improvement might slow down." Yi Xian softly said, "We should also slow down." Continuing to improve so quickly was not a good thing. The current Fifth Dimension was already like a seedling being spoiled by excessive enthusiasm. Guanyin looked at Yi Xian, "Should we slow down?" Yi Xian nodded, "Everyone can slow down but we cannot stop cultivating." During this period of time, everyone should properly stabilize their martial path realm. Guanyin nodded, understood. Yi Xian looked at Guanyin and smiled. Lady Guan, our future might not be peaceful. Guanyin said in a deep voice, I have already made my mental preparations. Yi Xian nodded. During this period of time, you can also properly cultivate. As for the matters of the Fifth Dimension Alliance, you can slowly hand them over to others. Guanyin nodded, all right. Actually, she needed to stop for a while. Because she had been dealing with everything by herself, this had seriously delayed her cultivation. Otherwise, she would have had a high chance of reaching self-release. After chatting with Guanyin for a while, Yi Xian left the hall and went to Tendo's pawn shop alone. The pawn shop was completely empty. Yi Xian sat behind the counter and took out a small wooden figurine. Looking at the wooden figurine in his hand, his thoughts gradually drifted away. Yi Ling. Where the hell did she go? Could be said that Yi Ling was the most important person in his life. Initially, Yi Xian's thoughts were very simple. He wanted to live well and let his sister live well. However, later on he slowly realized that things were not so simple. First was his identity. Thinking of his identity gave him a headache. Prophet. Chinger. The azure-robed man. There was still another unknown. He was actually so complicated. Although he had always said that he was Yi Xian, he knew that things were not that simple. For example, if not for the plain-dressed woman, he would not be Yi Xian but Yi Qingji. Reincarnation. In the past, he did not believe in the so-called past and present lives. But now he had no choice but to believe. When people cultivated to a certain level, reversing life and death might be a bit difficult, but interfering with one's own reincarnation was not a problem. As for Yi Ling, he felt that her identity might not be simple. Actually, he had a question in his heart. That was, he had the crazy demon bloodline but Yi Ling did not. There was also Du Guxian. When she left, she said that she was looking for someone, but this time, it was as if she had disappeared from the world. A trace of confusion flashed in Yi Xian's eyes. Just who was he? He had always thought that he was Yi Xian, that it was that simple. But now he realized that this was just his own wishful thinking. Yi Xian was not just Yi Xian. At this moment, Yi Xian's eyes became more and more confused. Lost. It was impossible for a person's life to be smooth all the time. Many times, it was possible to lose oneself and feel confused about the future. Some people could wake up and walk the road in front of them again, but there were more people who lost themselves. At this moment he was a little confused because of this problem of karma. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded in Yi Xian's mind. You are you. The voice from the 9th floor. Yi Xian was slightly stunned. The next moment, a smile gradually appeared on his face. He shook his head and smiled. He had actually made a stupid mistake. If he was not himself, who else could he be? Why should he care too much about the past and present lives? He just had to live according to his own ideas. No matter what the past life was, it was the past life. No matter what the next life was, it was the next life and had nothing to do with him. This life was the most important. Forget about the past life, forget about the next life, live well in the present. At this moment he suddenly thought of a Buddhist saying that he learned in the ancient temple. How can there be enlightenment? Today I know that I am who I am. Let it go. This sentence meant to let it go. There was an eminent monk in Buddhism who was too obsessed with enlightenment and lost himself. When he chose to let it go, he directly achieved enlightenment. Not being obsessed with any realm, there is no enlightenment to pursue. Forgetting everything, transcending the mortal realm, breaking through all kinds of delusions. Originally there was nothing, how could it be stained with dust? This was a Buddhist saying in Buddhist scriptures. When he first heard it he did not know what it meant. But now he suddenly understood. The past life was the past life, the next life was the next life, and he, Yi Xian, was this life. It was enough to live well in this life. Why did he care about the past life? Why did he care about the next life? Because whether it was the past life or the next life, that was not him, Yi Xian. That was another Yi Xian. What he needed to do now was to live well in this life. This life was his true self. Thinking of this, Yi Xian's body suddenly surged with a dazzling Buddhist light. Not only that, but the endless power of Buddhist Dharma in his body began to overflow and then revolved around him. Looking at the Buddhist light around him, Yi Xian was a little stunned. What was this? At this moment, the power of Buddhist Dharma suddenly surged toward his brow. Soon, a golden swastika character appeared between his eyebrows. Yi Xian was a little confused. If the abbot of the ancient temple was here, he would definitely be shocked. Because this was one of the realms of Buddhism. Spiritual insight. It was to clearly understand oneself and achieve enlightenment in one's heart. This realm was very, very rare in Buddhism. Usually it only appeared on those eminent monks. Someone as young as Yi Xian was very rare even in the realm of ultimate bliss. In fact, Yi Xian did not realize that after his spiritual insight, he lost some unknown karma. Some karmic entanglements were not innate but caused by oneself. It could be said that the karma on his body could only be severed by himself. It was difficult for outsiders to interfere. Yi Xian realized that the power of Buddhist Dharma in his body seemed to have become stronger. As if he thought of something, he immediately activated his Vajrabuddha body. After the appearance of the Vajrabuddha body, he was stunned. This was because the Vajrabuddha body was stronger than before. At this moment, the voice from the 9th floor suddenly sounded in Yi Xian's mind. Buddhism is like this. They pay attention to enlightenment, very similar to you swordsmen. I suddenly realized that, kid, you have the potential to become a monk. Why don't you just become a monk? Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. If I have Buddha in my heart, so what if I'm not a monk? If I don't have Buddha in my heart, so what if I'm a monk? As soon as his voice fell, the swastika character between his eyebrows suddenly trembled violently. The next moment, a golden light shot out from the Tendo pawnshop and into the sky. At the same time, the power of Buddhist Dharma in Yi Xian's body that was originally silent suddenly swept out like a tidal wave. Boom! The entire boundless underground city was directly enveloped by the power of Buddhist Dharma. Suddenly, the color of the swastika character between Yi Xian's eyebrows deepened. Yi Xian was a little stunned. My power of Buddhist Dharma became stronger again? At this moment, the 9th floor suddenly said, "You're really sick. You're not human at all." Yi Xian. At this moment, a monk suddenly appeared in front of Yi Xian. The person who came was the ancient temple's monk Jiwu. When he saw the swastika character between Yi Xian's eyebrows, he was slightly stunned and then said with a trembling voice, "This is spiritual insight." Yi Xian blinked his eyes. "Master, what's wrong?" Jiwu clasped his hands together. "Young Master Yi, have you achieved Tao validation?" Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. "I think so." Jiwu smiled bitterly. "Young Master Yi, you have achieved spiritual insight, but you are too calm." Yi Xian looked at Jiwu. "Master, is spiritual insight very difficult?" Jiwu's smile became even more bitter. "Young Master Yi, in my ancient temple, apart from an ancestor, no one has reached this realm. What do you think?" Yi Xian was silent for a moment, then said, "The more you care about it, the harder it is." Jiwu was slightly stunned, then bowed respectfully. "Thank you, young Master Yi, for your advice." Just as Yi Xian was about to speak at this moment, 2 old monks suddenly appeared in front of Yi Xian. They were the ancient temple's abbot and the governor elder. The abbot looked at Yi Xian. When he saw the swastika character between Yi Xian's eyebrows, he was stunned. After a moment, he clasped his hands together, his eyes filled with a complicated expression. Spiritual insight. Throughout the history of the ancient temple, only 2 people were able to achieve this realm. He had never expected that Yi Xian had actually achieved it. But how many years had it been since Yi Xian achieved it? What a monster. The governor elder felt extremely complicated in his heart as well. This slippery fellow has actually attained spiritual insight. How can I live with that? After all, once one attained spiritual insight, then cultivating the Dharma would yield twice the results with half the effort. At this moment, the Dharma energy on Yi Xian's body was still growing stronger. The abbot hesitated for a moment and then said, "Young Master Yi, can you tell me how you attained spiritual insight?" Yi Xian looked at the abbot. "Abbot, you are an eminent monk and your attainments in the Dharma far surpass mine. However, I feel that there is something wrong with you." The abbot said, "Young Master Yi, please speak." Yi Xian smiled. "You care too much. Just like now, why do you care about this so-called realm? Is the ultimate goal of cultivating the Dharma to attain enlightenment?" The abbot was stunned when he heard this, and the prayer beads in his hand suddenly broke and scattered all over the ground. P.S. What is a monthly ticket? It's dust. All these years I've been too obsessed with monthly tickets. Now I've let it go. I don't want a monthly ticket. I don't want a monthly ticket. Chapter 1261. What was the purpose of cultivating Buddhism? This question stumped the abbot. A trace of confusion appeared in the abbot's eyes. What was the purpose of cultivating Buddhism in the first place? It was to cultivate. Learning Buddhism was to become a Buddha. Learning Buddhism was to change oneself. Learning Buddhism was to cultivate one's mind. And he did it. But then it slowly changed. At this time Yi Xian suddenly said, in the Tripitaka Sutra, there is a saying, don't create, don't create, don't create, don't create karma, don't pursue stubbornly. Master, have you done it? The abbot clasped his hands together and shook his head. Yi Xian continued, many times stubbornness is a prison that traps oneself. Letting it go is the same as opening the prison. And now, everyone in the ancient temple is imprisoned by themselves. As he said this, he looked at the abbot and smiled, Master, forgive me for being blunt, but you are too stubborn about the study in the Tao canon. A senior once told me that the Tao canon can indeed allow one to reach above self-release or even higher, but that is a path given by others. But if others don't give us a path, do we have no path to walk? Our feet are on the body and the path is in the heart, so why do we need others to give us a path? Hearing this, the abbot looked deeply at Yi Xian and clasped his hands together. Young Master Yi, I am not as good as you. Stubbornness. At this moment he understood why Yi Xian was so perceptive. It was not a moment of enlightenment. Yi Xian giving up the study was a kind of realm in itself. No, it should be said that Yi Xian did not care too much about the study, nor did he want to rely on the study to become stronger like everyone else. He did not care and he was not stubborn. The abbot suddenly said, Young Master Yi, come with us to the ancient temple to cultivate. How about it? Yi Xian smiled, I will go but not now, I still have something to deal with. The abbot clasped his hands together. Okay, we will wait for young Master Yi in the ancient temple. As he said this he turned around and left with the governor elder. A moment later Ji Wu also left. At this moment the 9th floor suddenly said, will they give up on the Tao canon? Yi Xian smiled and said, I don't know. The 9th house said, the Buddhist Dharma is very profound and you should study it. It'll be very beneficial to your cultivation. However, I don't recommend that you delve too deeply into it. It's easy to fall into a demonic trap. Yi Xian nodded. In reality his understanding of the Buddhist Dharma was only superficial. In terms of understanding of the Buddhist Dharma, he was far inferior to the abbot and the others. However, perhaps it was because of this that he was able to achieve spiritual enlightenment more easily. This was because he had never thought much about the Buddhist sect's Tao proving fruit. Many times, many things and many people were like the sand in your hand. The tighter you held it, the easier it was to lose it. Yi Xian collected his thoughts and walked out of the pawn shop. Looking at the horizon, Yi Xian took in a deep breath. With a light gesture of his finger, a ray of sword light flew up and disappeared into the horizon in the blink of an eye. Unrestrained sword heart. With that epiphany just now, his sword Tao had also improved significantly. It could be said that he could now fight against a self-release realm expert like the Pope without the help of the World Prison Pagoda or the power of his bloodline. After all, he was also a fake self-release realm expert. However, there was a problem. His current enemies were not just self-release realm experts but those above self-release realm. The godly kingdom of Shumi. He had not forgotten about this place. Mu Nianyan had suppressed the godly kingdom of Shumi and bought him half a year of time. Half a year. As if thinking of something, Yi Xian turned into a ray of sword light and disappeared. In the following period of time, the 5th dimension completely calmed down because there was no movement from the Tao world. Tao world. At this time, Jiang Yu's Tao World Alliance was growing larger and larger. There were 70 self-release realm experts. It had to be said that this lineup was very terrifying. It could be said that all the self-release realm experts of the Tao world had been gathered by him. Of course, that Tao village was excluded. Although he was becoming stronger, Jiang Yu was becoming more low-key. This was because he had suffered too many losses in the past. Although he knew that the Tao scripture was in the hands of the 5th dimension's Tendo, Jiang Yu did not go find Mu Nianyan. Since the godly kingdom of Shumi knew that the Tao scripture was in Mu Nianyan's hands but did not go steal it, this was enough to prove many things. Moreover, what made him most afraid was that the 5th dimension's Tendo had taken away the book house and the Pope right under their noses. How terrifying was this strength? Thus, he did not dare go find Mu Nianyan. Moreover, there was no need to find Mu Nianyan. The godly kingdom of Shumi had told him this information because they wanted to use him as a spear. He was not in a hurry right now. In any case, in his opinion, there were many people more anxious than him. In this game, whoever was anxious would suffer. On this day, a woman came to the immortal pavilion. This person was the Tao village's Li Qing. Inside the pavilion, Jiang Yu looked at Li Qing. Miss, is something the matter? Li Qing smiled. Pavilion Master Jiang should know that the book house is not in the hands of my Tao village. Jiang Yu nodded, yes. Li Qing looked at Jiang Yu. Then, Pavilion Master Jiang, do you know who has the book house? Jiang Yu smiled. In the hands of the fifth dimension's Tendo. Fifth dimension's Tendo. Li Qing frowned. Regarding the fifth dimension's Tendo, they had actually investigated this Tendo. In their investigation, this fifth dimension's Tendo was very low-key, without any sense of existence. As for his strength, they did not investigate too much. How strong could a Tendo be? But now it seemed that they had underestimated this fifth dimension's Tendo. Li Qing looked at Jiang Yu. Since Pavilion Master Jiang already knows that the book house is in the hands of the fifth dimension's Tendo, why haven't you made a move? Jiang Yu smiled. If the Dao village wants it, go to the fifth dimension and find her. As for me, I'm not in a hurry. Li Qing smiled. It seems that this fifth dimension's Tendo is very strong. Jiang Yu shook his head. If Miss has something to say, just say it. Li Qing nodded. Pavilion Master Jiang, my Dao village wants to ally with you. Jiang Yu was silent. Li Qing continued. The fifth dimension has already joined forces, the sixth dimension is also secretly helping Yixian, and the ancient temple is also protecting Yixian. Moreover, as far as I know, the godly kingdom of Shumi has also made a move. Pavilion Master Jiang, I think we can ally, what do you think? Jiang Yu was silent. Li Qing continued, Pavilion Master Jiang should understand that none of us can single-handedly swallow this Dao scripture. Jiang Yu looked at Li Qing, we can ally but we are only allies. The corner of Li Qing's mouth curled up, just as we thought. Pavilion Master Jiang, if my Dao village has any new news, we will send someone to inform you. If Pavilion Master Jiang has any news, please inform us as well. Jiang Yu nodded, of course. Li Qing nodded then left. Jiang Yu looked at the departing Li Qing, deep in thought. No one knew what he was thinking. Somewhere in the starry sky Yixian was flying on his sword. At this moment he was already in the Dao world. And his goal this time was the Prophet's former family, the Yi clan. He had wanted to see the Yi clan for a long time. This was the place where the Prophet had stayed. The Yi clan was located in a mountain range. Under the big sister's guidance, Yixian came to the depths of the mountain range. After passing through layers of dense forests, he saw an old city. The city was not big and it was very desolate. Ruins could be seen in the surrounding mountains. It was obvious that this place had been ravaged before. Yixian walked into the city. There were countless weeds in the city, and it was incomparably desolate. Yixian said softly, Big sister, is there no one in the Yi clan? The big sister was silent for a moment, then said, It should be. Back then, dozens of self-release realm powerhouses gathered at the Yi clan. Actually, Mr. always felt that there was a mastermind behind the scenes. Mastermind behind the scenes? Yixian frowned slightly. What do you mean? The big sister said, after Mr. obtained the Dao scripture, no one knew about it. But for some reason there were rumors that he obtained the Dao scripture. Yixian asked, did he say who it was? The big sister said, no. He was just guessing. Actually, now that I think about it, it wasn't just the Dao world powerhouses who participated in the siege of the Yi clan. There should be powerhouses from other worlds too. Yixian asked, what do you mean? The big sister said, if it was just a self-release realm powerhouse, Mr. should be able to deal with it. Yixian was silent. The big sister said again, that battle was very tragic. Yixian looked around and said softly, I can see that. After saying that, he walked into the depths of the city. Inside the city, there were dilapidated walls and weeds everywhere. It was incomparably desolate. This was once the most prosperous place in the Dao world because the Yi clan's ancestor, Yi Lanting, was the #1 powerhouse in the Dao world. At that time, the Yi clan was incomparably glorious. Unfortunately, with Yi Lanting's disappearance, the Yi clan gradually declined. It was not easy for the Yi clan to produce Yi Qingji, but he encountered an unexpected disaster. It had to be said that the Yi clan was still quite miserable. At that moment, Yixian suddenly stopped in his tracks. Not far in front of him was a dilapidated hall that was covered in weeds and exuded a pungent smell of grass. The reason Yixian stopped was that his prison pagoda was reacting. Yixian took out the prison pagoda, which vibrated gently as if it was responding to something. Yixian said, Big sister? The big sister said softly, there might be something inside. Yixian nodded and pointed with his fingers. A wisp of sword light flew out and the weeds that covered the hall disappeared in an instant. Yixian walked toward the dilapidated hall. At that moment, a voice rang out in Yixian's mind. Do you really want to go in? It was the 9th floor's voice. Yixian frowned slightly. What's wrong? The 9th floor's voice said in a deep voice, Kid, I feel that something is wrong. Yi Xian glanced at the hall and asked, "Senior, do you feel something?" The ninth floor replied, "I just feel that something is wrong." Yi Xian looked at the hall and scanned it with his spiritual consciousness. However, he did not feel anything. Yi Xian thought about it and turned to leave. Since the ninth floor had said that something was wrong, then there was definitely a problem. He did not want to court death. He would not do anything if he could. At that moment, a voice suddenly came from behind him. "Since you're here, why don't you come in and have a seat?" You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.